A colleague addresses Ryu Young-jun, asking if he truly got suspended by the company, then wonders aloud if it was because he was in a different department. Young-jun stands in the hallway, looking into an office where a small child is visible. Later, walking down a staircase, he ponders the situation, a voice on the phone asking him how long the suspension would last. He replies that it's for a month, and the voice on the other end asks if he's still not quitting. Young-jun admits he wishes he could quit right away, but his current financial situation makes it impossible. He questions who would pay off his parents' debts if he were to leave, his expression heavy with worry. The voice on the phone then addresses him again, with a somber tone, declaring that their relationship should simply end. A wave of disbelief washes over Ryu Young-jun, as the voice on the other end of the line coldly explains that everyone already knows about his situation, and the rumors are spreading. He tries to interject, asking if they truly believe he was reprimanded by the company, if they're serious about this. The response is firm, leaving no room for doubt, a painful confirmation of the breakup. A single tear escapes his eye, his mouth slightly agape in silent anguish. Turning his back, he can barely process the words, muttering his disbelief. The voice continues, reminding him of his parents' debts and the burden he carries, stating they can't handle it anymore. He stands at the top of a stairwell, the words echoing in his mind, "I can't handle it either," and the harsh reality of his reprimand. Desperate, he pleads, asking if So-yeon knows about this, if the management is aware. His girlfriend's voice cuts through the line, sharp and unforgiving, asking if he can still call her Appa when he was the one who insisted on being realistic. She continues, her words a bitter accusation, declaring that she always hated that about him, and now, she'll tell him one last time. As he stands on the cold stairwell, the finality of her decision echoes, telling him he should have listened when she advised him to give up on his dreams, before delivering the crushing blow. "I'm sorry. I'm breaking up with you. Goodbye, Young-jun." Her voice, now devoid of any warmth, delivers the ultimate command. "Don't try to contact me anymore." The phone screen confirms the call has ended, leaving him staring blankly, his world crumbling around him. His grip loosens, and the device slips from his numb fingers. Sweat beads on his forehead, his eyes wide with disbelief and pain, as the full weight of her words finally settles upon him. A choked gasp escapes him, as the world around him seems to blur into a painful, echoing void. He gasps for air, his mind fixated on Kim Hyun-taek, the director of the institute, as the weight of his recent breakup and professional failures crushes him. Slamming his hand down in frustration, he curses the scumbag responsible for his misery. Slumped against a wall, defeated, he wonders why he even bothers to feel angry. A bitter memory surfaces, recalling how he was fired for publishing his research without the director's permission. He ponders the cruel twist of fate that led him to cross paths with Kim Hyun-taek in the first place. All his hard work, his patented theories, his very art, all gone in an instant. In a fit of despair, he brings his foot down, shattering his phone beneath him. Meanwhile, Kim Hyun-taek, surrounded by shelves of research, calls out to Dr. Ryu, accusing him of unauthorized use of research materials. With a knowing smirk, he delivers a taunt, asking what Dr. Ryu thinks of the situation now. He listens intently as senior researcher Kim Hyung-suk explains the new drug, Cellcure, and its promising results, mentioning that even the director has invested heavily. Young-jun's expression remains thoughtful, absorbing the information. The senior researcher continues, asking if he truly believes the drug is ready, his tone laced with a hint of disbelief. He explains that the management has poured billions into the project, but Young-jun counters, questioning if it's truly ready for clinical trials. Senior researcher Kim Hyung-suk, a man in his 30s with a calm demeanor, acknowledges the investment but insists that the drug is indeed ready. Young-jun's brow furrows with concern, his gaze fixed on the senior researcher as he processes the implications. His hand rests on a document. The words, "Well, so far as the results are visible," suggesting a deeper understanding of the drug's current state. He recalls the potential side effects listed in the research, a stark contrast to the optimistic claims. Just then, the door slides open, and Miju Hyun steps into the lab, announcing her arrival. A flicker of surprise crosses Young-jun's face, his eye widening slightly at the unexpected arrival. Turning to face the newcomer, Miju Hyun greets them with a casual, almost challenging, "Oh, really?" Her reputation precedes her, as other researchers often praise her intelligence and skill, considering her the perfect senior researcher, a true genius who seemingly has everything. Young-jun, however, maintains his focus, stating that they simply need to achieve better results, to which Miju Hyun confidently agrees, noting their progress has been better than expected. Senior researcher Kim, holding a cup, adds his own conviction, believing he can outperform anyone else. The scene shifts dramatically to a large, modern building, its facade starkly labeled crematory. Inside its spacious, sterile lobby, two figures stand, one ascending a wide staircase while the other waits below. A close-up reveals a window adorned with delicate flowers, offering a glimpse into a pristine, clinical room beyond. A hand gently holds a photograph of a young girl, a document beneath it, as a voice echoes in his mind, assuring her that her Appa is here. His brow furrowed with a mix of determination and sorrow, he ponders, you know what? Very soon, he believes, he can avenge her. Another image of the girl, this time with a teddy bear, reinforces his resolve, as he recalls that his company acquired the necessary resources, and they will complete it. His fingers hover over a keyboard, a soft glow emanating from the screen, as he whispers, "Your Appa will." Standing amidst the complex machinery of the lab, he stares intently at a display, his focus unwavering. A sign for Dongjin and Kim Hyung-taek hangs nearby, as a voice cuts through his thoughts, asking, "Dr. Ryu, why are you so obsessed with cell cure?" At his computer, Youngjun's expression is strained as he grapples with the question, wondering if what he is doing is truly for Essie, yet knowing he cannot give up now. Director Kim Hyun-taek pauses, a thoughtful expression on his face, before asking what the project might truly be worth. He sits across from Youngjun, the silence between them thick with unspoken concerns. Youngjun knows cell cure boasts cheaper production, superior medicinal properties, no side effects, and a shorter treatment period. Yet, a chilling thought lingers in his mind. Could it be worse? He takes a moment, holding a warm mug, as the reality of the drug's 2-year cure time settles in. Meanwhile, Director Kim, on a call, questions if anyone truly knows what happened to SE, recalling reports that she was among the first cured. A tear in her beautiful eyes, a fragile yet valiant smile, flashes through Youngjun's memory, bringing a wave of profound sadness. She was more beautiful than anyone he had ever seen, her smile utterly overwhelming. He questions who was truly behind it all from the beginning, believing that finding those people would lead him to the truth, but then resolves to stop looking, perhaps to focus on the present task. He continues, his voice low, questioning the very foundation of their work. So, of course, there's no way that the people who received the cell cure treatment would have any side effects, right? Kim Hyun-taek responds, his expression calm, assuring him that there have been 0 reports of side effects, emphasizing the project's success and the company's commitment to public health. Youngjun looks down, his thoughts turning to the financial aspect, considering how much money the company must be saving by producing such a cheap and effective cure. Kim Hyun-taek's voice cuts through his thoughts, a knowing tone in his words. You understand what I mean? He continues, his words carefully chosen. This is not a university, it's a profit-seeking company. Youngjun's eye widens slightly, a flicker of realization crossing his face as he processes the implication, the stark truth of the company's priorities. Kim Hyun-taek's face remains impassive, but his words echo in Youngjun's mind, a chilling reminder that this man is not merely a scientist. His thoughts drift to the past, recalling the faces of his colleagues, the unspoken knowledge that everyone in the research department knew something was amiss, yet no one dared to raise the issue. A cold dread settles over Youngjun as he realizes the full extent of the complicity, the unsettling truth that they were all complicit, all part of the same silent agreement. Youngjun Ryu stands before Kim Hyun-taek, a sharp, "What?" escaping him as he processes the implications of their conversation. His mind reels with disgust and anger, consumed by the thought of filthy profit and contempt. The realization hits him like a physical blow, making him feel as though he could throw up. Kim Hyun-taek's voice cuts through his thoughts, calling out to him. Youngjun clenches his fist, the faces of the seniors he once respected, trusted, and followed flashing before his eyes. A deafening internal crash echoes through him. His fist tightens further, a silent, guttural cry of anguish. He closes his eyes, a pained gasp escaping his lips. As Kim Hyun-taek walks away, the full weight of Cellcure's true nature, that of a profit-seeking pharmaceutical company, settles upon Youngjun. Youngjun confronts the director, his voice laced with accusation, declaring him nothing more than a piece of trash. Unfazed, Kim Hyun-taek dismisses him with a condescending wave, telling him not to go around claiming to be a scientist. The sheer audacity of the remark ignites a furious spark within Youngjun, who can barely contain his outrage at the man's words. Turning his back on the seething young man, Kim Hyun-taek simply walks away, leaving the conversation unfinished. Youngjun watches him go, his expression a mixture of disbelief and simmering rage. The sound of the director's retreating footsteps echoes in the silence, emphasizing the finality of his departure. Left alone, Youngjun's face contorts with a profound sense of disgust and betrayal. His hand clenches into a tight fist, the tension in his body palpable as he grapples with the harsh reality. Unable to remain in the oppressive atmosphere, he turns and walks out of the room, leaving the unsettling encounter behind. The amber liquid sloshes within the bottle, a silent testament to the hours that have blurred into days. Youngjun sits hunched, his grip firm on the neck of another bottle, the weight of his despair pressing down on him. He gulps down the contents, the burning sensation of familiar comfort, his face contorted in a grimace. A single tear escapes his eye, tracing a path through the stubble on his cheek, a silent acknowledgement of his profound sorrow. He lets out a heavy sigh, the sound thick with resignation, his gaze distant and unfocused. Outside, the city lights twinkle against the night sky, oblivious to the passage of time, but for him, a month passed by far too quickly. The streets below remain busy, a stark contrast to his stagnant existence, and he can only wonder how he spent all of that time. Eventually, the alcohol takes its toll, and Youngjun collapses onto the table, surrounded by empty bottles and half-eaten food, remembering nothing but the act of drinking. He walks through the bustling city streets, his mind consumed by the thought of his job, determined that he will not be fired from his company, even if it means becoming a nuisance. The weight of his situation pressing down on him, his brow furrows with deep concern. A sudden, sharp realization cuts through his thoughts. He looks up at a towering building, contemplating the idea of being labeled a heretic if he were to be fired, and resolves that he cannot simply sit by and do nothing. Inside an elevator, he stands lost in his own world, barely registering the presence of an elderly woman who glances his way. A faint, almost cynical smirk touches his lips as he acknowledges that while life may be difficult, it is not so bad as to warrant giving up entirely. Walking once more through the city, he considers the most crucial aspect. The lives of his parents and younger siblings would also be irrevocably damaged by his failure. His expression hardens with resolve, as he vows never to become a disgrace to his family. As the sun sets over the urban landscape, he knows he cannot afford to take things lightly. His resolve hardened. He knew he had to keep fighting. Standing before a monitor, Ryu Youngjun began his day, greeting the empty lab with a quiet, "Here." He then introduced himself, declaring, "Hello, I'm Ryu Youngjun, a researcher at the Anti-Cancer Drug Development Department." Focused on his work, he immersed himself in the complex data displayed on his screen. A moment of quiet contemplation passed as he processed the information. His department, the Life Creation Department, specialized in using fatty acids, nucleotides, and various electrolyte-like chemicals. Later, carrying a paper bag, he walked past the lockers, concluding his day. The department's stated goal was the artificial synthesis of living cells from adequate stimulation, pursuing innovation to ultimately create life. However, Youngjun knew that was merely the superficial goal of the Life Creation Department, as he pondered its true purpose. This was the lab, but the real focus of this department was to isolate the electrolytes, just like him. He looked around, surprised that it was far better organized than he had initially thought. His gaze falling upon the intricate equipment. A screen displayed a critical message, "System pending here," with a warning that equipment for injecting animal DNA and RNA was malfunctioning. A sudden realization struck him as he walked through the lab, his expression hardening with determination. The heat block, a crucial device for regulating substances at specific temperatures, begins to malfunction, its internal red liquid bubbling violently. A closer look reveals the device's internal mechanism, confirming the severe overheating as the substance within churns with increasing intensity. Observing the escalating crisis, Youngjun's mind races, grappling with the sudden malfunction and the alarming sight of the bubbling liquid. The crimson liquid continues its violent agitation, threatening to spill over at any moment. With no time to waste on speculation, he decides to tackle the immediate danger, reaching out to contain the overflow. The bubbling substance finally breaches its container, cascading over the edges of the heat block. As the liquid pours downwards, his gaze sharpens with unwavering resolve. Acting swiftly, he carefully redirects the overflowing red liquid, pouring it into a large, empty bowl to prevent further contamination. Having contained the immediate threat, he surveys the bowl of liquid, the crisis temporarily averted. Still processing the recent lab incident, Youngjun's gaze falls upon something even more perplexing, wondering aloud how these strange entities could be growing within the facility. His attention is drawn to a petri dish, where an unusual purple liquid swirls with red particles. A look of profound surprise crosses his face. He considers this new, unsettling information. With a determined expression, he decides to investigate further, questioning if he should take a closer look. He moves to a microscope, carefully adjusting the focus with a soft click. Under the lens, a chaotic mix of purple and red cells comes into view. A sudden realization hits him as he observes their rapid deterioration, the cells dying before his very eyes. Still grappling with the mysterious Rosalind cells, Youngjun attempts a bottom dilution, then quickly decides to add a nutrient solution, hoping to stabilize them. The clear liquid, containing a faint glowing orb, sits ready for the delicate procedure. As a pipette carefully dispenses the life-giving fluid into the sample, a moment of quiet anticipation hangs in the air. Observing through the microscope, he watches as the cells, once fading, begin to stabilize and even multiply, a wave of relief washing over him as he confirms they are indeed responding. But the triumph is short-lived. A harsh, crackling sound accompanies their sudden, violent deterioration, until they completely disintegrate, leaving nothing but dust. His efforts have failed, or perhaps were never truly successful. A heavy sigh escapes him, his face etched with fear and exhaustion, the weight of the experiment's failure pressing down. Later, seated at his desk, he reflects on the shared struggle of creation, realizing that perhaps everyone involved in this research faces similar insurmountable challenges. As a glowing orb in his hand crumbles to dust, he questions the very possibility of creating life, wondering if such a feat is truly within their grasp. After the crushing failure of his experiment, Youngjun finds himself in a locker room, encountering another man. His expression is clouded with a mix of lingering doubt and a fresh wave of surprise, as if something unexpected has just caught his attention. A strange white foam suddenly appears on his hand, causing him to question its origin. He stares at the peculiar substance, uttering a confused, "What is this foam?" A soft creak accompanies his downward gaze, his attention fully consumed by the unexpected phenomenon. The other man, noticing the commotion, also looks down, surprised to find Youngjun already present. Still preoccupied, Youngjun barely registers the other man's polite greeting, his focus remaining on the mysterious foam. A senior researcher, Park Donghyun, introduces himself to Ryu Youngjun, who returns the greeting, formally stating his own name. Their hands meet in a firm, professional grasp, as Donghyun extends a warm welcome to the company. He then casually mentions the presence of A-rank hunters, wondering if Ryu is one of them. Ryu confirms his identity as the renowned Dr. Ryu, Director Kim's celebrity, prompting Donghyun to express his gratitude for Ryu's decision to join them. Ryu simply acknowledges the underlying financial motivations behind his move. Senior researcher Kim Hyung-suk smiles, a hint of amusement in his voice as he acknowledges a point. Meanwhile, Ryu Youngjun's expression tightens, his thoughts consumed by the sample they had been discussing. Kim Hyung-suk gestures towards some equipment, explaining that he had removed it and applied a tenfold fix. He then turns to Ryu Youngjun, a playful accusation in his tone, remarking on his desperation, before proudly announcing the successful hiring of an A-ranked hunter for their department. But the news doesn't seem to lift Ryu Youngjun's spirits, as he quietly laments that the cells eventually died anyway. Kim Hyung-suk shrugs, unfazed, acknowledging the failure but dismissing it as inevitable, given the sample's initial state. Ryu Youngjun looks away, a hint of resignation in his voice as he admits he hadn't expected much from the bad guy from the beginning. Kim Hyung-suk, holding a cup, simply repeats his question, then reassures him that it will be fine, emphasizing the importance of the year-end bonus. Ryu Youngjun's gaze drifts, his mind now turning to the upcoming seminar. A sharp, throbbing pain suddenly pierces through him, causing his eye to twitch in discomfort. Nearby, Kim Hyung-suk notices the sudden change in his colleague, a worried expression crossing his face. He calls out, his voice laced with alarm, wondering what could possibly be wrong. As the internal pressure intensifies, a faint red glow begins to emanate from Ryu Youngjun, while Kim Hyung-suk's concerned question hangs in the air. The crimson energy flares more intensely, pulsing with an unseen force. Overwhelmed by the sensation, he loses his grip, and a dark liquid splashes across the floor. A can tumbles, its contents spilling freely, creating a growing puddle. The dark liquid continues to spread, splattering further with each drop. A vibrant, chaotic energy still pulses in the air, a residual echo of the sudden, painful discharge. As the last of the strange aura dissipates, Kim Hyung-suk desperately tries to rouse Ryu Youngjun, who lies unconscious, his face contorted in pain. His voice filled with growing panic, Hyung-suk continues to call out to him, the words Dr. Ryu, echoing with urgency as emergency services are alerted. Still, there is no response from the young man, his features etched with lingering distress. Time seems to blur as the scene shifts, the clear blue sky and scattered clouds offering a stark contrast to the earlier chaos. Soon, a large, modern building comes into view, its imposing structure suggesting a place of healing or advanced research. The facility stands tall against the urban landscape, its many windows reflecting the daylight as the emergency unfolds within its walls. Inside, the sterile environment of the emergency entrance is visible, with the red and white markings of an ambulance just beyond the glass doors. Youngjun stirs awake in a hospital bed, his vision blurry, as Kim Hyung-suk leans over him, asking if he's conscious. His eyes slowly focus, a faint sound echoing in his ears as he wonders where he is. Hyung-suk, his expression etched with concern, inquires about any chronic illnesses, to which Youngjun vaguely recalls a hereditary eye condition. The senior researcher explains that such conditions can sometimes be triggered by external stimuli, suggesting a thorough examination would be best. Youngjun's gaze drifts, his thoughts lost in the suddenness of his situation. Hyung-suk tries to get his attention again, asking if he can hear him. Youngjun confirms he can hear, but his eyes begin to glow with an intricate, almost mechanical blue light, the patterns shifting within his irises. He sees a translucent blue screen floating before him, a bizarre sight that leaves him utterly bewildered. The screen displays a stark message, confirming his own dawning realization. Something is profoundly wrong with his eyes. The mysterious translucent screen continues to display its cryptic messages, now proclaiming that the creation of life is God's domain. As Youngjun stares, bewildered, Hyung-suk leans in, his voice filled with concern, asking what he sees. Struggling to articulate the impossible vision, he can only manage a hesitant, some kind. The screen, however, continues its relentless display, revealing a new message. You created cells and became the first player in human history. Growing more agitated, Hyung-suk presses him again. What does it say? But Youngjun can only respond with profound confusion. Well, I don't know what it's about. Trying a different approach, the senior researcher asks if he hears anything, hoping for another sensory clue. A soft, electronic BBI sound emanates from within, a subtle indication of the system's continued activity. This is followed by a deeper, rumbling kururung as Youngjun's expression shifts to one of growing distress. As Hyung-suk watches him with concern, the screen delivers its final, astonishing revelation. artificial cells have restored your body. He strains, a bead of sweat tracing his temple, as a faint, unsettling sound begins to register in his mind. His colleague, Hyung-suk, leans in, trying to understand his bewildered expression, while a strange, distant alarm-like sound echoes only within Young-jun's perception. Hyung-suk scribbles notes on his clipboard, repeating the phrase. Then asks if there's anything else, as Young-jun struggles to articulate the increasingly bizarre visual phenomena he's experiencing. His hand rises, a single finger pointing, as faint hexagonal patterns begin to shimmer around it, then solidify with a soft, distinct click. The hexagonal patterns intensify, now glowing brightly within his eyes, a low hum resonating from his very being. A surge of crimson energy erupts from his hand, manifesting as a powerful, expanding burst of light and geometric force. Still processing the strange event, Young-jun mutters that whatever he saw, it's gone. His colleague, concerned by his behavior, suggests he consult a neurologist, emphasizing the need for a checkup, even offering to make the reservation for him, to which Young-jun readily agrees. Soon after, he finds himself walking through the entrance of a medical facility. Inside, he stares at his hands, a look of utter disbelief spreading across his face. He holds them up, examining them closely, realizing the impossible. His vision, once blurry, is now perfectly clear. His eyes widen, pupils dilated in shock, as he confirms he can see everything with startling clarity. Not only that, but the persistent back pain he'd grown accustomed to has vanished, as if it was simply washed away. And even the throbbing ache in his upper abdomen has completely disappeared. He stands, a profound sense of lightness permeating his entire being, as he realizes his neck, his back, and even his stomach all feel completely healed. A wave of disbelief washes over him, his expression a mixture of shock and wonder. Looking out at the sprawling city lights, he can only question how this impossible change could have occurred. A quiet room, illuminated by a soft ceiling light, gives way to a tidy kitchen space, before settling on a desk cluttered with medical supplies. Young-jun's hand carefully holds a syringe, observing the data that artificial cells have begun to break down their cell membrane, with 20 milligrams of prednisolone already processed. His gaze sharpens, taking in the further detail that 400 milligrams of pentoxifylline have also been broken down. A sudden, dawning horror fills his expression, as a single, chilling thought echoes in his mind. He recoils, the implications of the data hitting him with full force. The hallucinations he experienced yesterday, could they be connected? The realization strikes him like a physical blow, a sharp, undeniable truth. A sudden, glowing message materializes before him, prompting a flicker of confusion in his eyes. As if compelled, he reaches out a hand, his fingers brushing against the ethereal blue interface. A question forms in his mind. Should he interact with this impossible display? The screen reveals a startling title, My Own Genius DNA. Detailed information floods the display, showing artificial cell LV1 and a list of body parts undergoing transition status, along with synchronization and gene expression control percentages. His expression shifts to one of profound shock, the words artificial cell transition echoing in his mind. A new wave of concern washes over him as he ponders, what exactly does synchronization truly mean? Later, sitting with a tablet, he tries to rationalize the impossible, thinking, this must be something out of a fantasy novel, or perhaps he's caught in some elaborate hidden camera prank. Yet, a chilling certainty settles in his gaze. It all feels far too real for such explanations. A digital message flashes before him, yet Young-jun can't discern if it's a hidden camera trick or a vivid hallucination, but the sheer curiosity of it all compels him to stay. As he watches, another message appears, announcing the synchronization of artificial cells with his body and advising him to improve this transition to increase their level. The system clarifies, explaining that increasing the level of these artificial cells will enhance his abilities and accelerate his recovery rate. A scoff escapes him, the word nonsense barely audible as he struggles to comprehend the impossible information. Staring up at the glowing interface, he questions his very being, wondering what kind of transformation is truly occurring within him. The system responds, revealing that these status windows and messages are generated by the artificial cells themselves, located within his cerebral cortex. It further explains that the interface's design was specifically crafted to be familiar to him, having analyzed his hippocampus. Then, a cryptic reminder appears, referencing the moment he once created life, a glowing orb materializing as the words hang in the air. Later, dressed in more casual attire, Young-jun remains lost in thought, the implications of these revelations weighing heavily on his mind. As the thought lingered, he found himself holding a petri dish, a profound question escaping his lips. Well, can we really create life? The weight of the question, the memory it invoked, caused a sudden, sharp pain to course through him, his hand clenching involuntarily. A cry of anguish tearing from his throat as tears welled in his eyes, his face contorted in distress. He pressed a hand to his mouth, trying to stifle the sound, but a trickle of blood escaped, staining his fingers. The crimson drops fell onto the dark surface below, a stark contrast against the void. Unbeknownst to him, a few drops landed directly into the petri dish he still held, mixing with the red substance within. Almost immediately, the substance began to glow with an ethereal light, a vibrant, pulsing red. The light intensified, swirling and coalescing into a dynamic vortex of energy, its power visibly growing. From the heart of the swirling light, a small, distinct form began to emerge, pulsing gently like a nascent heart. The red substance in the petri dish churns violently, a vortex of glowing energy and white particles. As if drawn by an unseen force, the glowing mass pulses. As the light intensifies, with a final, powerful throb, a choked cry escapes him. Suddenly, his hand, still trembling from the vivid memory. Pure terror contorts his features. Youngjun stares at his arm, a chilling realization dawning on him. The mysterious substance, the artificial cells, had vaporized back into his bloodstream. A disembodied voice confirms his fears, stating that the artificial cells are now within him, immediately demanding that their creator name them, a request he internally rejects with a bewildered, "Why would I do that?" His eyes widen in disbelief, as he questions the absurdity of the situation. "You want me to give you a name?" Before his thoughts spiral into a frustrated, "What the hell is happening? Fuck." Still grappling with the bizarre request, he mutters the question again, laced with exasperation. A high-pitched screech echoes in his mind, his face contorting in a mixture of fear and intense stress. He clenches his jaw, the situation feeling like a cruel joke. The internal pressure mounts, as he cries out in desperation, "Damn it! Artificial cells, creator, what do I even do?" Despite his turmoil, the insistent voice returns, repeating its demand for a name. Finally, with a look of weary resignation, he relents, uttering a single word, "Rosalind." The internal voice of the artificial cells confirms, "That's the name written in the artificial cell's inner core." They reiterate, "You gave the artificial cell the name Rosalind." And with that, a new reality settles in. From now on, Rosalind will be permanently attributed to you. The cells continue, explaining a fundamental law of their existence. Also, life creation is an event that can only be carried out once. So keep in mind that even if you try to recreate Rosalind, a new form of life will not be created. The weight of this information settles over Youngjun, who sits alone, grappling with the impossible reality. A wave of dizziness washes over him, as he clutches his head, convinced he's losing his mind. Taking a deep breath, he forces himself to calm down, eyes closed in a desperate attempt to regain control. Opening his eyes with renewed determination, he reminds himself, a scientific explanation follows every strange phenomenon. He considers the synchronization rate, dismissing it as something that probably won't be a major issue, but then decides to table the thought for later. For now, he resolves to put all these unsettling thoughts aside. Yet, the system data flashes before his eyes, reminding him that all the medical issues he was discharged for just yesterday, cell regeneration, gene expression control, and growth regulation, are now tied to Rosalind, which is currently at 46% synchronization. His mind races as he processes the fact that 46% of his liver is now synchronized. He recalls his liver was perfectly healthy before this inheritance, concluding that this phenomenon must be directly linked to Rosalind. The system reiterates the synchronized organs, specifically his liver, confirming the 46% synchronization rate and its associated effects, cell regeneration, gene expression control, and growth regulation. He continues to observe the detailed readouts, absorbing the impossible data. Suddenly, two new system windows appear, announcing the activation of cardiomyocyte regeneration and the complete recovery of aging vision, revealing even more profound effects. Reaching out towards the holographic display, he can only utter a single word in sheer amazement. Come to think of it, he realizes he can see perfectly fine now, even without his contact lenses. A system window flashes, displaying Cell Fitness 1.5 Max, prompting him to wonder, what's Cell Fitness? If this is his real eyesight, then it must mean something significant about Rosalind's effects. The implications dawn on him, leaving him utterly astonished. Arriving at a sleek, modern building, he offers a polite greeting as he steps through the entrance. His gaze falls upon the sign for the Department of AI Health Medicine, a place he acknowledges he's never visited before. A voice, or perhaps a clear directive, guides him to the application form. He considers his decision, convinced that seeing a doctor was the right choice. A flicker of concern crosses his features as he wonders if he will truly find what he seeks. He continues to ponder, questioning if this place holds the answers he desperately needs. Later, seated at a reception desk, he begins to fill out paperwork, a masked receptionist across from him. Observing the receptionist, he quietly concludes that she must have caught a cold. Youngjun's hands are visible, holding the application form, as a thought crosses his mind. About the masked receptionist, and he glances at the figure behind the counter, a slight gulp escaping him. Suddenly, a system interface flashes into view, announcing, synchronization mode provides insight into molecular biology. His eyes widen, a cold sweat beading on his forehead as he wonders. What is it this time? The system continues, are you saying I can analyze the... It then reiterates, synchronization mode, glowing with a soft hum. Youngjun stares intently, the word synchronization echoing in his mind. With a decisive tap of his finger, he resolves to find out, thinking, let's just see what it does. As the synchronization mode activates, a surge of brilliant blue and purple energy erupts around him. Tendrils of light reaching out as a system notification confirms the process is complete. A sharp jolt of discomfort makes him gasp, his brow furrowing in surprise. He clutches his head, a soft groan escaping his lips as the strange sensation persists. Looking up, he admits to himself that the sudden activation had startled him, and the lingering feeling is undeniably strange. The system then presents him with a new insight, labeled Cold Medicine Insight, explaining that in synchronization mode, cellular data is consumed at a higher rate. A holographic display materializes, showing the intricate microworld in angstroms, filled with cells and proteins, allowing him to perceive these minute details. The mode grants an intuitive understanding of any biological or chemical phenomenon involved. Focusing on a green pill, the system identifies it as common cold medicine, specifically an antipyretic analgesic like ibuprofen. The system's analysis confirms the fever will soon subside, with white blood cells actively tracking the cold virus. It further details how the antipyretic function is decreasing the body temperature, while also noting the immune system's function has decreased by 25%. Observing the young patient, Ryu Youngjun processes the information as the system continues its deep dive into the medicine's components. It highlights dihydrocodeine phosphate, an ingredient known to lead to bronchial expansion. And Youngjun watches, surrounded by glowing blue particles, as the system confirms its effectiveness in suppressing coughs. But a sudden, alarming realization dawns on him, as the system reveals something unexpected. The dihydrocodeine is changing, transforming into another component entirely. A look of utter disbelief crosses his face as the name of the new substance appears, morphine. He questions the implications, wondering if it's truly a type of drug. As his hand meticulously filled out a form, the system's previous revelation still echoed in his mind. A notification then appeared, stating that he had consumed half of his fitness, a consequence of the intense synchronization mode. Immediately after, the system confirmed it was exiting synchronization mode. Still reeling from the revelation that the cold medicine contained morphine, Youngjun muttered, "If that's true then." His thoughts raced, concluding that no one should be taking such a medicine. Just then, Rosalind, wearing a mask, interrupted his contemplation, asking, "Are you done?" He quickly replied, "Oh, sorry, I'm still busy." He realized he had been so distracted by Rosalind that he had forgotten to fill in the application form. Shaking his head, he refocused, knowing he needed to verify if the morphine conversion was actually true. His gaze sharpened with renewed determination, the implications of his discovery weighing heavily on him. He continues his research, the screen of his phone illuminating a critical safety warning about dihydrocodeine, a compound once prescribed for children but now removed from the market. The article details how this medicine became a hot topic, leading to government intervention. A gasp escapes him as the full weight of the information settles, a quiet, horrified realization of, "Oh my God." He scrolls further, finding that in Europe, the use of codeine drugs is strictly restricted for children. Slumping back, the young man stares at the screen, the chilling truth confirmed. It was all true. His gaze sharpens, a profound realization dawning on him. He had figured it out just by looking at the cold medicine. A determined expression settles on his face, his mind racing with the implications. He hadn't just identified the ingredients of the medicine, but also understood what the body does with them internally. The gravity of his discovery weighs heavily on him, and a single name escapes his lips, Rosalind. He stares, his eye wide with a mix of shock and dawning realization. This isn't some trick of the mind. No hallucination or psychosis. He can't believe he's gained this magical power overnight. He stands over a younger man, who sits casually on a couch. A thoughtful hum escapes him, and he decides to try it out one more time. A sharp electronic chime signals the activation of sync mode, asking if he wants to use synchronization on Cho Hyunbiom, with a fitness consumption of 0.2 per second. The word schizophrenia flashes in his mind, accompanied by another chime. He recalls the disease commonly known as schizophrenia. He knows people suffering from it can experience severe hallucinations and delusions, sometimes acting irrationally or violently without realizing it. This is the second time he's seen this particular mode. He presses the button, activating the sync mode, a silent question echoing in his mind. Everything should be going right, shouldn't it? A surge of brilliant blue energy erupts from the device, intensifying rapidly, and swirling into a dark, ethereal vortex. From within the swirling darkness, a grotesque, distorted face manifests, its voice a chilling whisper, speaking of Elvis eventually hitting Sammy, all because of his actions. The voice continues, fragmented and unsettling, counting numbers, 23, 7, 6, 40, then a frantic denial. "No, not behind you." Youngjun's eyes widen in terror, a realization dawning on him as he stammers, "There's a killer." The distorted visage returns, its voice now a guttural murmur, repeating disturbing words. Asterisk, it's dirty. Cat. Boom. Corn. Back. Shoe sole. Dirty. Asterisk. The unsettling litany echoes again, a chilling repetition of filth and decay. Still trapped within the terrifying mental landscape, he hears a distorted voice demand to know how it was found, how it was accessed, and how it got inside his head. The voice presses on, A chilling well, echoing through the fractured space as the sound of grinding metal scrapes at his sanity. His internal world shatters further, a piercing, high-pitched whine overwhelming his senses as blood-red particles explode around him. Amidst the chaos, a stark warning flashes, danger detected. The system itself recognizes the peril of this mental intrusion. Suddenly, the mental assault ceases, and he gasps, hunched over a table as the words, exiting synchronization mode, appear, his body trembling from the ordeal. Slumped in his chair, he struggles to regain his composure, the lingering echoes of the experience still rattling his mind. Sweat still beads on his forehead as he whispers, "That was crazy," the sheer intensity of the sync mode leaving him utterly stunned. Rosalind, standing nearby, explains that while the experience varies for everyone, it can eventually lead to a schizophrenic state if one isn't careful. She then admits, "I just took a quick look and I feel like I'm losing my mind, too." A system message flashes, warning him that as a beginner in healing synchronization mode for Rosalind, his safety comes first. His breath hitches as another alert appears, stating that his first experience was dangerously intense, with his heart rate sharply increasing and urging him to exit synchronization mode. The system further warns that Rosalind herself may be forced to exit him from synchronization mode, considering his health. He processes the information, a single thought echoing in his mind. Forced exit? Another system prompt appears, asking if she truly possesses such authority, while also offering the option to resume synchronization mode. His heart pounds against his ribs, a mix of fear and resolve in his eyes. His hand reaches out, pressing firmly against the glowing interface. He stares down, his resolve hardening, knowing he cannot stop here. A pained gasp escapes him as the digital distortions intensify around his face, pushing through the agony. As he pushes deeper into sync mode, a cacophony of distorted, screaming faces erupts around him, a visual manifestation of the immense internal pressure. The torment intensifies, each spectral visage contorting in silent agony. Yet, a resolute thought cuts through the chaos. He must go deeper still. A surge of energy pulses, the system responding to his unwavering will. But the strain begins to manifest physically, a glowing representation of his brain appearing amidst the shimmering particles. The visual intensifies, exclamation marks highlighting the critical state of the organ. Youngjun's face contorts in distress, a dawning realization of the severe toll this is taking. The system's cold analysis confirms his fears. An accident has temporarily paralyzed part of his brain. This critical condition is attributed to an excessive secretion of dopamine, directly affecting his right temporal lobe. A strange phenomenon grips the city, a widespread disturbance that feels like a massive power surge. A system-wide event that suggests he can no longer properly control his own body. Inside, Ryu Youngjun's face contorts in agony, his eyes squeezed shut against an overwhelming internal pressure. His hand clenches into a desperate fist, every muscle straining against the invisible torment. A pained groan escapes him, his teeth gritted as the suffering intensifies. Nearby, Rosalind watches, her masked face etched with alarm, a cry of concern escaping her lips. Youngjun's eyes snap open, wide with terror and pain, his hands reaching out as if grasping for salvation. His entire body is racked with tremors, his shirt stained from the overwhelming ordeal. His eye twitches, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple as the overwhelming sensation continues to rack his body, leaving him only with a single, desperate thought. What is happening? The disturbance intensifies, a jarring visual tremor reflecting the chaos within him. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a brightly lit medical facility, where a receptionist greets a new arrival. "Hello, this is the Department of Allergy Medicine." She asks, "Is this your first time here?" A voice replies, "Yes, it's my first time here." The receptionist then instructs, "Then please fill out the medical questionnaire." Having arrived at the medical facility, he follows the directions to the Department of Mental Health Medicine. Stepping inside, he reflects on his decision to seek professional help. A flicker of hope crosses his face as he wonders if he will finally find the answers he desperately needs. As he approaches a desk, he notices a familiar figure, Rosalind, working diligently despite wearing a mask. Taking a seat nearby, he observes her quiet dedication. His gaze falls upon a cup on her desk, and he deduces she must have caught a cold. Holding his phone, he considers how difficult it must be for her to work while feeling unwell. As he watches her, a thought crosses his mind. His own unique synchronization mode could potentially offer deep insights into molecular biology. A familiar, yet unsettling, surge of energy washes over him, prompting him to wonder what new development his system is presenting. The thought forms in his mind, a realization that this could be a new analytical capability. An ethereal interface materializes before him, displaying the words synchronization mode. The energy intensifies around him, a prelude to the system's full activation. With a decisive gesture, he presses the glowing button, eager to understand its function. A brilliant white light erupts, swirling with countless particles. His eyes glow with an electric blue as the synchronization mode fully activates, enveloping him in a powerful aura. A sharp, involuntary cry escapes him as the intense process takes its toll. A soft exhalation escapes him as the synchronization mode fully takes hold, leaving him momentarily startled and wondering. This feels a little strange. His mind immediately processes a new insight into cold medicine, understanding that in this enhanced state, cellular loss occurs at a higher rate of consumption. With his eyes glowing an intense electric blue, he can now perceive the micro-world in angstroms, daltons, and picoseconds, a holographic display of molecular structures materializing before him. The synchronization mode allows any phenomenon to be intuitively understood, granting him unparalleled analytical power. He focuses on a common cold medicine, identifying it as an antipyretic analgesic due to its ibuprofen content, its chemical composition laid bare. The system confirms that the fever will soon subside, as white blood cells are actively tracking the cold virus. The antipyretic works its magic, causing the body temperature to decrease, its effects visualized as intricate snowflake-like patterns. He observes the thermometer, noting a 1-degree drop, but also a significant detail. The function of immune cells has decreased by 25%. As the synchronization mode deepened his perception, the intricate chemical structure of the cold medicine unfolded before him, revealing the ingredient responsible for bronchial expansion, dihydrocodeine phosphate. This compound, he observed, was highly effective in suppressing coughs. But then, a startling realization hit him, a sudden, unsettling discovery. The dihydrocodeine was not merely acting as a cough suppressant. It was actively transforming into another component within his system. His eyes widened in disbelief as the name flashed in his mind, morphine. He questioned the implications of this discovery, wondering if it was truly a type of drug he should be consuming. Carefully, he began to jot down his findings, documenting the unexpected chemical transformation. As he wrote, a system notification appeared, a stark reminder of the cost of his enhanced perception. He had consumed half of his fitness. The warning was clear, and with a decisive thought, he initiated the command to exit synchronization mode. Morphine, he murmurs, the word heavy on his tongue. If that's true then, he thinks, I don't think anyone should be taking that medicine. A voice cuts through his thoughts. Are you done? He turns to see Rosalind, who adds, oh, sorry, I'm still busy. He sighs, realizing, I forgot to fill in the application form because I got distracted with Rosalind. Shaking his head, he decides, anyway, I need to check if it's actually true. His eye widens in dawning horror. He quickly pulls out his phone, searching for dihydrocodeine online. And an article immediately pops up, detailing the compound's controversial nature and its conversion into a potent substance. Reading further, his face pales as he whispers, oh my God. He continues his research, confirming that in Europe, the use of codeine drugs is indeed restricted for children. The information he found was undeniably true. His heart pounds as he realizes he can discern the medicine's properties just by looking at it. The implications of this ability weighing heavily on him. He had not only identified the components of the medicine but also understood its exact effects inside the body, gripping his phone tightly in disbelief. A name surfaces in his mind, a face he now associates with the dangerous drug, Rosalind. This wasn't some delusion or mental break. He struggles to comprehend how he acquired such a magical power overnight. As he sits, lost in thought, Rosalind approaches, her presence a stark reminder of his recent discovery. A bead of sweat trickles down Youngjun's temple as he ponders his next move. He decides to try again, muttering to himself, one more time. Let's test it out. A system window materializes before him, displaying a prompt for synchronization mode, asking if he wishes to use it on Cho Hyunbyong, with a fitness consumption rate of 0.2 per second. His expression tightens as a single word echoes in his mind, schizophrenia. He sits, tablet in hand, contemplating the disease commonly known as schizophrenia, its implications weighing heavily on him. The system reminds him that those affected can act irrationally and unpredictably, believing things that aren't real. He then realizes this is the second time he's encountered Cho Hyunbyong, and the synchronization mode prompt remains. His hand hovers over the sync mode button, a silent question hanging in the air. Will everything be all right? Despite his apprehension, he presses the button, and a cascade of brilliant blue particles erupts around him. The glowing particles intensify, forming vertical streams of light that stretch into the distance. As the synchronization mode activates, a chaotic mental landscape engulfs him, filled with fragmented thoughts about an Elvis and a Sammy that are destined to collide. A monstrous visage forms in the darkness, its voice echoing the accusation, because you acted. More numbers and disjointed phrases fill the void, a frantic internal monologue about positions and warnings. Oh, 23, 7, 6, 46, back. No, not behind you. Youngjun's eyes widen in stark realization, a cold sweat beating on his forehead as he comprehends the truth. Yes, there's a killer. The monstrous entity reappears, its fragmented thoughts now fixated on a disturbing sense of impurity. It's dirty. Cat. Book. Shoe soles. Dirty. The unsettling litany repeats, a broken record of contamination. Dirty. Cat saliva. Book. Shoe soles. Dirty. Suddenly, a single, bloodshot eye fills his vision, reflecting his own terrified face, as the entity's voice cuts through the chaos, directly addressing him. How did you find it? You're looking into my head. How did you get in here? The eye transforms into a swirling red vortex, the entity's demand hanging heavy in the oppressive darkness. Well. A sharp gasp escapes him, the mental assault overwhelming his senses. A sharp, internal alarm blares as the synchronization abruptly severs, a crimson splatter of mental residue marking the violent exit. He gasps, the system confirming his departure from the mental landscape, his body lurching as he struggles to regain his bearings. Disoriented, he finds himself slumped on the floor, the lingering echoes of the hostile mind still rattling his own. A bead of sweat trickles down his temple as he processes the ordeal, muttering that the experience was utterly insane, a stark reminder that while the mode affects everyone differently, for some, it can lead to conditions like schizophrenia. He stares at his hands, a profound sense of unease washing over him, confessing that even a brief glimpse into that mind makes him feel as though he's losing his own. A holographic interface flickers before him, its cool blue light reflecting in his eyes, as a system message warns him that as a beginner in healing synchronization, his safety is paramount, and his first experience was exceptionally dangerous, with significant aftermath. The system further implies that Rosalind might even be forced to terminate the synchronization for his own well-being. He stares, his eye wide with a mix of confusion and disbelief, wondering if such a thing as a forced exit from synchronization mode was even possible. The system confirms his fears, displaying a stark message that to resume, he simply needs to press the synchronization mode button again. Despite the warnings, his hand reaches out, drawn by an irresistible urge towards the glowing interface. As he re-engages, the familiar, terrifying faces of the entities he encountered begin to manifest around him, their forms twisting in the ethereal space. The mental assault intensifies, the monstrous forms growing more defined, more horrifying, as he pushes deeper. With a surge of desperate resolve, he declares his intention to delve even further into the abyss, determined to find answers, no matter the cost. He stares, a purple symbol materializing before him, then overlaying itself onto a detailed image of a brain. An urgent exclamation mark flashes, and Young Jun's eyes widen in disbelief, wondering what this could possibly mean. The system's cold, analytical voice explains that a section of the brain has been temporarily paralyzed. He tries to grasp the implications, likening it to a familiar concept. As the system clarifies, it's akin to a citywide power outage caused by an overwhelming surge. The implications hang heavy in the sudden darkness. A sudden, overwhelming pressure slams into Young Jun, his eyes squeezing shut against the unseen force. An unseen, powerful grip seems to clench, radiating intense energy. A pained groan escapes him, his teeth gritting in agony. Nearby, Rosalind cries out in alarm, her masked face etched with concern. The invisible force continues to push him back, vibrant red energy crackling around him. His body is violently jostled, the impact reverberating through him. A single tear escapes the corner of his eye, his expression a mix of agony and despair. Then, a sudden, shocking realization dawns. His eye widens, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple as the unseen force continues its assault, leaving him hunched over and gasping, a single word escaping his lips in utter disbelief. Youngjin Ryu cries out in alarm, his voice laced with panic. May, Alice is sick. Sema. His eyes wide with terror, he continues to shout. Dirty cat saliva. Boon. Shoe window. Nearby, Rosalind also screams in warning. Jilly, don't. There's a monster behind you, as the crowd surges. A terrified shriek escapes her lips. And Youngjin Ryu, pushing through the chaotic mass, declares, if we left him alone, someone might get seriously hurt. He shoves past the panicked bodies, reaching out as Rosalind is caught in the crush, pulling her forcefully towards him, away from the stampede. With her safe, he glances back at the unfolding disaster, his expression grim. He struggles to calm himself, knowing that if he doesn't, he will be caught. A message on his phone warns of immense strength and the inability to stop it alone, urging someone to help quickly. He holds Rosalind close, her pained cry echoing as they both face the unfolding chaos. His eye sharpens, an emergency system engaging to optimize his physical state. Adrenaline surges, activating his actin, a profound internal shift. A rush of energy envelopes him. Suddenly, he collapses, clutching his head in what appears to be a seizure, as a chilling warning echoes. Someone is trying to harm him. Standing beside Rosalind, who anxiously asks if the man on the ground is all right, he surveys the scene. Kneeling over the unconscious man, Youngjin Ryu's expression is etched with concern. A soft exhale escapes him as he murmurs, I'm sorry, I guess I used too much strength. The man on the floor stirs faintly, a low groan escaping his lips. Later, standing outside a towering building, he reflects on his recent surge of power, acknowledging that while temporary, his strength has undeniably improved. His thoughts drift to a familiar name, Rosalind. He questions his own perception, wondering if he's merely hallucinating or perhaps experiencing a psychosomatic reaction to stress. The recurring symptoms plague his mind, a constant reminder of the strangeness he's endured. But a deeper conviction takes hold. All the abnormalities he's experienced are real, and they are likely connected to Rosalind's mysterious abilities. As he walked among the bustling crowd, a faint blue energy shimmered around him, a subtle reminder of his evolving powers. He mused, realizing he could now wield his abilities like a cheat code, a powerful advantage in this new reality. Yet, a nagging thought persisted. He needed to leave Eisen immediately. Later, reviewing data on a holographic screen, he learned that repeated synchronization had lowered his abilities level and excessive use was deemed inappropriate. To recover, Rosalind required probiotics, which would reward him with a 0.8 fitness boost. He pondered the implications of taking them. Though unsure if he could fully trust the information, he decided to try it for now, his gaze reflecting a mix of skepticism and resolve as he passed a storefront. Reaching his destination, he pushed open the door, stepping into a pharmacy and asking for a box of probiotics. A moment later, Rosalind appeared, her expression one of utter surprise as she wondered aloud what had happened to the pharmacy that used to be run by an old grandmother. Rosalind, noticing the unfamiliar surroundings, questions if the pharmacy has changed, to which Youngjun Ryu explains that his aunt, who used to run it, has left for a vacation. As he turns to scan the shelves, Rosalind watches him intently, a thoughtful expression on her face. He picks up a box of probiotics, noting it's the best-selling product. Youngjun Ryu then holds up a business card, revealing the name of the new pharmacist, Song Ji-hyun of Strong Pharmacy. He asks Rosalind if, as a pharmacist, she would typically work for a large company, and she confirms that she indeed worked for a small venture company. A slight smile plays on his lips as he acknowledges her answer. Rosalind then picks up a box of probiotics herself, and Youngjun Ryu recognizes the QQ Lab brand. He comments on QQ Lab being a large company, and Rosalind explains their process of cultivating both good and bad bacteria. As she reads the lactobacillus facts on the box, Youngjun Ryu, still puzzled, asks about the purpose of bacteria, prompting her to begin her explanation. I see. Thank you. He replies, though a thought lingers in his mind, wondering if he should ask about something, trusting her expertise as a pharmacist. His system interface displays detailed information about the QQ Lab probiotics, listing lactobacillus as the ingredient, its effect on intestinal health, and the dosage. He holds the product in his hand, a quiet hum of contemplation filling the air. It's the same company that made the product, he notes aloud, connecting the dots. His gaze sharpens, a new idea forming as he considers, should I try synchronization mode for this too? The system immediately responds, presenting a prompt. Do you want to use synchronization mode on the probiotics? Fitness. Consumption, 0.02 per second. As he processes the information, a notification flashes across his vision. Synchronization mode on. The complex interface of his system glows before him, displaying intricate data. Meanwhile, Rosalind continues her explanation, stating that bacteria are present in all living things, both good and bad, naturally coexisting. Among the countless microorganisms, Rosalind explains, one of them is Bifidobacterium. Youngjun's mind races, a silent exclamation escaping him as he processes the information. She clarifies that there's no such thing as inherently good or bad Bifidobacterium, asserting that the bacteria currently living in his body are all good bacteria. Yet, his system immediately counters, displaying examples of what it categorizes as bad bacteria, such as Clostridium perfringens. The concept expands beyond simple definitions, as she reiterates that even these are good bacteria, explaining that countless bacteria wander the world, each possessing a unique map. He then draws a mental comparison, realizing that Rosalind's ability to perceive and categorize these microorganisms is akin to something else entirely. It's a synchronization, his system reveals, a vast network extending from the entire Earth itself. The profound implications of this connection settle between them, even as they remain rooted in their shared space. He reacts with a startled, almost disbelieving, "What?" his eye wide with surprise and a bead of sweat forming on his temple. Considering the implications, he acknowledges that he will have to do something about this, despite the potential difficulties. His hand grips a small, sharp tool, his resolve hardening as he determines he needs to leave his current location as quickly as possible. A moment of quiet reflection passes over him, as he wonders about the true nature of what he has just witnessed. The imposing Eisen Pharmaceutical building dominates the cityscape, a company known as Korea's largest in medical research and development. A single tear forms in his eye, reflecting a deep emotional response to the situation. The core issue, he realizes, is Eisen's overwhelming control over the domestic market. Holding a small device, he resolves to find a way to infiltrate the company. Later, after a period of rest, he is seen examining his phone, then holding a new pill from Eisen, contemplating his next move. Youngjun Ryu considers his options, wondering if going to Eisen Pharmaceutical is truly his only path. He muses that even companies overseas might be on par with Eisen, realizing that their monopoly effectively suppresses any negative research data. Taking a sip from his drink, he considers the darker implications, even illegal human experiments in severe cases. Standing in his room, he stares at a monitor, the full weight of Eisen's control settling upon him, a complete monopoly over the entire medical industry. His expression remains grim. Yet, a flicker of determination ignites within him, seeing this as a chance to change the world, convinced that Eisen Pharmaceutical needs to be stopped. He feels ready for the challenge, believing he is already built to be at the top of the food chain, the only one capable of making the impossible possible. A quiet resolve settles over him. Still, the exact capabilities of the Eisen pill remain unknown to him, a thought that sparks a wild possibility. Perhaps this power could even cure cancer and AIDS. Youngjun Ryu continues to ponder the widespread suffering from incurable diseases, a heavy burden on his mind. He knows he cannot delay his plans any longer and resolves to return to Eisen Pharmaceutical. The year-end reporting season begins, marking the largest event of the year. Attended by all researchers at Eisen, a day when each lab's innovation and performance are critically evaluated. For the Life Creation Lab, this means another year of ridicule and last-place scores. A crushing reality for Youngjun, whose department consistently registers 0 research achievements. Yet, the heads of the research institutes only ever want one thing from his department. A pen clicks sharply, hovering over a resignation form. Youngjun, looking utterly exhausted, pushes open a door. The image of a happy family, a man, woman, and baby, sits framed. While he closes his eyes, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple. His hand clenches, the fabric of his sleeve taut. A digital prompt asks if he's sure he wants to delete it, the thought of enduring that hell again making him anxious. A soft click echoes. And then, in a brightly lit lab, a woman in a white coat gestures towards him, announcing to the team that Ryu Youngjun is their newest member. He sits at a new desk, a computer screen displaying an article about a celebrity. A slight smile playing on his lips as he acknowledges his new position as a senior researcher. Having just joined the Nausicaa Genius DNA Lab, a new colleague explains his background, stating he was on the protein research team and came here for a good reason, determined to work hard. He reiterates his commitment to working hard, his voice firm. Youngjun, still focused on his work, hears the colleague's voice, which seems to be describing him. The colleague wonders aloud why he is so focused, before a voice from off-panel instructs, Dr. Ko Sunyol, we'll have a meeting soon. You should introduce yourself first. Ko Sunyol checks his watch, noting there's still 1 minute left until lunch. Youngjun looks up, surprised by the sudden interaction, questioning the timing. Ko Sunyol simply stares back, a silent acknowledgement. He then declares that it's almost time, having already sent the necessary information, and that they need to get to work. Finally, Ko Sunyol formally introduces himself to Youngjun, extending a polite greeting. Ko Sunyol, continuing their conversation, asks if Youngjun is Japanese, to which he promptly clarifies his Korean nationality. With a slight air of exasperation, Ko Sunyol declares that further introductions are unnecessary, stating it's time to proceed to the meeting. A surprised gasp escapes Youngjun, who silently wonders about his new colleague's peculiar demeanor. Continuing to brief him, Ko Sunyol informs Youngjun that their team actually consists of 2 other researchers. He names them as Manager Chun and Researcher Bae Siana, adding that both are currently working in Korea. Ko Sunyol promises to introduce them upon their return, before instructing Youngjun to begin preparing for the upcoming seminar immediately. An announcement is made, indicating a second briefing is needed, specifically for Dr. Ryu, who missed the initial one. The topic of this crucial seminar is revealed, the intricate science of artificial cells and growing organs. Ko Sunyol continues his presentation, emphasizing that the challenge extends beyond just the cells themselves. He explains that the organs created must be robust enough to be successfully transplanted into actual patients. Youngjun listens intently, his expression serious as he processes the complex information. The presentation then shifts to a historical overview, detailing how in 1936, a Russian man named Voronoi became the first to undergo a kidney transplant. However, the success was short-lived, as he soon suffered a severe allergic reaction. This tragic failure was attributed to the kidney's fundamental incompatibility with the recipient. Ko Sunyol explains that at the time, researchers simply lacked the knowledge to understand the underlying cause of such rejections. It was the body's immune system, perceiving unfamiliar genes as a threat, that would relentlessly attack the transplanted organ. He concludes, highlighting the ultimate goal, to engineer organs that are genetically compatible with the recipient's own genes. He leans forward, a question forming on his lips, wondering if they couldn't simply start with artificial cells, or even organs. Ko Sunyol shakes his head, explaining that while they could use stem cell technology, the commercialization of such methods is not yet feasible. He gestures to the screen, continuing his explanation to the attentive Youngjun and Rosalind, emphasizing that although embryonic stem cell technology exists, it presents significant challenges. Youngjun, still seeking clarity, asks for the specific reasons behind the difficulty, his expression earnest. The reason, it turns out, is quite simple. Embryonic stem cells are formed from a combination of sperm and egg, meaning they carry the patient's genetic material. Therefore, the patient's own gene is inserted, ensuring no rejection occurs when the organ is implanted in the body. Ko Sunyol then clarifies the core issue, stating that the difficulty lies in the extreme rarity of such cells, making them incredibly hard to obtain. This scarcity is precisely why organ transplantation using embryonic stem cells remains a significant challenge. He explains that current scientific understanding has not yet reached the level required to overcome the fundamental challenges of organ transplantation, making widespread solutions impossible. He acknowledges the point, adding that even if the process weren't difficult and expensive, there's a deeper, more fundamental hurdle. The sheer difficulty in obtaining donor eggs means they can't even begin to try to implement certain solutions, leaving them at a standstill. Suddenly, a series of soft chimes emanates from a nearby screen, displaying new data. His eyes widen in surprise as he processes the information, a sudden realization dawning on him. He leans closer to the screen, reading the details about fitness consumption and questioning why it isn't consuming fitness per second this time, his mind racing. Then, a new line of inquiry appears, introducing artificial cells into embryonic stem cells. He ponders the possibility, asking himself if this could truly be feasible. A surge of excitement washes over him as he realizes the profound implications. This could easily solve all the problems he had just been discussing. He turns to Ryu Young-jun, posing a critical question. Is there any way to inject normal cells into embryonic stem cells? Ryu Young-jun considers this, asking for clarification on what kind of normal cells he means, perhaps skin cells? Ko Sun-yeol confirms, specifying oral epithelial cells. Ryu Young-jun ponders the implications, a thoughtful expression on his face. If such a feat were possible, he muses. Rosalind interjects, her voice filled with awe. It would be nothing short of revolutionary. Ko Sun-yeol presses Ryu Young-jun, asking if he truly believes it's possible. Ryu Young-jun, his gaze fixed on a screen, responds that Rosalind seems to have found a way. Rosalind calls out to him, a hint of urgency in her tone. As the discussion continues, Rosalind voices a concern, wondering if such a breakthrough would inevitably draw the scrutiny of the ethics committee. Ko Sun-yeol, however, quickly dismisses the thought, stating he has more pressing medical work, before turning to Ryu Young-jun and asking if he knows of any new technologies or research results. Ryu Young-jun, still processing the implications, suggests they leave that topic for now. He takes a sip from his drink, a single word escaping his lips as he considers the weight of their potential discovery. The can crumples in his hand as he realizes the profound truth. Once a scientific boundary is crossed, there's no turning back. He ponders the nature of change, comparing it to the fixed attributes in games, and wonders if the body's own cellular system holds an even greater, more unyielding power. A quiet understanding settles over him. Turning back to his colleagues, Ryu Young-jun announces a new topic for discussion, artificial cells, inviting them to examine the ongoing project. He admits that since this field isn't his primary expertise, there are many aspects he still needs to learn. As the discussion turns to the intricate process of transforming cells into embryonic stem cells, a system message flashes, indicating a fitness consumption rate of 2-0. Young-jun considers the implications, thinking, Rosalind can't be wrong. It's probably an innovative way that's not open to the world. He continues his explanation, detailing how with this new technology in place, there would be no need to take ova or sperm to make fertilized eggs. Instead, one could simply take some of the patient's own skin tissue. This would allow for a heart transplant, for example, by creating a new heart from the patient's own cells, ensuring no rejection. He pauses, a thoughtful expression on his face, considering the profound implications. Pointing to a holographic display, he asks, who needs a heart? His finger extends, emphasizing his point. He then clarifies, a slight smile playing on his lips, who needs fitness? And I don't have major fitness. He reviews the system's prompt, which indicates that increasing Rosalind's level would boost her total fitness and recovery speed, further suggesting that improving her transition or synchronization is key to achieving this. Pondering his next move, he wonders aloud what he should do, while Ko Sun-yeol, observing his odd behavior, silently questions what could be wrong with him. The system displays various transition percentages for organs like the heart, brain, and kidneys, leaving him to consider how to improve this transition or synchronization state. A sudden realization hits him, a gasp escaping his lips. He stares intently at the data, the latest test results showing the subject anchoring in a transitional state. His gaze lifts, a question forming in his mind. Could he have been so utterly consumed by his work? As he looks at the swirling cosmic image, a profound sense of responsibility washes over him. It was his fault, he thinks, and he must bring Rosalind back. He recalls the early days, when Rosalind was merely a chemical substance, not yet considered a living organism. But everything changed the moment he introduced his own blood into the equation. His eyes narrow, a new hypothesis forming. Did the ADP in his cells play a crucial role in Rosalind's birth? As glowing particles drift, the thought lingers. ADP, the fundamental energy currency of all living cells. Then, what happened next? He remains lost in thought. His gaze fixed as a radical idea takes hold. It does seem a little crazy, he muses, but if there's no other way than to insert it into his own body. Then if all his conjectures are correct, and he isn't going insane, he will create a new race. As the authority of biological and molecular-based technology, he takes a long gulp from his bottle, reflecting on the man he used to be in the past story, wondering if he truly became the person who did that. As he grips the bottle tightly, uncertainty weighs heavily on his mind, though he hasn't fully committed to anything yet. With a sigh, Ryu Young-jun suggests they call it a day and head home, perhaps. His colleague, Ko Sun-yeol, firmly reminds him that any work must strictly be an experiment on stem cell application in the lab. Looking directly at him, Ko Sun-yeol reiterates that he already told him no. Ryu Young-jun simply offers a thoughtful, silent response, his expression unreadable. Later, Rosalind, concerned, tries to reason with Ko Sun-yeol, suggesting that since he's new, perhaps they should just let him go for the day, and he'll be back after the new year, finally conceding. She then remarks, while looking at a tablet, that Ryu Youngjun seems preoccupied these days, talking about strange things. Ko Sunyol listens, his expression weary, absorbing her words in silence. Rosalind continues, revealing that Ryu Youngjun was recently seen with another woman. As they prepared for a new phase, Ko Sunyol reminded his colleague that adjusting to their new environment would take time, and whatever challenges arose, they would simply have to face them. In the sterile quiet of the laboratory, Ryu Youngjun carefully handled a small vial, his breath catching with anticipation. He had made a profound discovery, and now the time had come to test its limits. Following precise instructions, he extracted 1 milliliter of the substance, filtering it through a fine membrane before centrifuging it to perfection. With the prepared liquid now in a syringe, he carefully positioned the needle. A soft hiss accompanied the injection as the solution entered his arm. He reflected on the gravity of his actions, never imagining a day would come when he would experiment on his own body. A strange sensation washes over him, a tingling energy spreading through his veins as he reflects on the unprecedented nature of his self-experimentation. He knows this amount of mana should be impossible for a human, yet the system confirms it, leaving him to question what exactly is happening to him. As if in response to his thoughts, a cascade of vibrant, glowing particles begins to erupt around him, swirling with an ethereal light that seems to defy all known physics. The particles coalesce and dissipate around his outstretched hand, a tangible manifestation of the power now coursing through him. A sudden realization dawns on him, a shocking thought that makes his eyes widen. Rosalind must have tampered with the key. He gasps, the system confirming a temporary buff and a new skill. OG is added on, leaving him stunned by the unexpected transformation. A wry smile touches his lips as he processes the implications, realizing the amount of mana he now possesses is far beyond anything he could have imagined. As the glowing particles swirl around his hand, Youngjun realizes the impossible truth. This is a phenomenon beyond modern science, a true miracle unfolding within him. His thoughts race, connecting the dots to Rosalind's actions, who, by manipulating a few genes, had seemingly turned back the clock on the entire evolutionary tree. For the most complex and advanced organism, humanity, to regain its primordial power, only one thing could possibly explain it. His eye glows with the intensity of his realization. It was those 4 genes, overexpressed within the cell. A rapid heartbeat echoes as he types, processing the data. The sheer amount of mana coursing through him almost unbelievable. It's impossible to have this much mana. He'd never witnessed such a phenomenon before, and the only thing that could explain it was. His fingers tap rapidly on the keyboard, confirming his hypothesis. It was gene. Without hesitation, he navigates to a gene bank website, deciding he should order some right now. He meticulously prepares the genetic material, carefully handling the delicate samples under the microscope. Following the established protocol, he uses the retrovirus method to introduce the material into human embryonic kidney cells, just as he had done before. This familiar process ensures consistency, allowing him to replicate the conditions of his previous, transformative self-experimentation. With the samples prepared, he transfers them to the incubator, initiating the growth phase of his new research. He watches over the process, a quiet determination etched on his face as the experiment begins to unfold. A few days later, the results are ready for observation. As he examines the petri dishes, a gasp escapes him, a clear sign of surprise and recognition. The sight of the growing medium in 2 dishes confirms his hypothesis, indicating the successful generation of stem cells. Meanwhile, Rosalind sends him a message, promising to email the detailed information and wishing him success in his endeavors. A small laugh escapes him as he realizes it's already lunchtime, time to eat. The cafeteria bustles with the murmur of many voices as he and Rosalind move through the serving line. His tray is piled high with various dishes. Later, seated at a table, he tells Rosalind that Sunyol had advised him to get the boneless chicken, to which she gently chides him, saying it's not good if he can't help himself. He retorts that it's not that he can't help himself, but rather that he can't eat slowly. With a chuckle, he considers going back for more rice and other dishes. As Rosalind mentions that he's grown thin lately, and that they look, his expression shifts to one of slight annoyance or surprise. His chopsticks moved with such speed, sending food scattering with a sharp clatter. Suddenly, his eye widened, a bead of sweat forming as he realized what had just happened. Behind him, a voice erupted in disbelief. God damn it, you. My clothes are ruined because of you. He immediately bowed low in apology. I am sorry, while she demanded, who are you and from which department? Later, Youngjun stared at his ID card, his gaze fixed on the words, life creation. Meanwhile, Rosalind, still fuming, scoffed at his apology. I'm sorry, she thought to herself. Of all people, I couldn't believe I'd run into a trash like him. Ko Sunyol stands, startled, a plate of food in his hand. As Rosalind glares at him with intense frustration, he tumbles to the ground, scattering the food, while she looms over him, her anger palpable. I am sorry. Ko Sunyol stammers, looking up in fear. Rosalind's voice rises. Go. Damn. What? Her expression twists with a mix of fury and distress, as she points to her now ruined clothes. My clothes are now ruined because of you. Who are you, and from which department? Stammering, Ko Sunyol attempts to explain his affiliation. I am from Life Creation, but... Rosalind cuts him off sharply, her voice laced with disbelief. What? She presses further, her anger evident, demanding to know if his department is full of guys. A wave of confusion washes over him, his mind reeling. What is going on? From the cafeteria, Youngjun Ryu calls out, Team leader. Ko Sunyol turns and walks away, the sound of his footsteps echoing softly amidst the murmuring crowd. His thoughts race, replaying her words. Bumped into me and ruined my clothes. He can't fathom why she continues to stare at him with such intensity. Rosalind, still fuming, declares her reason for the outrage. I have a social appointment after work today. Youngjun Ryu watches the unfolding scene, his expression a mix of concern and bewilderment. A quiet shh ripples through the onlookers as he thinks, we should go help. But then a sudden realization hits him, leaving him speechless. The tension in the air is palpable, a constant question hanging over the department. Why is the Life Creation department always in such a state? Ko Sunyol, attempting to defuse the situation, remarks on Rosalind's obvious temperament, then quickly offers a sincere apology. But Rosalind's anger remains, her voice sharp as she demands, so, how will you take responsibility? Because you stained it so much with food, I can't even wear it if I wash it. Stammering, Ko Sunyol quickly offers, I will buy you a new one. Rosalind, however, is far from satisfied, turning away as she retorts, is that all? What about today's schedules? Ko Sunyol calls out, wait. With a frustrated sigh and a heavy footstep, Ko Sunyol walks away, muttering to himself, just what is going on? His face etched with exasperation, he can only offer a silent, drawn-out sigh. He stands before her, a hand raised in a placating gesture, as she demands to know his identity, questioning if he is even part of the same department. With a sigh he asks, yes, what of it? Observing the scene, Youngjun Ryu notes that the seemingly lowly individuals often prove to be the most problematic, their lives far more complicated than they appear. Rosalind, her expression hardening, insists that he should watch his words, demanding to know why she should apologize when his department is at fault. He tries to explain that it's not about today's events, but rather the cumulative effect of the past year, asking if they didn't properly apologize for something. Youngjun Ryu, still observing the group of individuals, muses that it's not about starting a fight, but rather about checking the rules. Rosalind, her face contorted in anger, dismisses his apology as insufficient, then points out his attire, asking if he's even wearing a dress. Tears well in her eyes, her frustration boiling over, as she declares that such behavior doesn't even meet the lowest grade of etiquette. Youngjun Ryu, his gaze distant, concludes his thoughts, acknowledging that he had allowed the situation to unfold. As the argument continued, Rosalind's voice rose, demanding to know why his department was always the problem, and why he couldn't even offer a proper apology. Ko Sunyol tried to explain that it wasn't about him, but about the system, about the rules. He reiterated that he had already apologized, and that was all he could do. Observing the escalating conflict, Youngjun Ryu found himself wondering if he should have intervened earlier, or if he should simply dissect the city footage and find out who was truly responsible for the incident. Rosalind, however, was far from finished, her voice laced with accusation as she declared that his department's incompetence last year had caused her immense inconvenience. She insisted he should shorten his eating time and prepare the necessary documents, not just offer empty apologies. Later, amidst the quiet hum of a crowded room, Youngjun Ryu reflected on the exchange, his expression thoughtful. He realized that he had allowed the situation to unfold, and that he was just as much to blame. A quiet summation escaped his thoughts, a silent apology for his inaction, acknowledging that they were using his name to excuse themselves. Ultimately, he concluded, it was all his fault. He watches as Rosalind continues her tirade, accusing the department of insult and incompetence, while Ko Sunyol attempts to de-escalate, insisting there's no need for such a fuss. Ko Sunyol tries again to calm the situation, repeating his plea for everyone to relax. Rosalind's expression hardens, her anger clearly not appeased by his words. The two face each other, their gazes locked in a tense standoff. The air crackles with their unresolved conflict, a palpable tension filling the space between them. Rosalind's voice cuts through the silence, demanding an apology from Ko Sunyol and his entire department, as Youngjun Ryu clenches his fists, his face etched with distress. He questions internally, who are you? A memory flashes back to Ko Sunyol's introduction, where he stated, I am the one that was assigned to the Life Sciences department last week, Ryu Youngjun. Youngjun Ryu processes the words, then resolves, I am the one who needs to apologize to you, sir. The heated exchange between Ko Sunyol and Rosalind continued, with him accusing her team of negligence, while she vehemently defended their actions. Rosalind insisted they had evidence, questioning why he was being so difficult, as Youngjun Ryu watched the escalating tension, his expression tight with internal conflict. Ko Sunyol, however, offered a challenge, stating he would apologize only if CCTV footage proved his team was in the wrong. He then dismissed the idea entirely, asserting that their time would be better spent on experimentation rather than reviewing surveillance. Just as the argument threatened to boil over, Youngjun Ryu stepped forward, drawing a surprised gasp from Rosalind. She had been so certain of her team's innocence, convinced that even without words, the truth was evident. Ko Sunyol regarded the interruption with a slight, dismissive smirk. Turning his attention to the newcomer, he inquired if Ryu had something to say, to which the young man firmly replied, yes. Rosalind looked at him, a flicker of concern crossing her features. Rosalind's voice cuts through the tension, questioning his sudden appearance, but he simply offers, feel free to have whatever you want. Ko Sunyol, however, scoffs at the notion of healthy foods, dismissing whatever they might present. His eyes narrow, a fierce resolve hardening his expression as he declares his intention to crush any competition. Youngjun Ryu, taking in the challenge, acknowledges to himself that he will indeed have to find something. A soft hum emanates from a cylindrical device, its light casting a stark glow. He reflects on the futility of possessing immense power if it cannot be consistently utilized. The thought weighs on him, knowing that his current peak physical condition is merely temporary, destined to fade. This realization fuels a new resolve, driving him to spend his weekend developing a groundbreaking medicine. With a determined gaze, surrounded by a faint blue glow, he vows to create a drug that will allow him to harness his full fitness at all times. An internal system voice prompts Youngjun Ryu, demanding acknowledgement and asking for the way to treat lung cancer, before bluntly stating that he is lacking fitness, and that lung cancer is simply too complex to analyze all at once. The system then reiterates its question, asking what about lung cancer, only to repeat the assessment that he is lacking fitness. It concludes its analysis, stating once more that lung cancer is too complex to analyze at once. Lying in bed, Youngjun Ryu reflects on the system's relentless focus, thinking that it's aiming for cancer, which feels a little overboard. Despite the system's high-level targets, he acknowledges his own current state, admitting that in any case, he's always lacking fitness. He then considers the fleeting nature of his enhanced abilities, wishing he could maintain this state for a long time, and realizing that to do so, he'll have to develop a new medicine, a medicine to be the only one in the world. A soft chime announces a new arrival, welcoming them into a brightly lit facility. Stepping inside, Rosalind moves with purpose, her presence quickly filling the space. Her sudden appearance catches Youngjun Ryu off guard, a surprised gasp escaping him. She wastes no time, immediately questioning him about his purchase. You're here to buy the bound probiotics, right? I told you it doesn't work, she asserts, to which he responds, what do you mean it doesn't work? Ignoring her previous statement, he shifts the topic, asking if she has any nutritional supplements containing vitamin B and zinc, prompting her to pause and consider. Her expression remains thoughtful as she processes his request. The conversation then turns to a specific product, a box labeled BC, as she brings up the topic of bifidobacterium. He confirms her suspicions, explaining that he used the bound probiotics for a month with no good results, a fact she seems to have anticipated. Rosalind then clarifies that one cannot take bifidobacterium with a weak stomach, before revealing that she is currently researching a new probiotic. She clarifies, stem cells are completely different from microbes, right? He confirms, applying a small stick to his face, yes, that's true. The fundamental difference between stem cells and microbes is that stem cells are undifferentiated cells capable of developing into various cell types and can be used to repair damaged tissues. While microbes are microscopic organisms, including bacteria, fungi, and viruses, that can be either beneficial or harmful to the body. Stem cells are utilized in regenerative medicine, whereas microbes are crucial for probiotics to enhance gut health. Holding up a blue box labeled Alpha, he exclaims, oh, this provided more fitness than any other. Where's it from? Rosalind explains that it's a probiotic containing bifidobacterium, and he confirms it's the Benefit Alpha he mentioned. Before she asks if he takes supplements made by Eisen, adding that bifidobacterium, while common, is toxic for him. She then asks if he met Dr. Ko Sunyol before. He struggles to recall, admitting to himself that he doesn't remember him, and wonders if she gave him that particular supplement because she was the one who recommended it. Rosalind, observing his reaction, remarks, I see. You're the same as Professor Eisen either. She then questions, is that so? Rosalind explains that Eisen makes medicine expensive and sells it, questioning if that isn't good for the pharmacy. She continues, admitting that as a pharmacist, she's supposed to help people, but she has a lot of bad things she doesn't care about doing good things for. Her expression hardens, reiterating that she doesn't care about doing good things. Youngjun Ryu processes her words, repeating, bad things. Rosalind then reveals that the type of probiotic he's taking is a toxin for him, and he shouldn't have taken it, adding that they can erase things without anyone knowing. Her gaze is intense as she repeats that things can be erased without anyone knowing. Youngjun Ryu's eyes widen in disbelief, uttering, no way. A flashback shows Ko Sunyol in a lab, explaining that when he was still in the cell cure drug research department, he did research on cell cure himself. He continues, detailing how he discussed bifidobacterium's cell cure performance compared to the cell itself. As a result of their unethical practices, Eisen's research institute, as well as the company itself, had been making medicine expensive and difficult to acquire for everyone. All of this, he realizes, was part of a larger scheme, making him feel like a fool. In a memory, Ko Sunyol and Rosalind stand together, while Youngjun Ryu observes them from a distance, as Rosalind greets someone with a casual, oh hey. The scene shifts to Youngjun Ryu, alone in a bathroom, a harsh cough racking his body. Another memory surfaces, this time of an older man, hunched over with a cane, also struggling with a cough, as Youngjun Ryu watches him from behind, the sound echoing in the hallway. The weight of these fragmented memories and the current revelation settles upon him, a single tear escaping his eye. A stark warning flashes in his mind, highlighting the imminent danger. Overwhelmed, Youngjun Ryu clutches his head, a sharp pain piercing through him. He groans in agony, a sudden, splitting headache consuming him. A wave of intense dizziness washes over him, his vision blurring as faint images of Rosalind and Ko Sunyol flicker at the edge of his perception. A sharp jolt of pain shoots through his head, his eyes widening in shock as they begin to glow with an eerie white light. He clutches his head, struggling to comprehend the sudden onset of these overwhelming symptoms. His sight completely fails him, the world dissolving into a blinding white haze, leaving him unable to see anything. A thick fog seems to envelop his mind, making it impossible to think clearly. Everything feels fuzzy and indistinct. As he slumps forward, a harsh cough escaping his lips, while Rosalind and Ko Sunyol look on, seemingly welcoming him. He hears fragmented voices, distant and distorted, speaking of mistakes. His glowing eyes reflect the distorted reality, as if something inside his head is crumpling. His vision blurs, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple. And his pupils dilate rapidly, a strange, sparkling effect shimmering within them. The intricate patterns of his iris seem to shift and deepen, revealing an otherworldly complexity. Internally, a cold, mechanical voice echoes, declaring a malfunction amidst a swirling vortex of green, virus-like particles. His eyes, now glowing with an ethereal purple-blue light, reflect the internal chaos. A wave of nausea washes over him, the phantom sensation of those foreign particles choking him. The pain sends him to his knees, a guttural cry escaping his lips. Rosalind and Ko Sunyol watch, their faces etched with alarm, as she gasps in disbelief. He clutches his throat, a violent cough racking his body. He clutches his chest, a single tear escaping his eye as the invisible viral particles seem to swirl around him, making him gasp, "Oh God." Collapsing to the floor amidst the swirling green motes, he questions if he somehow contracted the flu virus just by looking at it. As he struggles to regain his composure, Rosalind approaches him with concern, asking if he is all right. Trying to dismiss his alarming symptoms, Youngjun Ryu apologizes, claiming he simply gets sick easily. He turns to leave, heading for the second floor, the unseen particles still clinging to him as he departs. Meanwhile, Ko Sunyol, clearly worried, asks a staff member for the cheapest and most effective antipyretic drugs, medication used to lower body temperature when a fever is present. Unaware of his colleague's actions, Youngjun Ryu continues his ascent. The unsettling sensation of something clinging to him growing stronger with every step, a chilling presence he cannot shake. Suddenly, he coughs violently, blood splattering onto his hand, the realization dawning that if this was a virus, it was one that couldn't be seen. As the mysterious illness raged within him, he suddenly perceived a new metric, cellular fitness level 1. Other inexplicable phenomena continued to surge through his body. It was at the very moment of the virus's attack that his body's defense mechanism activated, triggering a completely new ability within him. His gaze sharpened, reflecting the intricate, glowing patterns of this newfound power. A sudden, involuntary sound escaped him, a gasp of pure shock. He felt a flush of embarrassment, realizing that the sound had simply burst from his mouth without his control. The sheer surprise of it all was overwhelming. He felt as though he might faint. A soft thud echoed as a door swung open, revealing the bright world outside. Stepping out into the open, he glanced back at the building, a quiet determination settling over him as he hoped to uncover the full truth of his condition. What could this all mean? A profound surprise washes over Youngjun Ryu, his eye widening as a distinct blue hue momentarily replaces its natural color, leaving him to exclaim, "What?" The city sprawls beneath a clear sky, its towering buildings reaching for the heavens. Inside, Youngjun stands in a doorway, observing the scene before him. As Rosalind holds a small bottle, thanking him for his help, then asks about the progress of a new drug. Ko Sunyol, looking thoughtful, acknowledges the development of many new medicines, but insists that he should be the one expressing gratitude. Rosalind clarifies that the current prescription is merely vitamins and antitussive medication, and it might already be too late for it to be effective. She explains that the most effective treatment these days is only viable within 48 hours of infection. Youngjun's gaze falls, a quiet understanding dawning on him. He sees the gravity of the situation. His mind races, filled with experimental data and specific medications, a vast knowledge base he possesses. Yet, as a biologist, he realizes he doesn't fully grasp the intricate mechanisms of the new drugs being developed today. A stark realization washes over him, a silent admission of his own ignorance. He confesses to Rosalind that he understands nothing about chemistry, to which she calmly observes that he is, after all, a biology person. Even after 4 years as a doctor, he finds it hard to grasp the incredible pace of discovery in this field. She pauses, considering his words. Around the world, she explains, biological knowledge is evolving at an incredibly rapid pace. This rapid advancement is driven by pioneering geniuses, yet it also raises a fundamental question. What is the true purpose of medicine? He acknowledges that viruses evolve annually, rendering older medicines obsolete, a point she readily confirms. Lost in thought, he grips his pen, the weight of this reality settling upon him. She continues, suggesting that the emergence of a pioneering genius in biology could fundamentally alter the entire concept of flu medicine. She continues, asking if they are right, if the flu has gone out of control in an unimaginable way, beyond their imagination, explaining that it's all about evolution. As he considers her words, Youngjun suggests they take a look at the flu virus medical data. Changing the subject, he asks, by the way, what about pharmacist? He recalls a company called Chungwu, clarifying, Chungwu Pharmaceutical, I guess, but then doubts himself, adding, but I don't think I'm right. She then asks, didn't Eisen steal the cancer drug from your company? Her expression shifts as she adds, actually. Stunned, Youngjun demands, what? How do you know that? He explains it was a medical accident involving only a few staff, emphasizing, you don't know how much effort I put in to make it so that it wouldn't be known to the public. She lets out a small sound of realization, then presses him. What about the name of your company? With a questioning look, she reveals, it's a drug that disappeared because of me. A cold sweat breaks out on Youngjun's forehead, his mind reeling from Rosalind's confession. Amidst the bustling crowd, he can barely process the words, a stunned realization dawning on him. I can't believe you're Eisen, the pharmaceutical company. I can't believe it. His voice barely a whisper above the din, he presses her. Where did the cancer drug go? Nearby, other patrons glance over, their expressions shifting to concern at the intensity of the exchange. But Rosalind simply smiles, turning her attention to the line of people waiting. Hold on, please order one at a time. Youngjun watches her, bewildered, as she playfully remarks, do you have time to talk? Defeated, he looks away, conceding, oh my, since you're busy, I'll leave you alone. The scene shifts, moving away from the bustling street to the quiet exterior of a modern building. Then further inside, revealing only the soft light filtering through a large window. He thinks of the countless patients suffering from incurable diseases, like the flu. By comparison, the treatments available are so limited, and he wonders how much a major flu drug company might be worth. If only he could make a better medicine than the current flu medicine, he muses. His resolve hardens, thinking of Rosalind, and his desire to cure everyone. Suddenly, a system prompt appears, asking if he wants to use sync mode to gain insight into the world's happenings, revealing there are 3 options. 3 options? He considers them. First, checking the flu outbreak record, consuming 0.5 fitness. Second, checking the flu outbreak record, also consuming 0.5 fitness. And third, identifying strategies for the extinction of type B flu, which would consume 1 fitness. His eyes widen in utter shock, the implications of the third option sinking in. What? An extinction strategy? A wave of disbelief washes over him, his eye widening in shock. Still reeling from the revelation, he mutters to himself about the excitement of reading such things, acknowledging the incredible implications if it were truly real. The holographic interface shimmers with intricate hexagonal patterns and glowing lines. As he realizes he can't proceed with the current limited information, needing more options to choose from, a thought echoed by the system itself. Option acquisition requires information that cannot be obtained by internet. With a determined gesture, he reaches out to select the second option. His expression shifts to one of deep concern as he ponders the method required to make the flu go extinct. His hand hovers over the ethereal blue interface, glowing with particles, a profound curiosity driving him forward. The system responds, displaying streams of binary code and vibrant energy, revealing that Rosalind has a unique ability to achieve this goal, with the system explicitly recommending her use to make the type A flu extinct. A sudden, shocking revelation makes Youngjun recoil, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple as he processes the system's words. The system's voice echoes, asking if Heine can get rid of the flu. His mind races as the next line appears. Rosalind recommended. Unique ability. Make the type A flu extinct. He can only utter her name in stunned disbelief. The system continues its cold, logical explanation, detailing a pathogen that causes swine flu, yet is much less toxic than the flu virus. It suggests creating a pathogen as mild as the common cold and as contagious as the swine flu, then releasing it in densely populated areas around the world so that all humans can become infected with this pathogen. The chilling rationale follows. Infected people will become immune to the new flu virus, and the type A flu virus will naturally become extinct within half a year. Youngjun stands before the holographic display, processing the system's audacious proposal. The display shifts, showing details to determine how the new flu virus and swine flu is synthesized, and to check the manufacturing method. Finally, it highlights a location, in Hangsu Funk, and prompts him to check the target area to spread the virus. His eye wide with disbelief, Youngjun can only utter a single, stunned word. What? He questions, his mind reeling from the system's audacious proposal, a deep-seated moral objection rising within him. Isn't this wrong? The sync mode system, however, responds with cold, unwavering logic, its glowing text asserting, it's not medicine. It's a weapon. How dare you get in my way? Youngjun's gaze drops, his internal conflict deepening as he considers the terrifying implications. What if I ever have to use it to harm? The system then displays Rosalind's current synchronization level at 0.2, clarifying that short communications are only possible if the level exceeds one sync point, implying a threshold for direct interaction. Standing tall, Youngjun confronts the system, a new resolve hardening his expression as he realizes its true nature. You can communicate. Youngjun reaches into the refrigerator, the door clicking open with a soft thud. A sudden thought makes him gasp, his hand flying to his head. He stares at a can in his hand, his eyes widening in disbelief. The concept is staggering. A person with a weak immune system could still die from it, yet the almighty virus would eventually become a mere cold, outrunning itself over time. He realizes the implications, his voice filled with urgency, that this is talking about messing with people's DNA. The sheer audacity of such a thought is almost impossible to comprehend. The eradication of the seasonal flu, while seemingly beneficial, was achieved through a dangerous strategy based on a cold cost-risk analysis. He stands in a room, his voice rising in protest, declaring, "No, shut up. I won't do it." His face contorts in disbelief, questioning, how does it make any sense to weigh people's lives? A wave of distress washes over him as he recalls the creator's directive to optimize stem cell production, realizing with horror that the true purpose was far more sinister than he could have imagined. He reflects on his original intention to create a system that could save a life for a life, unable to reconcile it with the current, twisted application. His thoughts turn dark, suggesting a more direct, brutal approach would be far more effective to simply aim and pull the trigger. Then, a sudden realization dawns on him, as he asks, "So you mean, there's an easier way to make stem cells?" A sharp ding echoes, followed by a blunt system message, "You need more fitness." Youngjun clutches his head, the weight of his moral dilemma pressing down on him. Rosalind's life is paramount, he thinks, and he cannot allow her to perish, yet the creator's methods for stem cell optimization are far too extreme. He runs a hand through his hair, the internal struggle evident on his face. A groan escapes him as he sits up, realizing this agonizing mental battle has plagued him for the third time this month. As he ponders, a shimmering blue holographic screen materializes before him, displaying a message. He is the only one on Earth to have achieved the highest level of mana sensitivity, and he must use his power wisely and responsibly. His eye glows with an intense blue light, reflecting the system's presence. Clenching his fist in frustration, he scoffs at the system's words, declaring that no matter what it says, he will never compromise Rosalind's life. Surrounded by glowing blue hexagonal patterns, Youngjun stands firm, asserting that he cares nothing for its intentions or power, it is merely a system. With a resonant hum, the glowing patterns intensify, and the connection to the system terminates. Exhausted, he collapses back onto his bed, the mental strain of the confrontation leaving him drained. After his fitness level was restored, he chose a new path, dedicating himself to developing a novel flu treatment, a research effort that accurately pinpointed the weaknesses of the flu virus, which proved challenging due to its vast array of complex structures. He meticulously worked on the details, noting that while it was similar to his current flu medicine, it wasn't a simple modification with just a few changes to the chemical formula. A breakthrough moment arrived as Ryu Youngjun declared, "Yes, this is it." He had developed a new protein targeting a specific protein within the flu virus. This innovative protein was designed to specifically target a particular protein in the flu virus. However, he knew there was a catch. If there was a problem, it could manifest immediately after administration, so it required careful preparation. The instability of the treatment in the medical field was a significant concern. The problem, he realized, was more complex than just the flu itself. He recalled using a similar method for stem cells, but this time, the stakes felt different. He closes his eyes, a deep sigh escaping him as he grapples with the problem, knowing he needs a different solution for the unstable flu treatment. Then, a sudden spark of insight ignites in his mind, his eyes snapping open with renewed determination. That's right, he thinks, realizing he could ask an outside vendor to work with it, his fingers tapping rapidly on the keyboard as he begins his search. He doesn't need clinical trials, he'll just have them sell the medicine elsewhere, he muses, his gaze fixed on the screen. After some searching, a company appears on his screen, a potential lifeline. This company is his only chance for now. They specialize in reaction chemistry, he notes, examining their profile. The company, Cell Bio, manufactures medicine through organic synthesis reactions, a perfect fit for his needs. They also conduct cell and animal testing when you send them the material, he confirms, a plan solidifying in his mind. A subtle smile touches his lips, his decision made. He knows his treatment is viable, but a heavy sigh escapes him as he considers the next steps. The real problem, he realizes, is the exorbitant cost. Just applying for a patent would drain his resources, let alone funding full clinical trials. He's still burdened by student loans, making the prospect of further debt daunting. Slumped over his desk, Youngjun wonders how he could possibly raise that kind of money. Suddenly, his phone rings, pulling him from his thoughts as he wonders who could be calling. The screen illuminates with the name, Mr. Juhyuk Park. A flicker of surprise crosses his face as he processes the unexpected call. Later, now dressed in a coat and standing outdoors, he greets someone, acknowledging their wait and reflecting on his own thoughts. He walks through a bustling street alongside Juhyuk Park, who comments on the lively atmosphere and their long-standing friendship, playfully questioning if their outing could be considered a date. Juhyuk Park then gestures towards a restaurant, asking if this is their destination. As they enter, Juhyuk continues their conversation, recalling Youngjun's past in law school and proudly stating his own current status as a licensed lawyer. Inside the restaurant, the two men settle down to eat, the table laden with various dishes. Juhyuk Park skillfully picks up pieces of food with his chopsticks. Observing Youngjun's rapid eating, Juhyuk expresses concern, asking if someone is chasing him. Youngjun continues to eat quickly, prompting Juhyuk to pause him, noting his significant weight loss and inquiring about his well-being. His hands are a blur as he continues to eat. He then looks down, a thoughtful expression on his face as he processes the concern. A moment of quiet contemplation passes, his thoughts swirling, before he finally looks up at his friend, beginning a hesitant request. Juhyuk, by chance, he asks, his voice barely above a whisper, can you lend me some money? Juhyuk Park leans in, his voice laced with concern, asking if Ryu Youngjun had gone crazy with his credit cards. Youngjun quickly denies it, assuring him it's nothing like that. But Juhyuk presses on, wondering why else he would need to work part-time, questioning his transition from a top student to a part-timer. A heavy sigh escapes Youngjun as he looks down, admitting he went to them a long time ago. Juhyuk's eyes widen in shock, a menu of expensive cuts of meat visible behind him. Youngjun's face contorts in distress, his hands clenching into fists. He explains that his parents were in huge debt, and he had been helping to pay it off, but things had crumbled. The rates on those credit cards were completely insane, he laments, admitting his credit score had gone down, before letting out a weary sigh. He explains that paying off the debt isn't the only reason he needs money. He requires it for something far more urgent. A look of concern crosses Juhyuk Park's face as he asks, what are you talking about? You're already struggling to pay off everything. Ugh, you don't even pay off your loan fees. He continues, pressing for an answer. It's all so much. And how are you going to do that? Ryu Youngjun's gaze hardens as he reveals his true objective, medicine. I'll develop a new medicine. A moment of quiet passes, filled only with the soft glow of floating particles. Juhyuk Park, trying to find a practical solution, suggests, just make a new game. You're good at making games. You'll earn money along with the profit. But Ryu Youngjun's resolve is unwavering, his eyes burning with conviction as he states, no, I'm doing something by myself. He considers his ambitious plan to develop and patent a new medicine, acknowledging the significant financial hurdle that stands in his way. Juhyuk Park, however, expresses his doubt, believing Youngjun hasn't fully considered the financial implications of such an endeavor, even if he were to develop it in his spare time. He insists it still wouldn't work, explaining that the court would claim his time and expenses incurred during the medicine's development. Youngjun listens intently, his expression unwavering. Park continues, revealing that even a cancer medication developed outside of work hours would still legally belong to Ajin, the company. Youngjun takes a moment to gulp down some water. Park, having done his research, clarifies that he's not talking about something as simple as a flu medicine, implying the complexity and value of Youngjun's potential discovery. He questions the idea of a mere flu medicine, his expression reflecting deep concern. The imposing exterior of the Ajin building stands as a silent testament to the legal and corporate hurdles ahead. Juhyuk Park continues to explain the intricate legalities, clarifying that even if Youngjun were to develop a new medicine outside of work hours, it would still legally belong to Ajin. Adjusting his glasses, Youngjun listens intently, as Juhyuk warns him that he is walking a very thin line. He elaborates that because Youngjun is an employee of Ajin, any invention, regardless of where or when it was developed, would still be claimed by the company. Youngjun's hand tightens around the strap of his bag, as Juhyuk asks if he understands the gravity of the situation, prompting Youngjun to question, what if it's not a flu medicine? A deep frown creases his brow, his eyes narrowing with a fierce resolve. Juhyuk Park then reveals that he knows Youngjun is not interested in developing a flu medicine, but rather something far more significant. Youngjun's expression hardens as he confirms his research is focused on a treatment for diseases that are completely different from common ailments. A sudden alert interrupts his cell testing, causing him to recoil in surprise. Moments later, a text message appears on his phone, offering to pay for dinner, but his expression remains one of mild annoyance. The message is quickly followed by a bank transfer notification, confirming a significant sum has been sent. He reviews documents at his desk, having arranged for the funds to be sent directly to Cell Bank, where his testing was already underway. Later, outside a modern building, Rosalind asks him if he intends to patent his medicines. Inside, he confirms his purpose, stating he has come to apply for a patent. A patent lawyer named Hannah Lee then inquires about the current stage of development for his medicine. He casually replies that it has already undergone human testing. Hannah Lee confirms his statement, acknowledging the advanced stage of his work. He confidently declares the medicine's effectiveness as an agent, adding that he had hoped to register the patent for its efficacy later. Considering this, Juhyuk Park muses that it is possible, but then hesitates, his fingers tapping thoughtfully on the table. Meanwhile, Hannah Lee, the patent lawyer, finds herself in a difficult position, knowing it's nearly impossible to proceed without any data. Young Jun, however, remains unfazed, asking Joo-hyuk Park how he can be so confident when he doesn't even have any data. Hannah Lee, listening intently, considers the possibility that it can be done, her expression thoughtful. She realizes that while the test data could be released within a month, confirming the concept, there's a problem. It's not enough time, and they need to be more cautious. Joo-hyuk Park then clarifies that he doesn't keep track of the whole year, but rather focuses on a single month. The revelation hits Hannah Lee with a jolt, her eyes widening in disbelief at the mention of 1 month. She wonders how Young Jun can be so confident, given that he's barely synthesized the chemical, but quickly composes herself, agreeing to prepare the necessary paperwork first. As the patent lawyer, Hannah Lee, continued to outline the process, Young Jun and Joo-hyuk Park listened intently. She paused, considering the next step, a soft rustle of her clothes accompanying her thoughts. Then, with a direct gaze, she inquired about the financial aspect, asking how much the legal fees would cost. Young Jun let out a light chuckle, reassuring her that despite her youthful appearance, she was a highly talented lawyer. The lawyer's fingers tapped rhythmically on a document, a subtle gesture of her focused attention. With a knowing wink, she explained that most people who come for patents are already at the corporate management level. She then presented a tablet displaying a form, its digital pages rustling softly, stating that this was the form they needed to fill out. Her eyes widened in surprise as she read something on the screen, a sudden "what" escaping her lips. Both Young Jun and Joo-hyuk Park looked on with concern, wondering if she was truly prepared to handle the paperwork. Young Jun ponders the vastness of their ambition, questioning if they truly intend to create new medicines and vaccines for every illness imaginable. As Rosalind looks up from her documents, asking what he means, a phone vibrates insistently on the table between them. He answers, hearing a voice identify itself as Hae-in Young from Life Creation Labs, who begins to speak rapidly. After a polite initial response, Young Jun's expression shifts to one of profound shock, his voice rising in alarm as he demands to know what has been done, then utters a stunned "what?" The conversation centers on stem cell research, and his eyes widen further as he hears about certain cells showing unexpected results. It was Monday morning in the biotech department. Rosalind expressed her concern, wondering if they truly had enough data, while Joo-hyuk Park reassured her that they had more than enough. The fact that he had to personally cultivate the culture medium was a testament to his dedication. Joo-hyuk Park then questioned Hannah Lee, asking if she was sure about the results, to which she confidently replied that she was certain. Youngjun Ryu, however, knew that it meant his cells were far more sensitive than common cells, a fact that would only become clearer by the year's end. He needed a lot more data to prove his hypothesis. Hannah Lee then asked him if he was sure about the results, and he confirmed that he was. His meticulous efforts allowed him to collect as much data as possible, ensuring that he could detect the slightest gene deviation. With all his research complete, he could now completely focus on the seminar presentation. By carefully manipulating the WNT signaling pathways, the stem cell's crucial multi-differentiation ability could be preserved. It was now Friday morning, and the scene shifted to AGEN's year-end seminar hall. The modern building, adorned with the murmur sign, buzzed with activity as people streamed into the facility. Inside, the spacious hall was already filling up, a crowd gathering for the anticipated event. Amidst the throng, a familiar face greeted him, exclaiming, "You've been here. Oh, long time no see. I heard you've been tough for 2 days." The speaker was Chief Researcher Jinwoo Choi, accompanied by Principal Researcher Minji Bae, both senior figures in the research department. Choi continued, his tone casual. "Compared to that, we've been totally fine here." He arrives at the seminar hall, where Chief Researcher Choi greets him, noting his earlier-than-expected presence, while Principal Researcher Bae comments on his diligent efforts. However, a problem arises, as Choi reveals, concerning Dr. Ryu's new project, which he started just a couple of weeks prior. Bae reacts with a surprised gasp. Choi explains that while the project has been a tremendous success, from which they've been eagerly extracting data, their presentation isn't quite ready because of it. Ryu inquires about the source of their concern, prompting Choi to identify him as the one behind the Life Creation project, with Bae adding that since it's his project, he's the one who must deliver the presentation. Meanwhile, the AGEN seminar hall stands ready, its rows of tables and chairs awaiting the attendees. The vast space is slowly filling, the atmosphere buzzing with anticipation. Seated at a table, Choi marvels at the incredible feat of initializing common cells into stem cells, asking if it isn't truly amazing, while Bae, with a hint of exasperation, wonders why she's stuck buying time for him. Chief Researcher Choi, still trying to manage the situation, suggests that Youngjun is tough enough to buy them some time until the actual presenter arrives. He then reluctantly offers to cover for the team himself, if necessary. Youngjun, with a determined expression, agrees to try his best. A sudden, collective gasp echoes through the hall. As the AGEN year-end seminar finally begins, Rosalind and Principal Researcher Bae watch from the audience, impressed by the opening. The announcer's voice booms, introducing the research team's presentation and calling for a round of applause. The audience responds with enthusiastic clapping, filling the large hall. Joo-hyuk Park steps confidently onto the stage, greeting everyone present. Standing at the podium, He acknowledges the long and challenging year, marking its conclusion. As the year draws to a close, ASIN's CTO, Nicholas Kim, poses a reflective question. Has everyone truly achieved the goals set since the beginning of the year? He considers his own efforts, having personally dedicated over an hour to exercise daily and abstained from smoking and drinking, yet a voice within confesses, I failed. The admission echoes a stark realization of his shortcomings, repeating the painful truth, I failed. Nicholas Kim, however, reflects on a different aspect, feeling that their group had recently been fortunate and healthy, while the unnamed speaker grapples with the daunting thought that their goals and objectives seem utterly impossible to achieve. At the Ajin year-end seminar, Joo-hyuk Park stands at the podium, delivering his report, as the unnamed speaker finds a renewed sense of purpose, believing it's their job to crack open the darkroom and look for the light. Nicholas Kim's words echo, reminding him that failure in the process is not an end, but the only chance for success, reinforcing the conviction that it's their collective job to crack open the darkroom and look for the light. As Youngjun Ryu and Rosalind observe the presentation, the unnamed speaker confidently asserts that they have already surpassed the goals of the other researchers on this floor. With newfound resolve, he accepts that it's okay to fail, because they have already surpassed the goals of the other researchers on this floor. A determined smile graces his face as he concludes, there's nothing we cannot solve if we all work hard together. The Ajin year-end seminar continues, with the goal of today's session being to review the year-end goals set by the CTO's office and the progress made. As Joo-hyuk Park presents, the audience responds with a wave of applause, acknowledging the achievements being highlighted. The clapping intensifies, a resounding testament to the success of their endeavors. He explains that the initial phase of the project, which was deemed impossible by many, was successfully completed through the dedicated efforts of his team. The presenter continues, detailing how they began by focusing on cellular research, a foundational step that proved crucial. Though he was the first to report on the project, he clarifies that the merits of their success should be appropriately distributed, as these achievements reflect a collaborative effort. He then reveals an unexpected collaboration, explaining that the project was developed by working closely with the medical device department. Among the audience, Nicholas Kim nods in agreement, acknowledging the significance of the interdepartmental effort. Another researcher in the audience considers the implications, wondering if the credit for this achievement should be split between the two departments. He continues his presentation, announcing a case study from the medical device department, explaining that current cancer treatments often neglect the patient's overall health by focusing solely on the disease itself. He elaborates on their new approach, which precisely targets and eliminates only the cancer cells within the stomach. Rosalind's eyes widen in surprise, while Youngjun's expression remains fixed on the stage. Nicholas and Minji exchange a look of astonishment, realizing the immense implications of such a breakthrough. Joo-hyuk then reveals the compelling data, showing a significant reduction in tumor size for every patient treated. The audience erupts in applause, with Jinwoo and Hannah joining the enthusiastic ovation. The sound of clapping fills the auditorium, a testament to the groundbreaking achievement. Youngjun, however, can only manage a nervous gulp, his mind racing with the implications. A notification on his phone pulls his attention away, just as the presenter announces the next segment will feature the mobile device department. As the seminar continued, Chief Researcher Choi Jinwoo began his presentation, acknowledging the mobile device department as a long-standing favorite with a positive image. However, he announced that today's presentation would begin with the medical device department, a statement met with murmurs from the audience. He continued, explaining that things had begun to change after this particular presentation, a sentiment that seemed to resonate with the attendees. Among them, principal researcher Minji Bae pondered, wondering where such a focused and chemically driven approach could possibly be applied. On stage, Jinwoo Choi pressed the point, questioning the intense focus on a specific affected area and the chemical methodology, asking if they had considered limiting the side effects. The presentation continued, displaying complex hexagonal patterns on the screen, further illustrating the technical details of their approach. As the seminar's mood grew increasingly hostile, Youngjun Ryu clutched his head, visibly overwhelmed by the unfolding discussion. The tension was palpable, with Rosalind also observing the escalating hostility with a look of deep concern. Later, in a more private setting, Youngjun Ryu sat across a table from another man, the weight of the seminar seemingly still heavy upon him. The seminar continued, finally reaching the presentations from the 6th laboratory, home to the life creation department. As Jinwoo Choi stood before the audience, Youngjun Ryu could only swallow hard, a wave of anxiety washing over him. Youngjun Ryu listens intently as Joo-hyuk Park explains that the company's current situation is far from ideal, with their stock price plummeting. He continues, detailing how the company's value has been cut in half. Youngjun Ryu, looking concerned, asks if there's any way to recover, to which Park replies that it's not impossible, but it won't be easy. Indeed, the once thriving company, a beacon of innovation, had begun to crumble, its employees leaving one by one, a slow, agonizing decline. And then came the final blow, the disbandment of the self-proclaimed ACE department, a clear sign of the company's dire straits. It was now the turn of the health management department, a division that had seen a bit of a boom in recent years, but was now facing the same fate, its future uncertain. Chief Researcher Choi, looking displeased, remarks that it's all because of the new team leader, isn't it? Youngjun Ryu simply looks on, his expression unreadable. A voice echoes through the conference room, stating a phrase that has become all too common. Science is money, and there are thousands of ways to make it. He continues, asserting that concepts must generate profit to be considered sensible, and that research should not be pursued merely for discovery. The speaker's voice sharpens, demanding that their goal should be to create products that sell and bring in profit, dismissing their current presentations as unprofitable. He then challenges their capabilities, claiming that scientists in China and Europe are far more talented, and questioning if their low-temperature method can truly compete. As Chief Researcher Choi's harsh words fill the air, Youngjun Ryu and Rosalind exchange worried glances. The entire room filled with a sullen silence, while Youngjun Ryu himself lets out a quiet groan of discomfort. Choi continues his tirade, loudly proclaiming that someone is completely embarrassing the reputation of the health management scientists. Both Youngjun Ryu and Rosalind visibly flinch, anticipating that the blame will soon fall upon them. Chief Researcher Choi's voice cuts through the tense silence, demanding to know why their productivity has been continuously dropping. His gaze sharpens as he presses further, questioning their failure to release any new products. Across the room, Youngjun Ryu and Rosalind exchange a worried glance, the weight of his words settling. Choi's critique continues, his voice cutting deep as he asks if they are even prepared for their presentation. He dismisses any potential defense, ordering them off the stage with an air of finality. With a final, dismissive clap, Choi turns and begins to walk away. The sound of his footsteps is heavy in the tense silence he leaves behind. He strides out of the room, his presence still dominating the space even as he exits. Youngjun Ryu and Rosalind remain seated, the full weight of Choi's criticism settling heavily upon them. As the meeting continued, Chief Researcher Choi observed the room. While another attendee discreetly took a call, the soft tap of his finger against the phone barely audible. The presentation for the creation department was about to begin, with Choi himself taking the stage. Among the attendees, Hannah Lee listened intently. Meanwhile, a voice urged Youngjun Ryu to hurry, the pressure evident in his expression. In the lab, he worked quickly, transferring substances between vials, as another voice asked if he was finished yet. With a firm okay, let's hurry, he continued his work, Rosalind standing by. His hands moved with practiced speed, a determined look on his face as he declared he was almost done, just a little more. As Chief Researcher Choi continues his presentation, detailing how they are succeeding in initializing stem cells and organizing them into cardiac muscle cells once again, a bead of sweat trickles down Youngjun Ryu's temple, his eye reflecting intense focus and concern. Joo-hyuk Park and Hannah Lee listen intently, while Choi declares their readiness, urging them to proceed. Suddenly, a jarring impact echoes through the lab, a stark reminder that the transplant preparation can no longer wait, demanding an immediate acceleration of their efforts. Meanwhile, Youngjun Ryu moves with hurried steps, his mind racing with the implications of their breakthrough. Hearts can now be crafted from the patient's own scaffolding cells. His expression is grim, focused on the task at hand, as Choi's voice continues to narrate the grand vision, speaking of technology that moves them closer to the realm of science fiction. The pressure mounts on Youngjun Ryu, his brow furrowed with the weight of the critical procedure. A desperate plea escapes his lips, imploring Chief Cheon to hold on just a little longer. 20 minutes into the delicate transfer, glowing particles swirl and coalesce, a testament to the complex biological process underway. Back in the presentation room, Chief Scientist Choi continues his address, unfazed by the urgent calls from the lab and Rosalind, as Joo-hyuk Park, Hannah Lee, and Minji Bae observe the screen with varying degrees of attention. As the presentation continues, the distinct click of a microphone echoes through the hall, while Chief Researcher Choi addresses the audience, declaring, "Hold on, we are currently presenting our advanced stem cell technology." Yet, a sense of desperate urgency persists, a silent plea echoing in the mind of Youngjun Ryu, who thinks, "We must accelerate before it's too late." Sweat beads on his brow as he recalls a harsh critique. "All you've done is trace the patterns and put them on a slide." Unaware of the internal turmoil, Chief Researcher Choi continues, his voice sharp, "It looks like you're listening to me, but you're not really listening at all." Nicholas Kim, observing from the audience, feels a surge of irritation, thinking, "Do you have anything to add and want to interrupt me in the middle of this great?" Chief Researcher Choi's voice cuts through the air. "Is science a joke to you?" He continues, clarifying his stance. "I've never said that an experiment is a joke, not for a single moment. You said it's your job to make sure scientists are working for the company in a safe manner." Nicholas Kim, still deep in thought, reflects on the implications of Choi's words. If luck isn't on your side, then it's only natural to not be able to find a cure for a malady. He then reminds himself, today's an important day for the CTO. Chief Researcher Choi continued his presentation, his voice cutting through the air with a sharp critique. Pressing on with dismissive words, he questioned the value of a decade's work and the audacity of presenting useless research. Elsewhere, a frantic rush unfolded, two figures sprinting down a brightly lit corridor. Back in the seminar hall, the audience remained seated, their attention fixed on the stage. When Rosalind and Youngjun Ryu arrived, their expressions a mix of confusion and concern as they took in the scene. Nicholas Kim, seated among the attendees, glanced over, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. Rosalind's eyes then widened in alarm as she spotted something, calling out to Ryu. Youngjun Ryu, visibly distraught and out of breath, bowed deeply, his apology for being late barely audible. Exhaustion and distress were etched onto his face, his ragged breathing filling the sudden silence. Amidst the low murmur of the control room, Rosalind diligently works at a console, her fingers flying across the keyboard as the system optimizes. Her concentration unwavering, she ensures every detail is perfect, knowing the weight of the upcoming presentation rests on her work. Meanwhile, Youngjun watches with a bead of sweat tracing his temple, a nervous question escaping his lips about the person on the podium. He feels a sudden wave of self-doubt, a quiet voice questioning his own strength. The pressure mounts as a colleague confirms the preparations are complete, insisting that the presentation must happen now. The low murmurs of the gathered team fill the room, their collective anticipation hanging heavy in the air. His brow furrows, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple as the man before him questions the delay, demanding to know why the department couldn't even prepare a simple presentation. Bowing deeply, Joo-hyuk Park offers a formal apology, acknowledging the department's shortcomings and promising to make up for lost time. He continues, explaining that despite the previous issues, they have now completed all preparations for the presentation. The material they are about to present, he emphasizes, holds the potential to revolutionize the entire industry, making it a critical moment for their department. Turning to Ryu Youngjun, Joo-hyuk Park instructs him to prepare the file, telling him to go first for the presentation. As the others in the control room watch on, Joo-hyuk Park questions why they keep meeting like this, implying a pattern of last-minute preparations or unexpected challenges. He then sternly warns against cutting corners or departments, his voice echoing with a silent intensity. Ryu Youngjun's internal thoughts betray his growing unease, admitting to himself that he has no idea what he's doing anymore. As Joo-hyuk Park concludes, stating they will move on to the next program, Ryu Youngjun's face remains etched with apprehension. A man with glasses and a neatly tied ponytail looks on, his expression grim as he mutters, "Hold on, Hyuntech." His eyes narrow, a sense of urgency in his voice as he adds, "Let's head out at least." A close-up reveals the stubble on his jaw, emphasizing the stress etched onto his face. The scene shifts abruptly, transitioning to a vast, star-filled expanse, before settling on Joo-hyuk Park, who stands before a large screen, addressing an unseen audience. He gestures confidently, announcing, "Now please take a look at the screen here." The man from the earlier scene, Hyuntech, appears again, his face still etched with concern, as he questions, "What's this?" The perspective shifts to the audience, their backs to the viewer, as one of them asks, "Well, what about them?" Joo-hyuk Park, still presenting, responds with a confident smile, "We've got them." Elsewhere, two men in suits are in distress, one laughing maniacally while the other clutches his head, lamenting, "He's gone mad. He's mad. Everything that we've built, it was all for a total waste." He confidently begins his presentation, a broad smile on his face, as the team's project is introduced. His words echo through the room, detailing their ambitious goal to create artificial cells. The presentation continues, outlining the process of cultivating embryonic stem cells to reverse aging, while in a separate lab, Youngjun Ryu and Rosalind look on with concern. Joo-hyuk Park stands before the audience, his posture radiating absolute conviction. He declares that if commercialized, this technology would elevate life creation to a task fully within human grasp. A wave of laughter ripples through the room, a mix of excitement and perhaps a touch of unease, as the other executives react to his bold claims. His expression sharpens as he poses a rhetorical question, hinting at the deeper implications of their research. Dismissing any premature judgment, he clarifies that the embryonic stem cell research has been set aside, emphasizing their focus remains purely on scientific inquiry. Yet, the underlying truth remains. If those embryonic stem cells are improved, the potential for commercialization is undeniable. A bead of sweat trickles down Youngjun Ryu's temple, his eyes wide with silent apprehension. Meanwhile, Joo-hyuk Park continues his presentation, asserting that the next step in their research is unavoidable, even as Chief Researcher Choi in the audience expresses disbelief at the unfolding experiment. Ryu lets out a soft gasp of shock as Park clarifies, insisting they are not using any embryos in their process. In a separate lab, Hannah Lee, Minji Bae, and Nicholas Kim pore over data, noting severe discrepancies and questioning who is responsible for the irregularities, with one of them urgently asking if the data has been extracted yet. The presentation continues, revealing that these remarkable cells were derived not from embryos, but from adult cells taken directly from bone marrow. A vibrant glow emanates from the microscopic image as the process is detailed. Before initializing their embryonic stem cells, they introduce specific factors like CMYC and October 4th. Ryu's face is a mask of utter astonishment, his mind reeling from the implications, while Park looks on with a determined, almost defiant expression. Both men are left in a state of profound concern, grappling with the magnitude of the scientific breakthrough. The screen then displays the final, astonishing results, a shimmering, vibrant image of the successfully reprogrammed cells. A look of profound shock washes over Chief Researcher Choi's face, his eyes wide with disbelief as a collective gasp ripples through the audience. Meanwhile, Joo-hyuk Park sits across from Rosalind, a calm, almost knowing expression on his face, while she stares at him with a mixture of apprehension and confusion. The presenter's voice cuts through the murmurs, asking for a moment of attention, before a graphic of the Agin Stem Cells Department flashes on screen. Hyuntaek, his brow furrowed, voices the collective astonishment, demanding to know if they've truly managed to revert common cells back into stem cells. Joo-hyuk Park, unfazed by the uproar, simply states, "It's true, and I can prove it." He gestures to the screen, displaying the experimental data, as a low murmur of disbelief and speculation spreads through the assembled researchers. Chief Researcher Choi, still reeling, questions the validity of the evidence, wondering if it's truly possible to create artificial cells from common ones, as Youngjin Ryu listens intently in the background. Joo-hyuk Park, with a confident smile, explains that the cells on display are cardiac muscle cells, a testament to the success of their reprogramming efforts. He then declares their ultimate goal, to grow these cells to create heart muscles, a revelation that elicits another collective gasp of astonishment from Chief Researcher Choi and Rosalind. He continues, explaining that theoretically, they could create an artificial heart. Chief Researcher Choi and Hyuntaek look on, stunned, as a gulp escapes one of them. The process, he clarifies, is exactly the same as existing stem cell technology. And with these stem cells, they can be differentiated into any type of cell. Hannah Lee, her expression serious, asks if he would mind explaining it in further detail. Joo-hyuk Park leans into the microphone, ready to elaborate. Chief Researcher Choi and Hyuntaek exchange a look of disbelief. Youngjun Ryu watches intently, a thoughtful gulp escaping him, while Chief Researcher Choi and Hyuntaek remain visibly shocked. The room is filled with researchers, all eyes on Joo-hyuk Park, as he prepares to delve into how the cells are initialized. He confirms, yes, of course. Youngjin Ryu stands before a large screen, explaining the intricate functions of the endoplasmic reticulum and the initialization of stem cells. He further elaborates, drawing a comparison to the natural development of embryos. Chief Researcher Choi, Principal Researcher Bae, Hannah Lee, and Joo-hyuk Park listen intently from the audience, their focused expressions betraying their deep engagement with the complex material. Youngjin Ryu continues his presentation, his voice steady and assured. With a confident stance, he gestures towards the detailed graphs and data projected behind him, reinforcing his scientific findings. A wave of impressed murmurs sweeps through the audience, with exclamations of "wow," "incredible," "amazing," and "he's a genius" filling the room, as Youngjin Ryu concludes his presentation with a subtle, satisfied smile. The sound of applause erupts, filling the hall as Joo-hyuk Park joins in, while Jinwoo Choi lets out a soft exclamation of awe, and Youngjin Ryu stands before them. His eye widens slightly in surprise at the overwhelming reception, as Rosalind and Hannah Lee also contribute to the thunderous ovation. Minji Bae and Hyuntaek add their own enthusiastic claps, the sound echoing through the room. Chief Researcher Choi glances at a screen, a quiet hum of activity accompanying his focus, while Ryu walks with a sense of purpose, and Nicholas Kim observes intently from his own display. Park reflects on the moment, thinking that this is the true essence of innovation, the very frontier of biological science. Hyuntaek voices his admiration, stating his amazement at the level of work presented at their institution by Dr. Youngjin Ryu. Youngjin begins to speak, acknowledging the different positions within the company. Before Kim then offers his sincere thanks, speaking to him as a fellow biologist. As the presentation concludes, the chief researcher addresses the audience, acknowledging the hard work of all the life creation members, before calling for a big round of applause. Beside him, Joo-hyuk Park clears his throat, a subtle signal of approval. The chief researcher himself begins to clap, leading the enthusiastic response. In the audience, Rosalind joins in, her hands meeting with a soft clap. Hannah Lee and Minji Bae also add their applause, a wave of appreciation spreading through the room. Youngjin Ryu, too, claps along, his expression thoughtful. Hyuntaek and Nicholas Kim enthusiastically clap, their hands meeting with a distinct whap sound. Amidst the ongoing applause, Youngjin Ryu looks forward, a subtle sense of satisfaction on his face. He claps enthusiastically, a wide grin spreading across his face as the sound of applause fills the air. A wave of relief and triumph washes over him, the unspoken sentiment echoing through the room. We did it. The entire research team was met with a standing ovation, and an awards ceremony for those who achieved this remarkable feat followed shortly after, a testament to their collective effort. Unfortunately, the life creation team didn't receive the grand prize, but Youngjin Ryu, recognized as the innovative researcher, was given a special recognition award. Later, surrounded by his colleagues, he shares a moment of genuine laughter, the joy of their achievement palpable. Looking up, a sense of wonder washes over him as he realizes that with this recognition, their project has received new strength, opening doors to unforeseen possibilities. His eye widens slightly, overwhelmed by the thought that so many unexpected results came out all at once, leaving him barely able to think straight. A thoughtful expression settles on his face as he reflects, unable to believe how far they've truly come. The presentation concludes to a chorus of thanks, marking it as a resounding success. A rare, genuine smile graces his face, a feeling of happiness he hasn't known in some time. His phone vibrates, pulling him from his thoughts, as a familiar voice asks if he's free. Confirming the details, he acknowledges the need for a final check before they proceed. He reassures the caller, confirming the timeline for an upcoming task as he walks past Hannah. Hannah offers a pleasant smile. The sound of a door closing marks the end of a brief encounter. As he continues his conversation, he inquires about the candidate list, expecting the data to arrive by the end of the following week. A knowing smirk plays on his lips, pleased with his decision to entrust the matter to Selion. He ends the call, thanking the person on the other end and asking to be informed of the results, musing that just one more step will finally complete the project. Meanwhile, a woman with vibrant red hair stands nearby. As Youngjun continues walking, his gaze fixed on his phone, a soft sound makes him look up, and he greets someone named Seo Hyun. The red-haired woman smiles, acknowledging that it's been a while. Her eyes hold a knowing look as she expresses relief that certain emotions aren't visible on his face. And he responds, a bit surprised, that he hadn't expected her to say anything to Selion, while she adds that she's glad they could meet in person. She then mentions having dinner soon and needing to leave, but not before asking Youngjun what happened to Dr. Ryu. Hannah Lee turns to him, a soft sound escaping her lips, her expression unreadable. He meets her eyes as she offers a congratulation, acknowledging his recent award. Youngjun looks away, a brief pause hanging in the air as she continues, praising his achievement before adding a caveat about future success. Walking past him, she suggests he should first address matters with Chief Kim. He looks down, the implication of her words sinking in, repeating her phrase with a hint of confusion. She reaches out, her voice softening as she promises to help him with the senior members in oncology. A nervous laugh escapes him, his eyes widening in discomfort as she addresses him directly. Her grip tightens on his hand with a soft, tacked sound, and he demands to be released. Her gaze remains fixed, an intense determination burning in her eyes. Still holding his hand, Hannah Lee listens as Youngjun Ryu explains that he doesn't mind the self-serving attitudes of others, but if the discussion involves Chief Kim, his discomfort becomes palpable, a bead of sweat forming on his temple. He clears his throat, trying to change the subject, but she cuts him off, feigning ignorance, claiming she doesn't know what he's talking about, before pausing expectantly. Seeing his hesitation, she softens her tone slightly, apologizing if she seems too pushy, but insists she has her own valid reasons for her persistence, ready for any consequences. She reiterates her core message, advising him that if he wishes to maintain his standing, he must resolve things with Chief Kim, reminding him that she is there to help. Overwhelmed by her intensity and the implications of her words, Youngjun Ryu can only offer a quiet apology. He tries to excuse himself, mentioning his position and the people waiting for him outside, attempting to create a reason to leave the uncomfortable conversation. Hannah Lee watches him, a hint of disappointment in her eyes, remarking on how much he's giving her and questioning why he's become so cold. As he turns to walk away, she calls out his name, her voice echoing in the quiet space. The evening is filled with the clinking of glasses and the low hum of conversation. As Jin Woo Choi throws his head back in hearty laughter, a beer glass held loosely in his hand. His mirth is infectious, echoing through the lively establishment, a wide smile spreading across his face. The golden liquid in his glass sloshes gently with each burst of amusement. Later, as the conversation continues, a voice calls out, Dr. Ryu. And Hyun-taek leans in, his expression serious, to impart some wisdom. Let me tell you something as an older scholar, it's not as your department head. He listens intently as Hyun-taek continues, suggesting he should have gone to Jin. A look of surprise crosses his face, wondering why this wasn't mentioned sooner, as Hyun-taek expresses deep regret for not having shared this opportunity before. Youngjun Ryu admits he had considered it, while Hyun-taek internally muses on the implications should Dr. Ryu actually leave. Hyun-taek then advises him to return to his long-term employee mindset, insisting he shouldn't be held back by him. Later, at a social gathering, Minji Bae nods in agreement with the statement, as the conversation shifts to a more personal topic. She then turns to Youngjun Ryu, asking about his dreams, a question that makes him pause in thought. Minji Bae observes the group, noting that the discussion is becoming too personal. Youngjun Ryu remains silent for a moment, his expression unreadable. Finally, he responds with a firm, almost dismissive, "No, sir." Youngjun Ryu shares his aspiration to live as freely as possible, prompting Hannah Lee to inquire about his definition of freedom, while Jin Woo Choi playfully suggests it involves looking like a scientist. He then muses that pursuing such a dream might lead to losing one's passion along the way. Hannah Lee, however, interjects with her own dream, a desire to see them married, confident they'll remain the same, as Minji Bae hums thoughtfully. Youngjun Ryu admits honestly that he once believed he could earn a substantial income through research, but found it to be a challenging path. A moment of quiet reflection passes between them. Later, in a different setting, he ponders his options, questioning where he could possibly go, lamenting the lack of comparable advanced research facilities and support within Korea. Hyuntech acknowledges the truth of his statement, adding that Arjun's unique capabilities make it irreplaceable at this juncture. He then offers a broader perspective, reminding him that Korea isn't the only option, as numerous overseas locations boast even more advanced facilities. Youngjun Ryu concedes the point, but counters that most of those places operate differently from what they're accustomed to, a fact he's sure his colleague already knows. With a knowing smile, Hannah suggests that some paths are perhaps best left untaken. Meanwhile, a deep sigh escapes Jin-Woo Choi, his expression etched with weariness. Hannah then proposes a more conventional route for Youngjun Ryu, asking why he doesn't consider a professorship, given his background in stem cell research. He pauses, lost in thought. Youngjun Ryu explains his reluctance to develop something only for it to be immediately bought out by the market. He clarifies his true ambition, to create something that will genuinely change the world. Hannah acknowledges his capabilities but questions his continued focus on Arjun, implying it's not benefiting the world as much as it could, drawing a parallel to Professor Minji-Bei's research being acquired. Youngjun Ryu firmly states that Arjun is far too significant to be commercialized or weaponized, emphasizing that the patent rights belong to all of them. A close-up on a document reveals the contentious phrase, "the patent rights, to all of us," followed by a voice questioning if such terms would ever be accepted. He explains that while the company would claim the rest of the rights, they would typically only receive a tiny percentage of it. The rest of the rights, of course, would belong to the company. However, Jinwoo interjects, stating that their team's situation is entirely different. Youngjun, undeterred, believes it's still possible to find a solution. Hannah ponders if management would agree, suggesting that perhaps Nicholas, the CTO, might know more. Jinwoo reassures them, promising to handle the details and telling them not to worry. Youngjun hums thoughtfully, then states that if they are willing to fight for an independent research authority for Arjun, then Jinwoo, looking directly at him, asks what he truly desires. Youngjun's gaze is firm as he replies that he wants Arjun to be absolutely free. He looks on with concern as Hannah Lee, with a determined expression, states her intention to secure Arjun's intellectual property. Jinwoo Choi then proposes a path forward, suggesting that he become a shareholder to allow Youngjun to manage things his way, a proposition that clearly surprises him. Though Jinwoo Choi admits the idea sounds far-fetched, Youngjun remains resolute, affirming that despite the challenges, it's the only viable option. He pauses, deep in thought, his expression reflecting the weight of his conviction. Meanwhile, the diamond reel deal continues to unfold, as Jinwoo Choi considers the implications of Youngjun's unwavering stance. Youngjun then reveals the full scope of his ambition, declaring his desire to completely reformat the entire system and reinstall its operating software, a statement that elicits a sharp gasp from Jinwoo Choi. Later, over drinks, Jinwoo Choi, still reeling from the revelation, asks how long Youngjun has harbored such radical thoughts. He then exclaims that Youngjun isn't merely a character from a book, but a truly genuine human being. Youngjun, with a firm gaze, clarifies that while he won't issue ultimatums, he has no intention of abandoning his vision. As the conversation continues, the thought echoes that Arjun was brought into existence in just a week, prompting one to declare, "I'm your fan, Dr. Ryu." Considering the financial implications, even with vast sums of money, it's impossible to acquire that many shares, and the current situation is certainly complicated. Jinwoo Choi warns that management would simply devour him alive, but Youngjun Ryu counters, that's the case for them. He explains that while his plan might not work for any other company, Arjun is built on a blockchain. He intends to reformat Arjun's entire infrastructure to become a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization that would halt research on unrelated stem cells. His hand clenches with resolve, as he envisions the company growing organically, like a seed. Jinwoo Choi, however, remains unconvinced, finding the idea unrealistic. He ponders the implications once unregulated stem cells become commercialized, and research begins on disorders using them. Youngjun Ryu reiterates his belief that reforming the management is the only viable path, a sentiment Hannah Lee echoes. "I think so too." Elsewhere, Hannah Lee declares that the corporation and its leadership are the guiding light, while Minji-Bei admits to a complex, love-hate relationship with the place. In another corner, Nicholas Kim begins to formulate a question, while Hyuntech offers a confident reassurance. "I'm sure you'll be able to do it." He considers the implications, wondering if they would come with a hammer instead, or perhaps even a chainsaw. Meanwhile, among the gathered Arjun staff, Joohyuk Park claps his hands together, urging everyone to drink, declaring that enough has been said. Glasses clink together as they toast to life's creation. From a high vantage point, the city stretches out, a dense tapestry of buildings under a clear sky. Inside, a small plant thrives on a minimalist table, bathed in soft light. A groan escapes him as he stirs in bed, a tremor running through his body. Another muffled sound of discomfort follows, his face contorting in agony. Finally sitting up, Youngjun Ryu clutches his head, the pain a crushing weight. A sharp, throbbing pain echoes through Youngjun Ryu's head, a clear sign that his body's balance has been severely disrupted by excessive drinking. A notification chimes, reminding him that drinking will generate the necessary chemicals for his recovery, and he groans, acknowledging the message. Stretching as he sits up, he realizes the time, muttering about how late it is and how completely knocked out he must have been. His gaze falls upon the pills on his nightstand, a silent reminder that he should really take better care of himself, just as Rosalind had advised. Sitting on the edge of his bed, phone in hand, he reflects on how long it's been since he's had a truly good night's sleep. A determined expression crosses his face as he considers the many other responsibilities awaiting him, things far more important than sleeping the day away as he used to. He checks his bank balance, seeing the prize money from the research award, a staggering 100 million won, and notes the substantial amount they paid him. Despite the large sum, a look of frustration crosses his face, knowing it's still not enough to pay back his parents, though he decides to let that burden rest for a while. As he puts his phone away, he resolves to send the rest of the money to his parents and eventually pay them back fully. He stirs, a hand reaching out from beneath the covers. As the bed creaks softly beneath him, a thought forms in his mind, a quiet calculation about the research bonus he expects in a month or so. He considers the flu medicine patent, confident there shouldn't be any issues with its approval. With these two sources of income, he anticipates having some financial breathing room. He envisions the combined funds from the flu medicine patent and the research bonus, enough to send his parents some money, and even establish new research funds in their name, a surprise he knows they'll appreciate. This is all part of his journey to becoming a truly significant figure. He scrutinizes his current physical state, noting his fitness level is barely above zero. Even after hours of jogging, his body still struggles to recover, a faint blue glow indicating the lingering strain. The very concept of fitness feels alien to him, yet a new resolve begins to stir. He reluctantly concedes, knowing he can't avoid the necessary effort. Years spent confined to the lab have left him weak and stiff, and he understands it's time to push himself. A determined smile touches his lips as he prepares for the change. With a deep yawn and a stretch, he readies his body for the exertion ahead. Outside, the vibrant city park awaits, bathed in the soft light of the day, where people move along the river, a stark contrast to his previous sedentary life. Youngjun Ryu pushes himself forward, his feet pounding a steady rhythm against the ground. A soft sigh escapes him, his brow furrowed in concentration. Suddenly, a clear notification rings out, informing him that his breathing is optimizing. As he continues his run, more messages flood his vision, announcing a temporary 10% increase in his stamina, the acquisition of the endurance skill, and a permanent increase to his stamina stat. His stride feels lighter, more powerful, and a thought crosses his mind. Good. This makes running so easy. Despite the newfound ease, the exertion is still evident in his heavy, rhythmic breathing, a testament to the effort he's putting in. He continues his relentless pace, the sound of his footsteps a constant drumbeat of progress. The urban landscape blurs around him as he runs beneath a towering overpass. Sunlight streams down from above, illuminating his path as he pushes onward. As he continues his training, a sudden sight catches his eye, drawing a surprised exclamation from him. Turning to face the unexpected presence, he asks who she is. The woman, recognizing him, responds with a question of her own, identifying him as the pharmacist. He confirms his identity, explaining that he is Ryu Young-jun, the one who failed to pick up the medicine, as a friendly golden retriever greets them both. As they begin to walk, the dog playfully sniffs at his leg, its tail wagging happily. The woman looks on, a hint of confusion on her face, while the dog seems to be praising his own kind. With a shared laugh, he expresses his pleasure at finally exchanging names. Smiling warmly, she introduces herself as Ji-hyun Kong, sharing a light-hearted laugh. He acknowledges the introduction, as the happy dog continues to express its joy. He gently scratches the golden retriever behind the ears, a soft wagging sound accompanying his touch. The dog responds with happy huffs, leaning into his touch as its owner watches on. Confirming the dog's identity, Ji-hyun reveals, yes, her name's Brownie, a name the dog seems to echo with an excited bark. He expresses surprise at the effort required to raise such a large dog, but Ji-hyun assures him, she's not too bad, actually. Standing together in the park, she explains that Brownie is a good girl, usually at home, but she takes her out for walks often enough. He acknowledges her words, still gently petting the dog, which continues to huff contentedly. Then, Ji-hyun shifts the conversation, asking if he's looking for a pet, before clarifying that she's actually looking for a new owner for Brownie. As a system message flashes before his eyes, offering a detailed explanation about fitness consumption at 0.04 per second, he exclaims, "Pardon." He recalls having heard of such a thing before, a faint memory from his days studying. As the system displays information about virology, specifically noting that it doesn't infect animals, especially canines. Meanwhile, Ji-hyun looks on with a worried expression, wondering what she should do next. Ryu, seeing the dog's distress, decides to try the detection mode first, initiating the scan on Brownie. The system confirms the initiation of detection mode, and a tense silence falls as it processes the data. A soft, shimmering aura envelopes Brownie, indicating the scan is complete. Ryu's eyes widen in surprise, realizing that Brownie's energy isn't just regular mana. Determined, he gently pets Brownie, vowing to do something about this unusual discovery. Meanwhile, Ji-hyun coaxes Brownie to come along, deciding to head to the pharmacy for help. Still worried for her pet, Ji-hyun Kang insists on going to the pharmacy, asking if it's truly the right place. Youngjun Ryu, caught off guard by her urgency, can only manage a surprised exclamation. As she pulls away, a subtle, spherical barrier shimmers around the small dog. A phenomenon only he can perceive. He realizes the mana he detected wasn't just unusual. It formed a protective shield, preventing others from touching Brownie. This invisible defense is something only his unique perception can register. Ji-hyun Kang continues on her way, leaving him standing alone, grappling with this new revelation. A cryptic message then appears, questioning his engagement with the unfolding mystery. Youngjun Ryu sits comfortably with Brownie on his lap, offering a calm reassurance that everything will be fine. He then holds up a small vial, his expression expectant, as if waiting for a crucial result. A moment later, examining another, he sighs in disappointment, muttering that this one isn't it either. Suddenly, his eyes widen, a flash of intense surprise crossing his face as something unexpected catches his attention. He holds up a card, his brow furrowed in confusion, still processing the startling discovery. His eyes widen, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple as he stares at the card in disbelief, a single word escaping his lips. What? Meanwhile, in his lab, Youngjun carefully examines a vial, noting its properties are similar to hormones, secreted from adrenal glands, and acting as a potent anti-inflammatory medicine. Yet, he realizes, it's also incredibly effective in suppressing and preventing the spread of something unknown, a secret the world has yet to discover. Elsewhere, Ji-hyun kneels beside Brownie, who lies on his back, asking the dog to hold his head up for a second. She gently squeezes a tube, preparing to apply the medicine. With Brownie now cradled in her arms, she coaxes him closer, murmuring, "Come here, Brownie." As she carefully applies the ointment to his ear, a sudden voice cuts through the air, demanding, "What are you doing here?" Ji-hyun looks up, startled, as Youngjun confronts her, and she quickly explains, "That's an important heartworm medicine." But he points a finger, his voice rising in disbelief. "What are you doing here? Do you even know? You're crazy." He grabs her arm, his voice sharp with disbelief, demanding to know why she would do such a thing, ordering her to stop immediately. Despite his grip, she manages to flick a bottle labeled disinfectant/bandage from a shelf, her fingers deftly securing it. A soft whimper escapes her lips, her face etched with distress. Meanwhile, Brownie, seemingly oblivious to the tension, happily licks his lips, small bubbles forming around his mouth. The sight of the dog's contentment causes a flicker of surprise to cross Youngjun's face, a sudden realization dawning on him. Ji-hyun calls out to Brownie, holding a bowl with liquid still splashing within it. He continues his accusation, convinced she's trying to make the dog vomit, insisting Brownie doesn't need such treatment, that it wasn't peroxide she was holding. Her eyes wide with desperation, Ji-hyun pleads with him to let go, demanding to know what he thinks he's doing to Brownie. Youngjun's face hardens with resolve, declaring she's lying and urging someone to witness the truth. A look of surprise crosses Ji-hyun's face, her eyes wide as she processes the accusation. Meanwhile, Brownie, oblivious to the tension, happily licks his lips, seemingly unaffected by any supposed harm, his tail wagging contentedly. Ji-hyun, looking down at the dog, confirms his well-being, then questions how the situation could have escalated so quickly. She explains that the substance was merely a disinfectant, something she had hesitated to mention earlier out of fear of his reaction, but felt compelled to reveal for Brownie's sake. Youngjun, still skeptical, presses her on how she knew a common ointment would be effective, his gaze unwavering. He hesitates, then admits he can't fully explain, revealing that Rosalind had provided the information, leaving him momentarily flustered. He clarifies that he had seen research studies on materials at work, information he felt was crucial for Brownie, despite his initial reluctance to share it. Ji-hyun listens intently, understanding dawning on her as he speaks of trusting her as a friend, a soft "oh, I see" escaping her lips. With the misunderstanding cleared, Ji-hyun apologizes for her fear regarding Brownie's well-being, and for raising her voice in the heat of the moment. Youngjun Ryu, seemingly relieved, dismisses the previous tension, chuckling that she had startled him a bit. He then adds that she should take Brownie to the vet as soon as possible, before announcing his departure. As he turns to leave, mentioning his need to get back to his running, Ji-hyun Kang holds Brownie, watching him go. Suddenly, she calls out, asking him to wait. Youngjun Ryu pauses, turning back with a questioning sound. They stand facing each other once more in the store aisle. With Brownie's paw resting on her phone, Ji-hyun Kang begins to speak, but before she can finish, Youngjun Ryu interjects, asking if he could get her phone number, explaining that he wants to buy her lunch to thank her. Ji-hyun Kang's eyes widen in surprise, her mind racing as she wonders if he's actually asking her out. As he prepares to leave, a final thought escapes him. "I'm leaving now. Thank you for everything." His footsteps echo softly as he walks away from the building. A new idea sparks in his mind. Animals. But a moment later, a pang of regret hits him. I should have just asked for her number. What a fool I am. His thoughts quickly shift to his work, realizing, unlike medicines for humans, I can bypass clinical testing for animal medicines. He continues, confident that he can even develop medicines for the livestock industry later. Besides, he muses, a lot of people have been interested in his research recently. The market for animal medicines, he concludes, will only keep growing in value. This, he believes, is something that goes beyond anyone's imagination. A late-night call from an attorney interrupts his thoughts, the voice on the other end apologetic for the hour. He assures her it's fine, as the attorney continues, explaining that she has just completed his patent documents. She offers to send them immediately, confirming that this is indeed the reason for her call. Everything seems to be in order, and she mentions a tentative submission date for the data, asking if that works for him. With some help from vendors, she confidently states she can manage the submission within 2 months, assuring him it's no problem. But the mention of 2 months causes a flicker of alarm in Youngjin Ryu's eyes as he questions the timeline, recalling that the entire process was supposed to take a full year, and he still has more documents to submit. His unexpected question leaves the attorney momentarily stunned, her expression shifting to one of surprise as she asks if he has more documents. On the phone, Ms. Lee confirms her intention to handle all the patent filings. She then asks how many documents there are. A stunned expression crosses her face as the reply comes: 122 different patents on 94 diseases. Despite her shock, she maintains her composure, offering to send the necessary forms to his email immediately. A moment of silence passes before she questions, who exactly is this person working for the future of mankind? The reality of the task sinks in, and she realizes she can kiss her weekends and lab results goodbye for months. The sheer volume makes it impossible to finish processing everything in 2 months, as she's already drowning in her current workload. She offers him an out, suggesting he can be frank if the workload is too much. But then, her resolve hardens, and she declares she will make it happen. She hears the words, "Sounds good. I trust you, Ms. Lee," echoing in her mind. As the reality of the task sets in, leaving her overwhelmed by the sheer volume of work now piled up overnight, she wonders what exactly is going on. Meanwhile, on a Monday morning, the focus shifts to Aaron's Gene Lab, a hub of scientific endeavor, where Youngjin Ryu stands with a colleague, both poring over documents, a silent contemplation hanging in the air. A soft thump sounds from his desk, where his nameplate clearly identifies him. Then, a sharp snap of paper breaks the quiet, as a thought bursts forth. Is he crazy? He reacts violently, paper scattering with a thud, exclaiming, "What is this paperwork named Youngjin Ryu wrote?" Clutching the documents, he mutters in frustration, "He's a son of the devil." And one box for the biological research department. A man's face contorts in a furious snarl, his thoughts echoing with a single, enraged question. Who the hell does he think he is? His anger boiling over, he slams his fist down with a resounding impact. Still seething, he barks in order to get the bastard on the phone immediately, recalling his initial suspicions about Hyun Tabki and declaring the little punk a tumor to their company. A voice demands that he call that bastard now, the command echoing as his fingers tap against the phone screen, confirming the action. His brow furrows in a moment of intense concentration, his gaze fixed on something unseen. Then, a wave of hesitation washes over him, causing him to pull back from the call. "No, wait," he murmurs, a question forming in his mind. "What?" He decides to take a moment to process, thinking, "Let's think about it," just as a system notification flashes before him, announcing, "Congratulations! You have successfully acquired the Genius DNA skill. You may attempt to use it now." Meanwhile, Ms. Lee finds herself in a similar state of contemplation, lamenting, "And the worst part is, I can't even share this with him yet." Her thoughts drift to their last encounter, a sense of unease settling in. "I can't even tell him the last time I saw him was that. I shouldn't just trifle with him." Despite her reservations, a determined glint enters her eyes as she reaffirms her claim, "But I won't leave him alone. The patent rights are mine, after all." She then ponders, "What should I do?" With a decisive slam of his hand, the man declares his strategy, asserting that the CEO is the only one capable of standing against Nicholas. This man is Shin Man-ji, the operations manager of Nicholas's headquarters, while the director aligned with the CEO is Bae Siana. Shin Man-ji, known for his swift actions when money and profit are involved, insists that someone on their side should be handling business with Nicholas. He makes it clear that they will oppose Youngjin Ryu immediately, even if Nicholas chooses to side with him. With a curt command, he instructs his subordinate to send the information directly to Nicholas's headquarters, receiving an immediate affirmation. A sharp click echoes as he reaches for the door handle. Before the scene shifts to another man, flanked by 2 imposing figures, standing in what appears to be a dimly lit, tense meeting. The sound of a switch being flicked punctuates the silence. A man stretches, loosening up with a soft rustle of fabric. A silent thought hangs in the air, wondering what could possibly happen next. The next day arrives, bringing with it a new atmosphere. The man walks purposefully through the office, his footsteps echoing softly. This is Bo Hyun-yoon, the new operations headquarters team leader. He works for Life Creation. Meanwhile, in the bustling office, a group of employees whispers, one asking what exactly is going on, while another laments that things have been crazy ever since the Hyundai oil guy became CEO. The first employee then adds that they sent someone from headquarters instead of the expected person. Unaware of the gossip, Bo Hyun-yoon steps into an office, ready to begin his day. Everyone has been talking about Youngjun and his accomplishments at the year-end seminar, a fact he acknowledges as he reviews documents. He calmly states that he did stay outside for a day or two. Across from him, Shin Man-ji simply offers a non-committal hum, his expression unreadable. Young Jun then addresses him directly, acknowledging that Shin Man-ji is a smart man who knows how to handle paperwork and that the proportion of patent rights was a big deal. Shin Man-ji listens intently, his gaze fixed. He then questions if Young Jun truly understands the situation, noting that his experience isn't found anywhere else in the industry. Young Jun, with a slight frown, responds that he knows that already, but Shin Man-ji continues, explaining that there's so much research to do with that money, and he's the final authority to give approval, ensuring no one can use the technology for their own gain. He then challenges Young Jun, asking if he truly believes the entire headquarters would just ignore his claim. Young Jun internally questions the audacity of the man across from him, who claims ownership over a project developed by A-Jin simply because he's now involved. Meanwhile, Shin Man-ji's own thoughts betray his irritation, finding the situation utterly absurd. He then challenges Young Jun directly, asking what he plans to do if he decides to confront A-Jin, before adding a dismissive remark that Young Jun might not even have a reason to fight. Young Jun, however, remains steadfast, emphasizing the hard work his colleagues put into acquiring the data. Shin Man-ji dismisses his concern, clarifying that the funds aren't for personal gain, but to continue their research, before launching into a condescending tirade about nobodies in management thinking they should be in charge of projects. Young Jun's expression hardens as he declares he will never allow such interference with his project. Shin Man-ji observes him, noting his stubborn nature. He then warns Young Jun that the entire operations team is likely in an uproar because of him, and if they don't resolve the matter today, he'll call him again. With a final, seemingly understanding but subtly threatening tone, Shin Man-ji tells him to just let him know whenever he's ready. The confrontation begins as a document is laid on the desk, a clear directive from management. With a grim expression, Shin Man-ji declares he can no longer continue in his current capacity, a dark cloud hanging over the conversation, while Young Jun's eye shows a flicker of concern. Meanwhile, Bo Hyun-yoon expresses regret, acknowledging the unfortunate turn of events despite the recent recognition Young Jun had received around campus. Shin Man-ji then warns Young Jun that the situation is only going to become more difficult. Young Jun, however, lets out a soft sigh, dismissing the threat with a quiet thought about his lack of fear. Bo Hyun-yoon apologizes for his inability to offer more assistance, a subtle gesture of powerlessness. Turning away, Young Jun resolves to return to his research, his focus unwavering. 2 days later, the sun shines brightly over the corporate building, hinting at the passage of time and perhaps new developments. 2 days later, the towering A-Jin headquarters building stands prominently in Yongsan-dong, where he finds himself at a reception desk, facing a stern-looking man in a suit. The nameplate on the desk identifies him as Operations Director Gwang Min-ji. Later, Young Jun lies on a medical bed, as Gwang Min-ji leans over him, demanding to know. What is it that you're planning, Dr. Ryu? I'm asking what you're planning on doing after putting this patient in this condition through. Gwang Min-ji's expression remains unyielding, his gaze fixed on the young doctor. Young Jun, however, meets his gaze with unwavering resolve, stating his intention to research more about the new findings and develop stronger new medicine. Gwang Min-ji sighs, reminding him that he spoke to Shin Man-ji, who agreed to let him go as long as his actions were somewhat reasonable. He warns that Young Jun's current path will put Gwang Min-ji in Megaland with their competitors, urging him to stick to what he's good at and let go of their club. Operations Director Gwang Min-ji continues to press Young Jun Ryu, reminding him that A-Jin's policies are clear. Any research conducted by an employee belongs to the company. He warns that if Young Jun were to file a patent application for new products, it would be considered a breach of contract, and the company would pursue legal action against him. The director then asks if Young Jun truly believes his plan will work, suggesting that A-Jin's legal team would easily crush any attempt to circumvent their employee agreements. He leans forward, his expression stern, asserting that Young Jun's actions could lead to severe consequences, and questions if he can truly handle the fallout. Young Jun, however, remains unfazed, his gaze firm as he considers the director's words, acknowledging the scope of the situation but showing no sign of backing down. The director continues, explaining that the scope of A-Jin's facilities and influence is immense, and that they are always looking for new talent to acquire. He warns that not only would Young Jun's research be absorbed, but any pharmaceutical company he might approach would also be targeted by A-Jin on a massive scale. The director concludes his warning, stating that Young Jun must already know what a headache an international patent battle could be, and that it would ultimately be a huge waste of time for him. He emphasizes that A-Jin might even lose its grip on the entire industry due to such a distraction, implying the company's power is so vast that even a minor challenge could ripple through the market. Young Jun asserts his indispensability, questioning if anyone else at A-Jin could possibly continue his research, believing no one comes to mind. Observing his defiance, Gwang Min-ji dismisses him as nothing more than a little punk. Despite the director's scorn, Young Jun appears remarkably prepared for the challenges ahead. Did you see that guy who walked into the director's office earlier? Ryu, Young Jun asks. He's a total nut job. Rosalind leans forward slightly, her curiosity piqued. How really nut job is he? She clicks her mouse, adding, a nut job with a religious level of determination? He's a research ethics fanatic. Ryu, Young Jun considers this, then begins, I won't be surprised if he goes 3 times toward Kant's tomb every night to sleep every night. A bright, almost ethereal glow emanates. Meanwhile, in a different office, Gwangmin Ji sits at his desk, while Shin Man Ji stands nearby. Ryu Youngjun listens intently, his expression unreadable. Gwangmin Ji hums thoughtfully, then remarks that Ryu is definitely Boss Hyuntek's son, just like him, with a dismissive sound. He then challenges the younger man, stating that he'll have to back up his claims eventually. Ryu Youngjun acknowledges the difficulty in trusting him. But Gwangmin Ji presses, asking for an example. He then declares that he sees the guarantee that his future research will be just as successful. The older man's hand clenches, and Ryu Youngjun repeats that he understands the difficulty in trusting him. He promises results within a month, a time frame Gwangmin Ji immediately questions. Ji confirms that a month is indeed enough time. Ryu acknowledges his limited personal knowledge of Ji, but asserts his deep understanding of science. Gwangmin Ji, however, points out that Ryu's research has only just begun, questioning how he could complete all clinical trials so quickly and hinting at the use of modifies. Ryu simply replies with a confident yes, guaranteeing his success. Ji presses further, reminding him that such processes typically take years for most researchers. With a decisive flick, Ryu turns over a document on the table. Gwangmin Ji lets out a thoughtful hum, his posture shifting as if rising in agitation. His composure finally breaks, a frustrated curse escaping him. He ponders the implications of the conversation, a question lingering in his mind. Youngjun confidently asserts his ability to maximize benefits for the company. While Gwangmin Ji listens, his expression betraying deep skepticism. He admits his confusion, unable to comprehend Youngjun's approach. Youngjun then challenges him, asking why a man of his ambition would work for anyone else. Before revealing his true motivation, he started his own business because he needed Gwangmin Ji. Gwangmin Ji retorts, reminding him of the limited infrastructure in Korea, explaining that Ajin is the only entity capable of supporting his research. His gaze hardens as he declares this is his sole reason for being at Ajin. A sharp tap of his foot echoes in the room, and he then looks down, demanding to know if Youngjun understands the gravity of his words. He explains his deepest desire to lessen the suffering of patients afflicted with incurable diseases, and to do so as quickly as humanly possible. Gwangmin Ji listens intently, then asks if Youngjun's motivation is purely his passion for developing new medicines. A single tear escapes Youngjun's eye, a silent testament to his unwavering sincerity. Gwangmin Ji, observing this raw emotion, confirms that is correct. He then considers the potential of a medicine like Rosalind RYLF, realizing that with a truly effective drug, they could even recruit a competitor. Gwangmin Ji's frustration mounts, recalling how Youngjun wouldn't disclose his contact and couldn't even be brought face to face. He attributes this difficulty to Youngjun's perceived inability to judge what is profitable or not. Yet, an internal thought acknowledges that with such ability, Youngjun could easily become a top ranker, the best of the best in development. He knows Youngjun only cares about developing new medicines for patients suffering from incurable illnesses, but then, a sudden thought breaks through. What? Gwangmin Ji finally concedes. Fine, I'll give you a month. He continues, I don't know what will happen, but let's just let things happen, as Youngjun internally processes the challenge. Fine, I'll give you a month. But now, Youngjun thinks, until they'll be able to file the patent application for Rosalind RYLF. Gwangmin Ji watches him, a silent contemplation passing over his face. A fierce resolve burns within Youngjun. He declares with conviction, I promise we won't disappoint you. We'll process the application as if it's our own. Gwangmin Ji remains silent, observing. Youngjun understands he's playing with his reputation on the line, but with a catch. Still holding his hand, Gwangmin Ji informs him of his new assignment to the R&D department. He then adds a crucial condition, stating that Youngjun must share all of his research materials with that department. As Youngjun processes this, Gwangmin Ji watches him intently, a subtle smirk playing on his lips. He continues, emphasizing that to succeed, Youngjun must work harder than anyone else in the department. Youngjun looks up, his expression unreadable as he considers the challenge. After a moment of consideration, Gwangmin Ji's eyes narrow, and he declares his acceptance of the terms. Turning his back, Gwangmin Ji begins to walk away, leaving Youngjun standing alone in the office. He glances back over his shoulder, a dismissive humph escaping his lips. His footsteps echo as he exits the office and heads towards the lobby. He walks through the quiet halls, the 1-month deadline echoing in his mind. A period during which he must perfect the stem cell cultivation method to recreate his recipe, even though they have already begun their clinical trials in that very time frame. A confident smirk plays on his lips, almost feeling bad for his competitors. Arriving at his desk, he settles in, only for Rosalind to approach, surprised by his cheerful demeanor, asking if everything worked out. To which he chuckles, promising a full explanation once everyone else arrives. He then glances at the computer mouse, prompting her to playfully ask if that's what he was so intently focused on. Rosalind mentions her occasional research papers, then shifts the conversation, asking for assistance, while Youngjun looks on with a questioning expression. She clarifies her request, inquiring if he could aid her with animal testing. A moment of stunned silence passes as Youngjun processes her words, a sharp, almost metallic sound echoing his surprise. He questions the notion of animal testing within their department, but then confirms his own ambitious goal to create optic nerves. His gaze holds a profound determination, reflecting the weight and ambition of his words. Still processing the revelation, Rosalind repeats his words, optic nerves, her voice tinged with disbelief. Lost in thought, Youngjun Ryu sips from his cup, contemplating the profound challenge of creating nerve cells in vitro. His colleague, Rosalind, acknowledges the ambition, but quickly points out the current limitations. While they can cultivate cells that form nerve cells, they cannot yet create the nerve cells themselves. She explains that despite the incredible advancements in regenerative medicine and stem cell research, it remains impossible to truly create nerve cells from them. Youngjun expresses a hopeful wish that the situation will change soon, yet concedes the current reality that there's no known way to initiate the process with a different cell. Rosalind, her expression thoughtful, then asks for the fundamental reason behind this scientific barrier. The ambition burns within him, a desire to achieve global recognition and an absolutely astounding scientific breakthrough, perhaps by completely restoring someone's lost vision, or something even more profound. His thoughts drift to the imposing, modern research facility, a place where such dreams might one day become reality. The mice with retinal degeneration have arrived, Rosalind announces, confirming the start of their ambitious project. A grateful voice acknowledges the swift delivery, as a hand carefully handles one of the test subjects. Rosalind watches intently. As Youngjun Ryu, now addressed as Dr. Ryu, declares it's time to begin. The experiment commences with mice that had already lost their sight, stem cells carefully injected into their retinas. Following the initial injection, cells are regenerated and meticulously collected from the subjects. To confirm the formation of new nerve cells, a lentivirus control group is utilized, with new nerve cells injected into each mouse. He expresses his certainty of good results, looking forward to the outcome. A quiet hum fills the lab as Youngjun Ryu and Rosalind meticulously observe their work, both lost in concentration. Inside a petri dish, a faint, ethereal glow begins to emanate from the cultured cells. As the day has finally arrived to collect the results, and Ryu holds the glowing dish with a mix of anticipation and hope. The soft light from the dish reflects in his eyes, a silent testament to the progress within. This is it, the culmination of countless hours and unwavering dedication. Later, Ryu walks towards Rosalind, who sits hunched over a lab bench, both seemingly exhausted by the intense process. A heavy sigh escapes him, the weight of the experiment's outcome pressing down. The narration reminds us of the critical steps, injecting nerve cells into the rodents and utilizing a lentivirus control group to confirm nerve cell formation. And within the petri dish, the vibrant, glowing cells continue their silent, miraculous work. The stem cells had successfully differentiated into optic nerve cells. He reflects on the rapid progress, achieving this milestone in just 3 days. The successful creation of optic nerve cells was indeed incredible. Just as he believed the experiment was nearing its end, Ryu calls out to Ms. Bei, asking for her assistance with a new challenge, a subtle flick of her hair indicating her attention. She acknowledges the unexpected complication, revealing the next step, injecting the newly created nerve cells into the mice. The delicate procedure requires precise insertion of a needle into the mouse's subretinal space, a task far from easy. Sticking a needle into a living animal's eye is an impossible feat for anyone not specifically trained as a physician. With a decisive gesture, she points out that Ryu, not being a veterinarian, is unqualified for such a task, to which he readily agrees. The delicate procedure begins, a syringe poised over the tiny eye of a rabbit, but the task proves more challenging than anticipated. As the struggle continues, Rosalind watches, her expression etched with concern. A bead of sweat forms on Youngjun's brow. As he struggles with the precision required, a quiet mumble escaping him. Observing the difficulty, Rosalind clenches her jaw, the tension palpable. The sheer difficulty of the task weighing heavily, a collective sigh escapes them. Breaking the silence, Rosalind asks, "What's wrong?" As Youngjun pauses, responding, "Just a second." He considers the problem, a thoughtful hum escaping his lips. Then, Rosalind reaches out, offering, "Can I give it a try?" Her voice filled with surprise, she adds, "What? Are you sure? You haven't done this before, Dr. Ryu." Ignoring her concern, his gaze hardens, a new resolve settling in his eyes. As he carefully positions the delicate syringe, he admits, "It's my first time." His colleague, Rosalind, reacts with disbelief, her voice laced with concern as she questions, "First time? Are you serious about this?" Undeterred, he asserts his resolve. "I'm the one who suggested it, aren't I? I want to try as much as I can." The gravity of the situation weighs heavily, as the thought crosses his mind. He intends to insert a fine needle into a rabbit's eye without any prior animal testing experience. It's a miracle he's even reached this point. Now, all they can do is observe what unfolds. With a sigh, Rosalind concedes, "I guess it should be a good experience for you." As he focuses, a sudden surge of energy envelopes him, and a system message flashes, initiating synchronization mode. His eye glows with an intense, electric blue light, reflecting the activation of this mysterious mode. Simultaneously, the rabbit's eye, the target of the injection, also begins to glow with a similar, ethereal blue, a direct connection forming between them. The focus narrows further, revealing a microscopic view of a single, vibrant red cell, pulsating with hexagonal patterns, now visible within the rabbit's eye. With the synchronization mode fully active, the human eye can be observed at a molecular level, a faint blue glow emanating from his iris. The world shrinks to an angstrom, the unit of measurement used for observing things at this minuscule scale, as a vibrant pink energy field expands. The intricate cellular structures become clear, bathed in the ethereal light. His focus narrows, guiding the delicate needle to approach the retina, following the edge of the eye with impossible precision. With the power of the eye, he navigates the microscopic landscape, every detail of the intricate biological machinery laid bare. He can feel the tiny blood vessels and nerves in the back of his fingertips, a sensation both alien and profound, yet a nervous thought still crosses his mind. It's my first time doing this job. No. A brilliant, golden energy erupts from the needle's tip, scattering like 1,000 tiny arrows as the injection is completed. Rosalind watches, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and concern at the spectacle. A moment later, Youngjun turns to her, a hopeful smile on his face, asking if he did a good job, only for her to immediately retort, "Did you do a good job?" No. Despite her critical assessment, Youngjun internally celebrates the procedure, convinced it was the most flawless injection he had ever performed. A small, self-deprecating laugh escapes him as he considers how much his recent online research into animal testing videos must have helped. Meanwhile, Rosalind, observing with Guangmin-ji, urges him to finish the task as quickly as possible, promising to do her best. The two continue to watch intently as Youngjun meticulously works at the lab bench. A bead of sweat trickles down his temple, his concentration absolute. With steady hands, he guides the needle precisely into the delicate eye of the rabbit. The procedure complete, a system message flashes, indicating his fitness is utterly exhausted, leaving him with a weary groan. He laments his current limitations, realizing that working on mere mice is the absolute extent of his abilities right now. Rosalind, however, remains unimpressed, coolly stating that it's no problem for Dr. Ryu. Rosalind stands beside him as Youngjun, beaming with pride, expresses his gratitude for her competent assistance. He continues, explaining that they now only need to await the results of the animal testing and the subsequent data, turning to her to reiterate his thanks for her assistance. Youngjun then reveals his plan to write a thesis and apply for a patent once their current endeavor succeeds, assuring her that her name will be included in both. Rosalind, surprised and genuinely pleased, thanks him, expressing her disbelief at the opportunity to have her name on an official thesis. A slight smile plays on his lips as he tells her it's his reward for her future help. Guangmin-ji, stepping forward, proudly interjects that he was once the best researcher in the animal testing department, offering his assistance anytime. Rosalind eagerly accepts, expressing her gladness to be there. A sudden, sharp buzzing sound cuts through the air, drawing Youngjun's attention. His eyes widen in alarm, fixed on something unseen. After the sudden buzzing sound, he finds himself staring at his phone, an email from Science confirming the acceptance of his thesis, a revelation that leaves him utterly stunned. The imposing structure of Agen's research facility number 4 stands against a clear sky, its modern architecture reflecting the sunlight as various personnel move about its entrance. Rosalind approaches the building, a thoughtful expression on her face as she observes, remarking to herself that the building's grandeur is truly fitting for a global corporation. Her boot makes a soft thud as she steps forward, and she offers a warm, professional smile to someone just out of sight, greeting them with a cheerful, "Hello, how may I help you?" But her expression quickly shifts to one of wide-eyed surprise, her pleasant demeanor replaced by an unexpected shock. Still reeling from her surprise, Rosalind turns to him, asking if he is indeed Dr. Ryu, the one who created the facility. Meanwhile, a man with blonde hair enthusiastically praises Youngjun Ryu, exclaiming how amazing it is that the famous Science journal came to see him. Back in the lab, Rosalind and Youngjun Ryu stand before a large screen, observing the data displayed. He finds himself more captivated by this development than by his actual research. A thoughtful expression crosses Youngjun Ryu's face, his mind clearly elsewhere. He considers how scientists worldwide have now read his research, taking interest in both him and his work. Rosalind, too, recognizes the immense opportunity this presents, knowing they cannot afford to miss it. Youngjun Ryu's ambition solidifies, his ultimate goal now to become Agen's CEO. With a determined glint in his eye, he affirms that ascending to the top of Agen with science is both his first and last goal. A sleek black car pulls up to the imposing Agen building, and with a soft click, Youngjun Ryu steps out, ready for his crucial interview. His gaze is sharp, a quiet determination etched on his face. For this is Dr. Youngjun Ryu, the biologist, whose groundbreaking work has already garnered international acclaim. As he strides confidently into the building, a nearby observer gasps, wondering aloud if it truly is the renowned Dr. Ryu. Meanwhile, from the back seat of another vehicle, Rosalind watches him, a tablet clutched in her hands as she exclaims, "Oh my God, This genius could be my research partner. Even a reporter from a world-renowned science journal like herself is excited to witness the future Dr. Ryu will undoubtedly create. She muses, confident that Jin would never pass up the opportunity to secure such a brilliant mind. As he continues his walk, a determined expression on his face, Youngjun Ryu hopes this chance interview will be the stepping stone to achieving his ultimate goal. A soft vibration from his phone pulls Youngjun Ryu's attention, a new message appearing on the screen. It's from Premium Agent Song, thanking him for a stock price increase and inviting him to dinner, ending with a curious, "Ms. Song?" As the city lights begin to twinkle, painting the bustling streets in neon hues, the sky above shifts from twilight to a deep, starry expanse. A soft sound of surprise escapes Youngjun, while Rosalind, sitting across from him, lets out a gentle laugh. Her laughter echoes lightly, as a celebratory meal is laid out before them, with Rosalind offering congratulations to Dr. Ryu, who looks on in mild bewilderment. He flinches slightly as Rosalind's voice cuts through the celebratory atmosphere, her question direct and pointed. "You work for Jin, don't you?" A bead of sweat trickles down his temple as he struggles to respond, wondering how she could have possibly uncovered his secret. Rosalind, however, simply chuckles, explaining that his intentions were quite transparent, especially after he inquired about cellulose-based work, a niche only Jin would need. His thoughts drift to the past, recalling how everyone at Cellulogic initially celebrated Jin's defeat, only to later discover that Jin was developing its own cellulose, using Cellulogic's very own technology and traces. He feels a pang of guilt, remembering the public apology from Jin's CEO, a hollow gesture for what felt like a betrayal. Rosalind reassures him, sensing his discomfort, insisting that the fault lay with management, not him, though he still feels a lingering unease. The memory of the corporate espionage still stings, a fear that Jin will continue to pilfer Cellulogic's innovations in the future. He tries to articulate his complex feelings, but the words catch in his throat. Rosalind, finally realizing the gravity of her questions, apologizes for inadvertently dampening the mood, a sheepish expression crossing her face. He explains his goal to Rosalind, detailing how he must protect the probiotics from breaking down in the stomach, which is why he's been working on a new project. His voice carries a confident tone, as he states his goal is to find a groundbreaking technology that's more advanced than anything currently available. Rosalind, however, remains skeptical, asking why such advanced technology wouldn't already be working, then quickly adding that it's of course not a secret. A flicker of surprise crosses Youngjun Ryu's face, as he realizes she's referring to the one who shared his secret to save Bainim's life, muttering that it wasn't supposed to be a secret. Rosalind confirms her knowledge, assuring him that she knows him well, and that everything he shared was what he had been researching. He simply responds, "I see," before she encourages him, saying she's sure he can do it, and to run out great. The scene shifts, revealing a restroom sign, indicating a passage of time or a change of location. Later, Youngjun Ryu is seen with Operations Director Gwangmin-ji, who emphasizes that new technology is important, but new concepts and ideas are even more crucial. He reflects on his work, a slight furrow in his brow. If Cellogen represents a new concept, he muses, then it's a technology the world has never witnessed, a truly groundbreaking idea no one had conceived before. The vibrant, glowing particles of his probiotic research swirl, a testament to its unprecedented nature. Indeed, he affirms, it was something utterly unheard of. He continues to ponder the implications, if this product is to establish the standard for Cellogen's growth. His gaze sharpens with conviction. It was this very aspect that brought him a sense of purpose and satisfaction in his involvement. The glowing essence of the Cellogen pulses, representing its ultimate goal, but more importantly, it holds the potential to liberate mankind from Jin. A moment of quiet determination settles over him. Suddenly, a different thought intrudes, a voice echoing in his mind. Well, some people don't think that way. His head snaps back in surprise, a sharp, "What?" escaping him. He leans forward, his expression earnest, as Rosalind questions the suddenness of his words, asking what he means, and he clarifies that he has an idea for a probiotic product. Considering his proposal, she asks if he believes she can arrange a meeting with him and the head of Cellogen. A confident smile spreading across his face, he assures her, promising that even in just 1 year, they will be able to break free from Jin's evil grasp. 1 month passes, and Ryu Youngjun finally gathers all the clinical trial data he needs, thinking to himself, I've finally gathered all the clinical trial data in my hand. He arrives at a familiar door, the chime echoing as it slides open with a soft hiss. Stepping inside, he sheds his jacket, a thoughtful expression crossing his face as he enters the living space where his colleagues await. Gwangmin-ji, however, greets him with a sharp remark, exclaiming, "That TMI bastard's back." Rosalind, observing the scene, notes his busy schedule, confirming his return, and attributes it all to the funding they received. Gwangmin-ji, the operations director, looks over the documents on his desk, a thoughtful hum escaping him. He continues, stating that the clinical trials went successfully as progressed, according to the data. But Youngjun can only think, sure, but what about all the research and development that went into this technology? Gwangmin-ji then asks him directly, what brought him to the office? Youngjun replies that there's something he wanted to discuss before submitting the official report. He looks down, the truth weighing on him. The data doesn't truly represent the effort he put into developing the technology. All the research and development that went into this technology, but his thesis, detailing the differentiated stem cells and optic nerve treatment technology, is about to be published in a prestigious science journal. He realizes things are different now. Once the thesis is published, it won't just be the medical field paying attention, but many investors, including Guangman's shareholders, will show significant interest. But he knows that once that happens, the shareholders will immediately demand to receive the profits from the research. Still troubled by the implications of his success, he listens as Guangman asserts that Youngjun will be held responsible, a statement Youngjun acknowledges with a quiet, "I'm sure." Guangman then extends a hand, proposing, "What'll you do in return if I don't get what I want? Join hands with me." Youngjun remains silent, considering the offer. He finally responds, "What kind of a ridiculous thing is that?" Guangman dismisses his reaction as laughable, questioning, "Why would we join hands together? What happens there?" Youngjun's expression hardens as he states, "It's simple." He then lays out his terms. "I'll sell my share of the patent rights to the new stem cell technology for 1% of Agen's shares." The audacity of the proposal leaves Guangman speechless, his eyes widening in disbelief. Youngjun explains his vision, stating that once his thesis is complete, he'll be famous, demanding a seat on the board and branch facilities in his name, believing that by then, his technology will have transformed the industry. Guangman, however, asserts that Agen's stockholders would be the primary beneficiaries of the patent rights, and they would be happy. Youngjun then challenges him, asking if he truly expects to be the only one to profit from this entire process. A tense silence hangs in the air as Guangman clenches his fist, his frustration palpable. Youngjun calmly reiterates his offer of 4%, causing Guangman to scoff in disbelief. He continues, reminding Guangman that this is exactly the percentage of shares a director receives. Guangman, still reeling, questions if Youngjun truly believes they have that many shares for an employee like him. A confident smile plays on Youngjun's lips as he assures Guangman that he will. Guangman hand twitches, a clear sign of his internal struggle and the impact of Youngjun's audacious proposal. Still processing the audacious demand, Guangman questions if Youngjun's plan to take 4% of Agen's shares is truly an intent to manage the company. With an unwavering gaze, Youngjun simply confirms, "That's correct." Guangman reflects on his past misjudgment, having believed the young man only wanted to focus on research, not management. Meanwhile, Youngjun's thoughts drift to his past, when researching was everything to him, his entire world. He had been devoted to the life of a research scientist, only to realize that the corrupt management had been reaping the benefits of his hard work. Back in the present, Guangman frustration boils over, declaring he won't let Youngjun get away with this. He warns the young man it would be a grave mistake to sign his name on such a ridiculous demand, his voice tight with anger. His face contorted in fury, Guangman continues, suggesting that perhaps Youngjun should consider going overseas. He repeats the suggestion with a menacing tone. "Perhaps you should." Youngjun maintains his composed demeanor, explaining his unwavering stance. His gaze firm as he reiterates his intention to reclaim the shares. Meanwhile, Guangman frustration begins to visibly mount. When Youngjun calmly informs him of an unexpected development, reporters are waiting for an interview. The news sends Guangman into a furious outburst, demanding to know why this is happening. But Youngjun simply assures him that everything will be fine, provided he upholds his end of their agreement. The director's face contorts further in disbelief and rage. As he rails against Youngjun, feeling utterly betrayed after decades of service to the company. Unfazed, Youngjun promises to handle the press, his only condition being the immediate preparation of the waived shares. No one has ever been able to fluster him like this before. Guangman seethes, his hand clenching into a tight fist as he glares down, muttering Youngjun's name with venom. His teeth grind together, a raw sound of barely contained rage. Across from him, Youngjun maintains a serene, almost mocking expression, as if Guangman fury is merely an amusing spectacle. The calm in his eyes is unsettling. A document lies on the table, presumably the one detailing the shares, while the conversation continues about management skills and expectations. Rosalind watches, shocked, as Youngjun calmly explains that he is there to help people from being exploited and to fully achieve their potential. He clears his throat, his composure unwavering. Guangman listens, his face a mask of frustration, as Youngjun adds that with his medicine, he can cure all diseases. Guangman glares at Youngjun, a single thought burning in his mind. He perceives the younger man as a dangerous force, even as rose petals drift around him. The director fears Youngjun's unchecked ambition, believing he will stop at nothing to reach the pinnacle of power. Standing before him, Youngjun remains composed, while Rosalind observes the tense exchange, as Guangman grapples with the unsettling truth that despite his distrust, Youngjun might be the only one capable of achieving his grand claims. His paranoia spirals, imagining the younger man poisoning him with his own medicine, orchestrating a takeover by rendering him incapacitated. A desperate resolve hardens in Guangman eyes. knowing he must prevent this at all costs. A soft thud echoes through the quiet space as Operations Director Gwangmin-ji strides away from Youngjun and Rosalind. He reminds himself to stay clear-headed, refusing to let the situation corrupt his emotions. Besides, he muses, he doesn't believe he's truly backed into a corner. If he plays his cards right, he's confident he can turn things around to his favor. Thinking of Youngjun, he considers how he might use him to his advantage. And so, Gwangmin-ji, who had been trying to handle his own affairs, begins to research. Perhaps, he thinks, he can train him and use him as an ally, for there is no one in this world who would refuse to gain power. A calculating glint enters his eyes. He reflects on the recent encounter, a question forming in his mind. Was he truly something to be feared? Still pondering, he recalls the interview, wondering if it was a tactic to bind him to a promise. A stern expression crosses his face as he declares that a mistake has been made. Later, seated before a screen, he hears a voice address him respectfully. Turning to Youngjun, Gwangmin-ji warns him to be careful with his words at work, implying that he wouldn't want rumors to spread, leaving the younger man visibly startled. Gwangmin-ji clarifies his position, stating that he speaks not as a director, but as Youngjun's future successor, learning the ropes of the entire company. He then softens his tone, adding that he is speaking on a personal level. Operations Director Gwangmin-ji continues to ponder his strategy, his thoughts drifting. He considers the idea of bringing Youngjun to his side, turning him into an executive, but then dismisses it, muttering that it's not the right approach. He needs to try harder, he thinks, knowing that Youngjun can't handle their methods, that he would simply crumble under the pressure of their company, AG. Knowing his character, Youngjun would never be able to stomach the scandals of the capital, which means he's special, and precisely why he can't be included in management. Another voice, perhaps an internal one, questions his worry, suggesting a simple threat would suffice, to which Gwangmin-ji concedes, asking what they should do instead. He begins to outline his strategy, starting with a single word, first. He believes Youngjun lacks the capacity to become a threat, being too pure, or perhaps, as he corrects himself, too embarrassing to be a real danger. The plan is to crush his spirit for now, then raise his salary a little, ensuring he'll eventually comply if they talk to him enough. Gwangmin-ji taps his fingers together, a subtle gesture of his calculated resolve. He dismisses the thought, finding it a bad idea to consider Youngjun for an executive position, despite his capabilities. After all, Youngjun had managed to create artificial stem cells in just 3 months, and successfully completed clinical trials for nerve cells. It wasn't a question of his competence, but rather to whom he would ultimately grant the shares from such an accomplishment. Still, he was far too immature, wanting to trade a portion of his stem cell technology for ABIN company stocks, and the audacity to negotiate with shareholders, without even a proper plan. He muses, looking at a profile of Youngjun on his screen, that the chairman must have told his son about this today. Youngjun had removed himself from the scientific community through a ridiculous outlet, and they couldn't simply cancel it. He wasn't just some talented and confident kid from the neighborhood, there was more to him. Gwangmin-ji knew exactly what he needed to do, and how to achieve his goals. Gwangmin-ji cautions himself, knowing that dealing with Youngjun is like navigating a minefield. One wrong step, and his own plans could explode. A moment of contemplation passes over his face, as he considers the next move against the young man before him. He muses on the possibility of bringing Youngjun to their side, confident that victory is assured once they gain control. His thoughts drift to the future. But a crucial obstacle remains. Youngjun must not attend the board meeting, especially with the scandals he has unearthed. He considers the true depth of Youngjun's past, realizing some of his previous actions, particularly his departure from science, are far more damaging than any current scandal. The implications of such a revelation weigh heavily on his mind, as he plots his next move. Still consumed by his manipulative thoughts, Gwangmin-ji calmly tells Youngjun that he will personally speak with his father to resolve the matter. However, Youngjun, clearly agitated, demands that he stay out of his affairs, a frustrated sigh escaping him. The present moment fades, replaced by a memory of the past, where a pristine conference room stands empty, awaiting a pivotal moment. This was right before the article on Agene and its special features was published, a time when a younger Youngjun, Gwangmin-ji, and another colleague stood together, murmuring with anticipation. An emergency board meeting was about to commence, its outcome poised to reshape futures. A female director, addressing the room, noted the board's general acceptance of the proposal to grant Agene shares to Youngjun. However, a male director countered, expressing the widespread wariness regarding Youngjun's audacious demand for a seat on the board of directors. Young Gwangmin-ji listened intently, the murmurs of the other board members filling the room as the implications of Youngjun's ambition began to unfold. A single eye, wide with alarm, stares out from the darkness, a bead of sweat tracing a path down a furrowed brow, as if in disbelief. Meanwhile, in a stark, modern conference room, a group of executives sits around a polished table, their expressions unreadable as a tense silence hangs in the air. An older board member, his face etched with concern, addresses the room, while a younger Gwangmin-ji listens intently, his gaze fixed on the speaker. His hand gestures emphasize the gravity of the situation, a subtle escaping his lips as he considers the implications. Director Youngjun Kim, however, stands firm, asserting his position with a confident TSK and a clear statement that he currently holds over 50% of the company's total shares. He continues, explaining that he is trying to secure a position as a director, a move that the board finds highly problematic, given the immense power that comes with such a role. Kim emphasizes that despite his significant shareholding, he wouldn't get a vote in the board meeting without a director's seat, a point he makes with a decisive flap of his hand. His gaze sharpens, revealing his unwavering resolve as he declares, "Youngjun Kim, I knew this." The board members, including Gwangmin-ji, listen with growing apprehension as Kim concludes, acknowledging his ability but expressing uncertainty about letting him become a director. During a tense board meeting, a female director voices her strong disapproval, asserting that the individual in question prioritizes personal values over company profits. She questions the feasibility of conducting business with such a person, highlighting his profound lack of life experience for a director's board position. Acknowledging his inexperience in running a corporation, a younger Ryu Youngjun offers a compromise, suggesting he could be approached about a place on the board. Gwangmin-ji, however, vehemently opposes the idea, proposing instead that the individual merely exercise his rights as a major shareholder, but remain excluded from the board's decision-making process. Another board member listens intently, processing the heated discussion. Considering all aspects, a different voice agrees that the individual should indeed be given a director's seat, likely referencing his significant company shares. But Gwangmin-ji cuts in, his face contorted in frustration, asserting that they should never allow it. His conviction echoes, "Let him be a director." The scene shifts abruptly to the present, a science magazine cover prominently displayed. Ryu Youngjun holds the magazine, his gaze distant, perhaps reflecting on the past or contemplating his own future. A single word escapes him, his eyes wide with a sudden realization. Suddenly, he finds himself amidst a sea of scientific journals, a soft exclamation of surprise leaving his lips, as a colleague remarks on the sheer volume of his work displayed throughout the building, suggesting he might soon have his own fan club. He dismisses the notion with a light laugh. Even as a throng of admirers surrounds him, showering him with congratulations for his first-place win in a recent competition, eager for autographs. The memory shimmers around him, and he recalls how, despite receiving the highest award at the seminar, he still couldn't find sleep. What truly defines medicine? This fundamental concept that underpins our health. The answer lies deep within us, as the power of medicine is inherently included in everyone's genetic makeup. Currently, research is underway to discover the best way to realize the maximum potential of our genes. And the history of medicine is intrinsically linked to the history of healthcare, which has continuously worked to prevent illnesses from forming. Among these advancements, a key focus has emerged: probiotics. Within the AGEN Research and Development Conference Room, a pivotal meeting is underway. This introductory gathering focuses on a new probiotic product. The discussion begins, setting the stage for AGEN's next big venture. The Health Food Department, with its extensive expertise and dedicated team, possesses the capability to develop this innovative product. They have also been actively researching microbiota and probiotics in Korea, and based on this work, the Health Food Department aims to be the first to enter the global market. Economically speaking, the debut of Vector is one of their main priorities this year, explains Dr. Ryu. However, Operations Director Gwangmin-ji interjects, pointing out that Dr. Ryu is also responsible for the health food team's previous shortcomings. He questions if anyone truly distinguishes themselves with products already on the market, suggesting it would have been better if the marketing team had failed instead. Gwangmin-ji continues, noting that Yoonju Seo, the health food department's team leader, almost succeeded in developing microbiota and probiotic studies, even though everyone used the same ingredients. He knew it was crucial to develop a completely novel product, one that would surpass all others currently on the market. But was such a feat truly impossible, he wondered, as glowing particles drifted around him. Presenting his findings, Youngjun Ryu explained that the challenge lay in the sheer number of harmful microorganisms already residing within the body, acting as if they owned the place. A voice from the audience, belonging to Operations Director Gwangmin-ji, cut him off, asking, "I'm sorry to interrupt, Dr. Ryu, but are you suggesting we abandon our current research and start a completely new product?" Ryu responded calmly, explaining that theoretically, it was indeed possible to neutralize the harmful bacteria already present within the body. Kim Hyun-taek then stepped forward, elaborating that they wouldn't be using antibiotics, but rather a whole new type of bacteria. Youngjun Ryu, with a surprised expression, clarified, "What a whole new type?" "Well, I know it may be difficult to understand, but it's called Queen's microbiota. Until now, the focus of our research." Rosalind then took over the explanation, detailing that this specific type of bacteria was primarily found in volcanic soil, specifically in the deep sea around a volcanic island in Indonesia called Mt. Sibiak. She continued, emphasizing their very high viability, which would allow them to settle in and effectively eliminate other microorganisms. She continues, explaining that the bacteria possess beneficial traits, making them viable for use in various applications, even as a food ingredient. However, the operations director interjects, his skepticism clear as he asks, "What?" A slight ugh escapes her as she offers a polite apology. "Excuse me, sir." "Well." He presses further, questioning the validity of their claims, asking what information they have to support such a bold statement. But Youngjun Ryu confidently responds, "It's understandable it's hard to believe. We'll explain further." He elaborates, explaining that the bacteria were first identified in a thesis written by a student in college, and that he found the information from a trustworthy source, which led him to conduct further research and achieve success. Gwangmin-ji remains unconvinced, stating, "Even if it's from Youngjun Ryu, there was no real proof." Kim Hyun-taek steps in, asserting that they had to take action before the operations director could voice his opinion, because the year-end seminar was fast approaching. Youngjun Ryu adds that he was strategically conducting research despite the lack of official approval. A subtle, unsettling grin spreads across Gwangmin-ji's face. He makes it clear that failure would fall squarely on their shoulders, warning that he would personally take over the project if they faltered. Yet, a slight shake of his head accompanies his next words, dismissing any notion of absurdity. His tone then softens, assuring Youngjun Ryu that he has their complete trust. A more serious expression crosses his face as he admits to only later realizing the true extent of Youngjun Ryu's abilities, hinting at deeper, unshared thoughts. He stresses the project's unparalleled importance, declaring it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity they cannot afford to mishandle again. Then, his gaze sweeping over the team, he brings up the biotechnology company Cellular, which had recently approached them. Youngjun Ryu responds, admitting he cannot disclose all the details yet, but reveals he is developing a similar, new technology specifically for the Queen's microbiota project. Gwangmin-ji nods, acknowledging his understanding that Youngjun Ryu already possesses the necessary bacteria and has prepared the raw materials. With a final, decisive statement, he concludes the meeting, offering a polite thank you. Gwangmin-ji gives a satisfied nod, acknowledging the effort put into the project's preparation. He assures Youngjun Ryu, "I'll make sure you don't regret it." With a slight cough, he adds, "I'm counting on you," before turning away. Later, Rosalind whispers to Youngjun Ryu, asking if Dr. Ko will be alright. Youngjun Ryu recalls the health food department's apology and their compensation. Rosalind explains to a nearby woman that Dr. Ko was so upset he couldn't sleep for days, even threatening to quit his job. The woman laughs, learning that the settlement money she received was intended to fund Dr. Ko's first trip to Japan. She was so overjoyed by the news that she couldn't sleep for days, feeling unable to refuse his offer. Tears well in her eyes as she remembers asking him a few things about it after her breakup. He recalls an embarrassing moment, a young woman teasing him about someone having a crush on him. Rosalind, however, can hardly believe the situation. While he admits to himself that he had noticed the person looking at him strangely during a meeting, she then reminds him of his upcoming interview, prompting him to quickly depart, expressing his gratitude to everyone. As he walks, a thought crosses his mind. The article published in Science has led to a relentless stream of interview requests and phone calls. He lets out a weary sigh, contemplating the need to decline some of these requests unless absolutely necessary. The bright sunlight reflects off the sleek, modern facade of a towering building. This is the Cellular Biology Laboratory, a hub of scientific endeavor. Inside, Youngjun Ryu sits across from Rosalind in a comfortable lounge, a moment of quiet before the storm. He holds a copy of Science magazine, its pages rustling softly. Rosalind looks at him, her expression questioning, wondering what has captured his attention so completely. He explains the article, detailing an impressive discovery, the creation of optic nerve cells from dedifferentiated stem cells, and its successful animal testing. A sigh escapes him as he considers the implications, noting that he isn't the only one working for Borean. Turning to Rosalind, he seeks reassurance, asking if she understands that their CEO is completely free from AGAB's influence. He hums thoughtfully, processing her affirmative response. Youngjun Ryu turns to his colleague, asking for her assessment of the groundbreaking article. Rosalind, her expression thoughtful, wonders aloud if they can truly resolve the problems they currently face. She considers the implications, knowing that if someone were to exploit such research, they would likely do so without any ethical considerations. A memory surfaces of Kim Hyun-taek, who once confessed that while it was emotional, he had shared some of his research results to save a life. Youngjun Ryu acknowledges the sentiment, but insists that he values life more than anything else. The memory continues, with Kim Hyun-taek recalling a time when he had never felt such excruciating pain as when he lost colleagues to A-Jin. Rosalind, her gaze sharp, brings the conversation back to the present, questioning their ability to trust A-Jin. In the bustling, modern atrium of the corporate building, several figures move through the open space. As they walk, Director Kim expresses his surprise, wondering aloud about the new potions, having believed Dr. Ryu's lab was solely dedicated to biomedical research, while Rosalind admits her relief that they hadn't gone bankrupt. A silent frustration builds within him, as he questions how such a corporate giant could establish a new potion development team in a tiny lab. The unfairness of it all still angers him deeply. Standing together, the two wait. Suddenly, the door before them swings open with a sharp sound. Director Kim greets the newcomer, acknowledging his arrival. Youngjun steps into the room, his expression calm. With a small, glowing object held carefully in his hand, Youngjun introduces himself. "Hello, I'm Ryu Youngjun," he states, then begins to explain the new microcapsules, which are coated with a special polymer alginate. He elaborates that using this method allows the microorganisms to live longer and exhibit a different kind of activity, enabling them to preserve their function for an extended period. Rosalind, clearly impressed, admits, "Honestly, this is better than I expected." Youngjun nods, explaining that while their initial goal was simply to increase the preservation period, the test results have already yielded a far superior outcome from the very beginning. Director Kim acknowledges the breakthrough, stating, "I see," while Rosalind adds that it certainly looks better than they used to. Youngjun confirms that the microorganism preservation is indeed superior to the original method. Rosalind, her excitement growing, emphasizes, "Indeed, it's even better than the original. It's 8% higher now, and we expect it to increase even more." He listens intently as Rosalind explains the core challenge, that while the new method significantly improves preservation, there's still one crucial element missing. She elaborates, explaining that when alginate hydrogel capsules are injected into a human body, they dissolve due to the body's heat, leading to an ongoing reaction that compromises their integrity. This premature dissolution, she continues, causes the number of microorganisms to drop significantly, undermining the entire process. Director Kim considers her words, a thoughtful hum escaping him, as he processes the implications of this critical flaw. Then, a hopeful question forms on his lips, asking if she might have brought a sample of their solution with her, as Rosalind reaches into her lab coat, the fabric rustling softly. With a confident say, Rosalind pulls out a sleek, glowing device, declaring it to be their breakthrough. Youngjun watches, a quiet hum of anticipation escaping him, as the device's soft glow illuminates the scene. Director Kim takes the device with a decisive tack sound, his gaze fixed on the intricate technology. A clear ding signals its activation, and the screen instantly displays synchronization mode, rapidly detecting microorganisms with an estimated synchronization time of just 0.01 seconds. Youngjun holds the activated device, its screen displaying a list of microorganisms, Rhodobacterium lactis, Bifidobacterium, Lactobacillus, and Microbacterium. As the device processes, Rosalind's eyes glow with an intense blue light, her synchronization level increasing due to continuous usage. The system registers a level up, indicating a significant advancement. This enhancement means Rosalind's brain cells can now send and receive biosignals more effectively from the cerebral cortex. Consequently, she gains the ability to perceive the consciousness of others, while the consistency ratio of microorganisms within the microcapsule also shows a marked improvement. Kim, observing her intense focus, suggests she take a break, noting her prolonged work on the sample. Rosalind, however, dismisses his concern, giving her approval to proceed. Youngjun, holding the device, hears a soft thip as he continues to examine its readings. He realizes the microorganisms in the microcapsule are different than he initially thought, a surge of power coursing through him. He considers the time he spent on Rosalind's advice and the coding process. Realizing that if Rosalind is indeed inserting knowledge into the microorganisms, then they are effectively protected. A single second of information, he muses, can provide a wealth of insight, as he turns away from the display. A thoughtful hum escapes him, his gaze sharp with newfound understanding amidst the shimmering particles. Reaching for a tablet, he prepares to get advice, then meticulously places chitosan over the alginate to apply another layer of coating. With focused determination, he begins to prepare a 0.1% chitosan solution, which must then be filtered to remove unnecessary impurities, followed by the addition of 0.1 milliliter of calcium chloride, before proceeding with Cellurar's original production process. After meticulous work, a crucial step was added to the process, mixing the chitosan solution, sterilized with sodium alginate, into the microorganism culture. And then, a profound realization dawned upon him. He finally understood how to create a microorganism capable of protecting the human body. A gasp of disbelief turned into a joyous, almost manic laugh, the sheer magnitude of his discovery overwhelming him. The implications of his success were clear. This was truly amazing. Bursting from his lab, he declared his triumph, announcing to Rosalind that he had finally grasped the solution, leaving her to wonder what he meant. With a confident smile, he elaborated, explaining that he had figured out how to extract the protective capsules from the microorganisms, making mass production possible. Rosalind's eyes widened in astonishment, her expression a mix of shock and excitement at the implications of his words. Unable to contain her curiosity, she urgently demanded to know the details of his breakthrough. As they continued their conversation outside, he began to explain the intricate process, ready to share his groundbreaking method. His eye widens, reflecting the sheer magnitude of his discovery, an incredible breakthrough that sends his heart pounding. The implications are vast, not just for Rosalind, but for the countless questions he faces, and his heart continues to thump with anticipation. He realizes the system can now provide answers, offering a comprehensive solution to his complex problems. A moment of contemplation washes over him, as he pauses to consider the next step. A vibrant, glowing display of information materializes before him, detailing the improved version of Rosalind's microorganism and the Lordstone capsule, prompting him to wonder if he can delve deeper for more specifics. The system reveals that further information can be accessed by utilizing its Get Advice function. He quickly moves to a computer terminal, a soft chime indicating a new notification. The advice appears, directing him to consider the manner of expression for the microorganism's characteristics and how to convey them effectively. He processes the information, a new chime sounding as he considers the suggestion to overexpress the characteristics, such as cellular activity 92% or microbial activity 81%. He holds a small container of medicine, a familiar name on its label, yet he can't quite place why it feels so significant. It's a common diabetes medication designed to regulate blood sugar, and the memory of it still eludes him. Until a sudden realization hits him with a powerful thrum. The system reveals that since the overexpressed genes are now thoroughly mixed within the intestinal flora, they are expected to be 1,000 times more effective than the original mucinophila, a fact that sends another jolt through him. The improved expression of the Clostridium lumbatum genes is capable of treating all existing type 2 diabetic patients, a revelation that makes his eyes glow with intense focus, leaving him breathless from the sheer magnitude of the discovery. The digital interface pulses around him. A soft, ethereal light fills the space, as the sky outside shifts through hues of lavender and rose. The city's towering structures stand silent against the dawn. He stands by a window, lost in thought, as the system begins to explain the intricate dance of the human body, how, after a meal, rising blood sugar levels prompt the pancreas to release insulin. This vital hormone then works to absorb the excess sugar, meticulously regulating the body's internal balance. But when this delicate process falters, a disorder emerges, known simply as diabetes. The visual explanation shifts, depicting the pancreas as it secretes insulin, a crucial step in maintaining a stable blood sugar level. The system then highlights the distinction, asking him to observe the subtle differences in the cellular structures that characterize type 2 diabetes. It reveals the core issue. Insulin is released, but the body's receptors fail to respond, rendering the hormone ineffective. He stares intently, a bead of sweat tracing his temple, as the system clarifies the core issue. This is called insulin resistance. The true cause of this resistance, a mystery to modern science, has yet to be discovered, but thanks to the system, he's finally glimpsing the underlying truth, watching as his microorganism reacts to the unfolding biological process. A biomatter secreted by immunocytes, dubbed amoy, begins to attract and aggregate, drawing the microorganism's attention. And soon, these immunocytes start to actively block insulin, as glucagons lingering within the body attract even more amoy, pumping out additional substances. The proliferation of these blocking agents accelerates, leading to a state where the pancreas can no longer produce insulin. Naturally, he realizes, with this understanding, patients could finally be freed from the grip of type 2 diabetes. Within the Asian Health Food Department, Director Kim Hyun-taek inquires about the requested chloratonis limibutys, wondering when it will arrive. He confirms it should be there in about 5 days. Turning to Youngjun Ryu, he asks if he thinks he's being overly cautious, then asserts his authority, reminding him that their department handles the most microorganisms in all of Agen, as Youngjun Ryu swallows hard. Later, on a call, Director Kim discusses submitted research proposals for thousands of microorganisms, noting that the recipient is incredibly picky. He then mentions that once the bacteria are active, they'll need to manipulate the genes a little, leaving Youngjun Ryu to ponder the implications of manipulating genes. A bead of sweat trickles down his temple, his eye wide with a sudden, unsettling realization. What? Later, as the night deepened, the city lights twinkled outside the research facility. He had been scattering notes and papers across his desk, now starting to group them one by one, compiling information from the latest R&D meeting onto his laptop, specifically regarding Agen's health food. A faint smile touched his lips as he realized he needed to send these documents to Bei Siana, the patent lawyer. He pauses, a sudden realization dawning on him. Wait a minute, he muses, the stem cell research was wrapped up too. The experiment has been meticulously prepared, with all the necessary documents now ready for submission to the review agencies. A thoughtful expression crosses his face, as all they await are the final test results, which will ultimately determine the project's success. He feels a sense of completion, confident that he has everything he needs. The sky stretches wide above, leading to the imposing structure of Yuno Hospital. Nearby, the Urban's review agency bustles with activity, where Director Kim Hyun-taek can be seen among the passing crowd. Youngjun stands before the entrance to the clinical laboratory, ready for the next step. His thoughts drift to Soo-young, a name that carries the weight of the upcoming trial. Above, the sterile glow of the operating lamp illuminates the room, while the rhythmic beep of the Ford drip marks the passage of time. Soo-young Ryu lies still in the hospital bed, connected to the life-sustaining fluids. As medical personnel move with quiet efficiency in the background, a tray of gleaming surgical instruments awaits its purpose, and a hand clenches the blanket, a silent testament to the patient's apprehension. Youngjun, masked and focused, prepares to begin the first clinical trial for Soo-young Ryu, announcing, "We will now begin the stem cell clinical trial." As the clinical trial commenced, the medical team began injecting anesthetics into the patient. A soft clink echoed as the syringe delivered its contents, preparing her for the delicate procedure ahead. The needle found its mark with a soft shwook, and soon, the patient drifted into unconsciousness. Her face remained serene. As the effects of the anesthesia took hold, though a flicker of doubt crossed Dr. Ryu's mind. Perhaps, he thought, this was not as straightforward as it seemed. Usually, such procedures were routine, but a growing unease settled over him. His gaze fell upon the monitor, where the brain wave pressure was dropping with a steep curve, the exact opposite of what he had expected. Even for an experienced doctor like him, this was a rare case, a troubling anomaly in the carefully planned procedure. A deep concern etched onto his face. Youngjun reached out, taking the patient's hand in his own, silently reassuring himself that these healing stem cells were safe procedures, invented by the R&D team. Even though animal trials had reported harmful side effects, Rosalind explains, there aren't many other options left for the patient. A deep worry creases her brow, wondering why these complications are surfacing now. Meanwhile, the medical procedure continues, focusing on Soo-young's abdomen. Youngjun, Kim Hyun-taek, and Rosalind stand vigil by Soo-young's bedside. Youngjun asks if she is all right, as a monitor displays a significant drop in her brainwave pressure. Rosalind expresses her profound sympathy, recounting how Soo-young lost her parents at a young age and has since suffered from depression and degeneration. Adding to her complex medical history, a recent retinal hemorrhage has developed in her right eye. A bead of sweat trickles down his temple, his eye wide with a mixture of fear and disbelief, as Youngjun Ryu stares at the grim reality before him. He listens intently, the words echoing in his mind. It must be preserved for her husband too. The focus shifts to Soo-young, her left eye now covered by a patch. As the grim prognosis continues, the laser treatment failed, but there is another option. A hand gently reaches out to her, a silent gesture of comfort amidst the medical jargon. Kim Hyun-taek explains the complexities of the situation. It hasn't gone into a clinical trial to determine the side effect on the fetus, but Rosalind, ever the pragmatist, adds to the dire assessment. As of now, there is no effective medicine for retinal hemorrhage or glaucoma. Turning to Soo-young, Kim Hyun-taek then proposes a new, experimental path. How about trying a medicine called echinacea? Later, in a more private setting, Kim Hyun-taek and Rosalind continue their hushed discussion, weighing the implications of such a risky treatment. He stares, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple, the words echoing in his mind. It hasn't been long enough for the fetus. His body trembles uncontrollably, a desperate plea escaping his lips for Soo-young. The weight of the situation presses down on him, his hand shaking violently. He clenches his hands together, a silent struggle raging within. The impossible choice looms before him, a stark division between Soo-young's life and the life of the fetus. His face contorts in agony, the question tearing at his very soul. What should I choose? As his internal conflict intensifies, a faint purple glow emanates from his eye, spreading outwards. Tears stream down his face, mingling with the swirling, vibrant purple energy that now engulfs him. He recoils from the thought, the realization hitting him with a jolt. Wait, what am I thinking? Overwhelmed by the impossible choice, a guttural cry escapes him as the mysterious purple energy surges around his prone form, radiating an ominous glow. As the energy crackles, Rosalind rushes to his side, demanding to know what is wrong, while he can only stammer about the fetus, prompting her to ask if he is in pain. A choked sob escapes her lips, her body trembling as the purple aura seems to intensify around them both. Tears stream down her face as she condemns herself, believing she is a horrible person, the worst. He pulls her into a comforting embrace, assuring her that anyone would feel the same in such a situation, as her sobs continue to rack her body. Between their child and her own life, Rosalind struggles to articulate her anguish, but Youngjun quickly interjects, insisting it is not her fault, that it is all his. Rosalind, however, refutes him, declaring it is all his fault. The gentle jingle of a baby mobile fills the quiet room, its colorful hot air balloons swaying softly. And Rosalind stands over a crib, her gaze fixed on the sleeping infant within. A sudden realization seems to dawn on her. As the mobile continues its quiet dance, a single tear escapes, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor passing through her. Her hand, trembling slightly, clutches a small, square device. The scene fades into a soft gradient. A quiet moment passes, a deep breath taken before the memories flood back. She remembers a time, her hair a vibrant purple, standing close to a man who offered a comforting presence, a gentle hand on her shoulder as she carried a precious burden. Later, in the sterile glow of a laboratory, the same man watched her intently, her focus unwavering on the intricate work before her. But the memory quickly soured, her face contorting in anguish, tears streaming down her cheeks as the weight of it all became unbearable. Her hand, still clutching the small, square device, trembled with the force of her despair. A whispered apology escaped her lips, lost in the echoing chambers of her mind. Her purple hair framed a face etched with sorrow as she confessed that there was truly nothing else she could do. With glasses now perched on her nose, her gaze fell, lost in a silent, profound contemplation. A soft, pained sigh escaped her, a quiet acknowledgement of her inescapable reality. A memory flashes, a silent vow echoing through her mind. Now, never again. Her hand trembles, a vivid sensation of a past touch, the warmth of another's grip still lingering. Rosalind's face, framed by long purple braids, is etched with a profound sadness. She walks beside a man, her head bowed, a quiet hiccup escaping her lips. The memory shifts, a hand covering a face in despair, a silent sob tearing through the quiet. Tears stream down her face, another hiccup catching in her throat. The purple braids are now loose, framing her tear-streaked cheeks, as the sound of her own sorrow echoes. The darkness of the memory consumes her, leaving only the faint outline of her form. Then, a different scene. Rosalind, with her purple hair, stands before a whiteboard covered in complex equations, a man seated behind her, lost in thought. A persistent, unsettling drrrk sound echoes through the memory as a hand rests on a remote control. Still, the sound persists, even as Rosalind lies asleep in her bed, her purple hair fanned out around her. The dream holds her captive, her face serene despite the growing tension of the sound. Meanwhile, the unnamed man from her memory walks away, the drrrk sound following him like a shadow. The sound intensifies, filling the void of the dark memory. Suddenly, a violent impact rips through the scene, a BM, followed by frantic cries of emergency, and please make way, as Rosalind's leg is visibly injured. The drrrk sound continues its relentless beat, as the unnamed man carries a critically injured Rosalind, the urgent demand for an operation echoing around them. Now awake and in agony, Rosalind cries out, "No, please," her voice filled with a desperate UGH. Tears stream down her face, as she pleads, "Don't leave me now." The drrrk sound still a haunting backdrop to her despair. The persistent, rhythmic drrrk sound echoes as a hand reaches out, a desperate gesture in the midst of chaos. Meanwhile, Youngjun Ryu rushes through the facility, the urgent voice of a medical professional confirming the worst. "Doctor, it's an emergency. The myocardium is in critical condition." Behind him, Rosalind, injured and struggling, can only manage a weak plea. "Please wait here, Sir." But he cannot stop, his footfalls pounding against the floor, a blur of motion as he pushes past his limits. He bursts through a door, the urgency of the situation driving him relentlessly forward. His face is contorted with strain and fear, heavy breaths escaping him as he struggles to maintain his composure. Still gasping, he cries out a single name, "Soo-young," his voice filled with desperation. The scene shifts to the sterile glow of operating room lights, the rhythmic beep of medical equipment filling the tense silence. A surgeon, masked and gowned, works intently, the fate of a life hanging in the balance as the monitors continue their steady beep. The rhythmic, insistent beep of a medical monitor fills the sterile air, a constant reminder of the fragile life it tracks, as skilled hands work with precision, while in 4 drips steadily delivers its vital contents, a silent battle against the paranormal unfolding. Suddenly, Youngjun Ryu sits upright in a dimly lit room, his eyes still heavy with the lingering shadows of a dream, when a soft thud echoes, pulling him sharply back to reality. And he springs from the bed, the sudden movement jarring. He stands before a medical professional, who asks him directly if he is the husband. Without waiting for an answer, she continues, informing him that he has been chosen. A look of utter confusion crosses Youngjun Ryu's face as he questions, "My wife?" The medical professional then begins to explain the situation, mentioning something about her condition. She clarifies that his wife has no issues, but there's a significant but to her statement. Youngjun Ryu can only stare blankly, utterly bewildered by the unfolding conversation. The medical professional continues, her words seemingly lost on his stunned mind. He then finds himself looking into an incubator, where a tiny baby lies, a soft SSG sound accompanying the scene. The infant's small hand grasps his finger, medical tubes visible around its delicate form. A single word escapes his lips, a fragmented question that hints at a deeper, unsettling truth. Parano. A tiny infant, barely visible within the confines of an incubator, struggles for breath, each shallow gasp echoing the fragile hold on life. The scene shifts to the sterile environment of a neonatal intensive care center, where the air hangs heavy with the scent of antiseptic and the hum of life support machines. Youngjun stands beside Rosalind, both gazing intently at the tiny figure within the incubator, his expression etched with profound worry. Rosalind begins to explain the diagnosis, her voice calm as she states, "It's called chronic pulmonary hypertension." She continues, detailing the intensive care required. She's receiving all of her nutrients through the incubator. A tremor runs through Youngjun as he listens, the weight of her words pressing down on him. "We've been treating her across multiple departments with injections." Overwhelmed by the devastating news, Youngjun's eye glistens with unshed tears, a silent plea escaping his lips. Collapsing to the floor, he sobs uncontrollably, convinced that his hesitation is to blame for the tragedy. Kim Hyun-taek kneels beside him, gently trying to reassure Youngjun that he bears no fault. Despite the comforting words, the young man's face remains contorted in anguish. A hand rests firmly on his shoulder, a silent plea for him to find some peace. In the sterile hospital room, Kim Hyun-taek continues to hold the distraught Youngjun, offering what solace he can. As the scene fades to black, a desperate thought echoes in his mind. Please stop this dream.